Yu Hyun lay on the ground, gravely wounded. The cursed demonic spear had pierced his abdomen, and no potion or healing skill could mend such a wound. Only an elixir might stand a chance. Right then, Do-yoon and his crew showed up like they owned the place. Do-yoon looked at Yu Hyun and remarked that he could have defeated the enemy alone, even without Yu Hyun's interference. Yu Hyun chuckled weakly in response. When Do-yoon asked what was so amusing, Yu Hyun said it was exactly what he expected him to say. Yu Hyun looked at a nearby civilian, recalling how he'd fought tooth and nail to survive, even teamed up with the reckless Do-yoon. And here he was now, saving someone else only to end up dying himself. Gathering what little strength he had left, Yu Hyun asked Do-yoon if he had an elixir. Do-yoon confirmed he did. Yu Hyun then pointed out that Do-yoon wasn't planning to use it on him. Do-yoon didn't hesitate. That elixir was too precious to waste on Yu Hyun, who clearly didn't make the VIP list. Some sacrifices just weren't worth it. Hearing that, Yu Hyun's thoughts spiraled into despair. He cursed the twisted world around him. The higher beings of the heavens watched humans suffer for amusement. They created trials, gave out rewards, and found Do-yoon's cruelty entertaining. No one cared about someone like Yu Hyun. No gods, no humans. No one ever had. With his dying breath, he spat curses at the gods, the world, and that fucking useless piece of shit Do-yoon. Do-yoon then asked him a single question. Why did he intervene? All Yu Hyun ever did was gather intel and observe. So why now? Yu Hyun didn't sugarcoat it. He was fucking exhausted. Sick of playing survivor, sick of being life's punching bag, and really sick of pretending this shit was worth the effort. His tank was empty, and frankly, the world could rot for all he cared. Suddenly, a teller descended from the sky. These celestial intermediaries watched silently from above, guiding humanity down paths that led to ruin. They had long sold out humankind to the divine spirits. Yu Hyun caught the teller's grin. Of course the bastard was amused. Humanity's suffering was just prime-time entertainment for these dickheads. Ratings must be fantastic tonight. The teller addressed everyone, declaring that the next trial awaited and that the end was near. With a chilling calm, he urged them all to do their best. Yu Hyun shot Do-yoon a withering glare, the universal signal for him to take his dollar store Avengers and get the hell out. One of Do-yoon's companions grew angry, but Do-yoon brushed it off, telling her to ignore him. Still lying there, Yu Hyun asked why Do-yoon seemed sad about his death. He wondered if Do-yoon had suddenly changed his mind and planned to use the elixir on him. But Do-yoon said nothing. He simply turned and walked away with his team, leaving Yu Hyun behind. Yu Hyun watched them go. Pain surged through his body once again. He collapsed fully onto the ground, his breathing shallow and strained. In his final moments, a flood of thoughts filled his mind. He finally admitted it. He hadn't just missed the role of the world's protagonist, he didn't even land the lead in his own life. Just a background extra, forever stuck in someone else's highlight reel. Yet even now, as his life slipped away, a small hope burned inside him. If he could be given another chance, if he could erase his regrets, he would rise higher than anyone else. High enough that he wouldn't have to envy another soul, high enough to be proud of who he had become. And with that final hope in his heart, Yu Hyun closed his eyes. Moments later, he found himself in an unfamiliar space, drifting in confusion. His mind raced. Where was he? Was he still alive? That seemed impossible. He had been pierced by the cursed demonic spear. There was no way he could have survived. He opened his eyes slowly, only to realize his body had changed. He was no longer human. Instead, he had taken the form of a celestial creature, one of the Starbean types. Around him floated countless other beings that looked just like him. The scene overwhelmed him. Nothing made sense. Among them appeared a distinct figure, the teller. Unlike those who once witnessed the fall of humanity, this one looked different. The teller stepped forward and began to explain. They were all chosen to serve as tellers for the Celestial Body Inc. Their purpose now was to prove their capabilities. With no time for questions, the explanation ended abruptly. In an instant, all the Starbean-like creatures were sucked into a glowing portal, hurling them directly into open space. The teller's voice boomed again, like a game show host demanding contestants prove they weren't completely worthless. Yu Hyun flailed in the void like a drunk astronaut, because nothing says trust fall like being yeeted into space. Just then, a system window appeared in front of them. At the same time, a powerful energy called Genesis Blessing activated around their bodies. It allowed them to breathe in the vacuum of space. The system began outlining their first mission. Each of them was now a teller, a being whose role was to present stories to the divine spirits. To do so, they had to select a subject, set a goal, and form their first contract. Success would result in promotion as an official employee. Failure would mean death. The time limit, 1 hour. Yu Hyun stared at the message, shocked. A mission had been forced upon them with barely any warning, and if they failed, they would die. As he processed this, his eyes drifted downward. Earth appeared below, intact and undamaged. But that made no sense. Earth had been destroyed years ago. He had died with it. Now he was alive again, as a teller, and somehow he had traveled to the past. He didn't know how it was possible, but he pushed those thoughts aside. He needed to focus on the mission. If this was the past, it must be the time before Earth's destruction. A time when the collectors were still active. Even then, life on Earth was chaotic. Gates had appeared across the globe, unleashing monsters into the world. Collectors were the ones who hunted those monsters. Yu-hyun concluded that he had to choose one of the collectors who had not yet formed a contract. But something about this felt too easy. Collectors required contracts with tellers to receive divine sponsorship, which earned them points. These points were essential for growth and survival. So any rational collector would be desperate to form a contract. It was a perfect mutual relationship. Why did this mission seem so simple then? The system marked Yu-hyun's destination, Seoul, South Korea. He reached for the accept button on the screen. But with no fingers and tiny arms, he couldn't even touch the screen, like a helpless little potato. Just then, something strange happened to him. Meanwhile, the teller observed all the Starbian trainees from above, watching over them like a father. He noted how most of them hadn't even begun to grasp their situation. This round was starting to look just as dull as the last. But suddenly, something caught his eye. Yu-hyun had changed. His celestial body transformed into his real human form. Startled, Yu-hyun realized the change occurred the moment he wished for it. Without hesitation, he pressed the button on the screen. In an instant, his body vanished from the space. The other Starbeans were shocked by what they saw. They murmured among themselves, surprised that someone had changed appearance so quickly. Even the teller was stunned. Newborn tellers typically took 2 to 4 weeks to achieve that transformation, but Yu-hyun had done it in just 3 minutes. This mission, the teller thought, might turn out to be far more interesting than he had expected. The scene shifts to South Korea, deep within the heart of Seoul City, where Yu-hyun now arrives. He scans his surroundings and quickly recognizes the place. It was the Collector Association, a facility that had been reduced to ashes once the apocalypse began. But there was no time for emotions. He focused on the mission. Opening the system window, he analyzed the interface. Red dots indicated collectors already under contract. Blue dots represented those who were still unclaimed. He realized the mission wasn't just about forming any contract, it was about choosing the right person. A weak or untalented collector would fail to attract the Divine Spirit's attention, resulting in 0 points. Success hinged entirely on making the right choice. Suddenly, a security guard approached from behind, questioning Yu-hyun's presence and asking if he was a collector. Yu-hyun dismissed him, focused entirely on his search. The guard placed a hand on his shoulder and warned that only authorized personnel were allowed in the building, but before the situation could escalate further, the Genesis system activated. A sudden surge of energy jolted the guard back. Surprised, the guard realized Yu-hyun was a teller. With a quick apology, he admitted his mistake, saying he thought Yu-hyun was just a regular human. Without another word, the guard turned and fled the area. Yu-hyun stood silently, observing. That level of respect toward tellers confirmed it. He truly was, in the past. Continuing on, he navigated through the area, eyes fixed on the system window. It showed not only the positions of potential collectors, but also their names and ages. However, none of this data was helpful in determining their capabilities. He couldn't afford to interview every person one by one, there just wasn't enough time. Then something strange caught his eye. Floating just above people's heads were glowing books. No one else seemed to notice them. These weren't a part of the Genesis system. Realization struck him. This had to be his own exclusive skill. He checked the system clock. Time was running low, but he still had a little left. Acting quickly, he reached for one of the books hovering above a nearby man's head and pulled it toward himself. It worked. The book floated into his hands and he could read it. He began scanning the contents and was stunned. The information inside was extremely powerful, an ability that could completely shift the odds in his favor. Elsewhere, the teller watched Yu-hyun like a teacher monitoring that one kid who still hasn't started the exam. Everyone else had already sold their souls like responsible adults, but this idiot was still checking the contract for loopholes. The teller had high hopes, especially after Yu-hyun had transformed so quickly. But now, with only 1 minute remaining, his expectations began to fade. It looked like the mission was as good as over, regardless of how talented Yu-hyun might be. As Yu-hyun continued reading the mysterious book, a deeper understanding began to form. In the mixed world he now existed in, even abstract concepts could take physical form. Myths, legends, heroic tales, and horror stories. Everything once imagined could now manifest as reality. Physical and spiritual realms had fused together to create the fabric of this world. In such a place, even acquiring extraordinary abilities wasn't beyond the norm. The book not only revealed its subjects' powers but also detailed the lives they had lived. Yu-hyun wondered if there might be a book like this about him too, though he didn't expect one. Still, the thought left him slightly disheartened. He also noticed the books came in different colors and pondered their meaning. Upon observing more, he noticed that so far he had only seen bronze and silver books. But he was certain that gold ones existed too. The color represented the quality of a person's life, while the aura surrounding the book indicated their potential. Even if a book appeared bronze, a silver aura meant the person held untapped talent and could grow stronger. This ability to judge collectors before forming a contract gave him a massive advantage. With this realization, he devised a strategy. He would travel to areas filled with blue dots, uncontracted collectors, and search for the one with the highest potential. Without hesitation, he teleported away to begin his search. Moments later, Yu-hyun found himself lying on a road, frustrated. Despite visiting multiple locations, he hadn't found anyone worthy. Time was running out, yet he couldn't bring himself to settle for anything less. Not when he knew that somewhere out there, a golden book existed. He blamed the cooldown time on his teleportation blessing, which prevented him from moving as quickly as he needed. Just then, He stopped a passerby and asked for the current year. The woman answered, 2026. That confirmed it. He had arrived 5 years before the end. Now he had to recall who among the future greats had not yet risen during this period. Someone bound to make their debut in the next 6 months. 3 names surfaced in his mind, the miraculous 3. Bang Sung had hidden his identity too well, and with so little time, finding him would be impossible. Kwan Inbeom was still in the United States, making him equally hard to reach. That left only one option, Sword Empress, Kang Hyerim. Among the 3, she was undoubtedly the strongest. Yoo Hyun remembered an interview from the future that mentioned how she had stayed in the shadows during the early stages of her career. Without wasting another second, Yoo Hyun teleported once again. He reappeared inside a small room and looked around. It was a dormitory. He was surprised that someone like Kang Hyerim was living in such a modest place. Seated ahead was a young woman. Yoo Hyun addressed her directly, calling out her name. Startled, the baddie Kang Hyerim turned with wide eyes, looking like her private show had been gatecrashed. She wasn't sure if he was a stalker or just dumb lucky. Her first instinct wasn't fear, it was fury with a hint of scandal. She threatened to call the police if he didn't leave immediately, but Yoo Hyun wasn't paying attention to her panic. His eyes were locked onto the glowing golden book floating above her head. He had found it. Yoo Hyun looked at her and confirmed her identity. She was indeed Collector Kang Hyerim. Startled, she admitted it, still unsure of who he was. Yoo Hyun calmly introduced himself as a teller from Celestial Body Inc., assigned to Earth. His purpose was clear, he had come to form a contract with her. Hyerim's eyes lit up with excitement. She could hardly believe someone had come specifically to make a contract with her. At the same time, Yoo Hyun questioned internally whether he had chosen the right person. Still, he reassured her, affirming his decision to form the contract. Hyerim hesitated, admitting her abilities were poor and that she couldn't even fight. She explained how everyone around her had always said so. It was the reason she had given up becoming a collector and had started preparing for a civil service exam instead. Yoo Hyun realized why she was living in such modest conditions. She hadn't awakened to her own talents yet. He assured her that those negative opinions came from people who didn't understand the true value of her ability. When she asked if he truly believed that, he answered with firm confidence. As a teller, someone who shaped stories for the divine spirits, his judgment carried weight. He told her that her potential would soon unfold. She simply needed to sign. Encouraged, Hyerim agreed to become a collector. Yoo Hyun confirmed that she was more than qualified. As she looked around for a pen, Yoo Hyun handed her one. She signed the contract, completing the process just in time. With the mission complete, a system window appeared, informing Yoo Hyun that he would be promoted to full-time employee as a reward. A wave of satisfaction washed over him. He remembered the vow he made before dying, to live a life without regrets. He turned to Hyerim and expressed his excitement about working together. She smiled brightly and said she would do her best. Reflecting on her future persona, the Sword Empress, Yoo Hyun recalled how noble she had once seemed. There were even rumors she came from a wealthy family. But in reality, she was so different from the image. He reached up and retrieved the golden book floating above her head. Opening it, he began reading but quickly froze in surprise. The book revealed 3 main character specializations. One of them even held the story of Chuk Jung-hyun. These were talents ranked among the highest, yet 2 of them remained dormant. If she awakened all 3, the results would be astonishing. Yoo Hyun asked her if she was aware of her talents. Hyerim responded shyly. She believed her talents were weak, explaining that during basic training, they had been advised not to share that kind of information, but now, they were in a contractual relationship. She finally told him her talent's name, Goryeo-era Swordmaster. She assumed it sounded ridiculous. Yoo Hyun was stunned. A talent of that caliber was highly coveted, yet she thought it was meaningless. He asked if she had told anyone else about her talents. She confirmed she hadn't. People usually never asked, and she had always felt embarrassed. Worried, she asked if he was disappointed by her weird talent. She feared he might back out, which would leave her without support. But Yoo Hyun assured her he wasn't disappointed at all. Just then, a new system window appeared. Yoo Hyun informed her he had to step out briefly. She asked how long he'd be gone, and he admitted he wasn't sure, but it wouldn't be quick. Before leaving, he asked what kind of equipment she used. Hyerim said she used a shield. Yoo Hyun was surprised. Instead of a weapon? She explained that even though she had no combat-related talents, her physical strength was unusually high. That's why she chose to fight on the front lines with a shield. Yoo Hyun asked what she had used during basic training. Laughing, she told him she had used a spear back then. The trainers had recommended it for its long reach and safety. Yoo Hyun realized she had tried everything except the sword. He gave her a final instruction before leaving. She needed to exchange her shield for a sword and find an open space to practice sword swings. When she asked if that was all she needed to do, Yoo Hyun confirmed it. Soon, she would see the true worth of her Goryeo-era Swordmaster talent. With that, Yoo Hyun teleported away. Soon after, Hyerim returned, having exchanged her shield for a sword just as she was told. Holding the blade in her hands, she wondered if swinging it would actually help her learn to use it. She had never handled a sword before. As she began practicing, an unfamiliar sensation flowed through her. It was a strange but stirring feeling she hadn't experienced before. Encouraged by it, Hyerim continued her training, swinging the sword with increasing focus. Moments later, Yoo Hyun teleported back to her location. From a short distance, he observed her movements. Her form was steady and precise, even without formal instruction. It became clear that her title as the Sword Empress wasn't without reason. Noticing him nearby, Hiram stopped and asked when he had arrived. Yuhyun explained that he hadn't wanted to disturb her while she was so focused. As he spoke, a system window appeared before him. He glanced at it and saw a mission tied to a promotion. Curious, Hiram asked what he was doing. Yuhyun replied that he was considering creating a library. Hearing this, Hiram reacted with surprise. That was known to be the very first step for any teller. Yuhyun admitted that he had only just started working as one. This shocked Hiram. To her, he looked like a seasoned veteran. As Yuhyun began entering the name of the library into the system, he came across a list of existing ones. The bizarre and flashy names caught his attention. He wondered if such names were necessary to attract attention. Then he noticed one collector who had already begun writing their story. Intrigued, he decided to take a closer look. On his screen, he saw other collectors and the Divine Spirit's negative comments about them. This confirmed his belief. Choosing a strong collector was crucial. He decided to delay naming the library and focus on creating one first. Turning to Hiram, he asked if she was ready to swing her sword again. Together, they teleported away. They arrived at a different location, modeled after legends, myths, and stories. This was the entrance to the world of thoughts. Yuhyun explained that once a teller formed a contract with a collector, they wrote and displayed stories for the Divine Spirits. Their goal was to present these narratives through the actions of their collectors. He then posed a question to Hiram. Did she know what these stories truly represented? Hiram answered that it must be the life of the character. Yuhyun agreed partially, explaining that although every story was different, depending on the Divine Spirit's preferences, one genre always attracted the most attention: heroic tales. From now on, Hiram would become the protagonist of such a tale. Still unsure, Hiram asked if she was capable of living up to that. Yuhyun assured her that she could and promised to make it possible. He led her inside. The place they entered was the Cobalt Mines of the Anvar mountain range. He asked if she was familiar with the kobolds, to which she said she knew a bit. Yuhyun then tapped the Open Library button on his system screen. With that, his library was created, and he introduced himself as its owner. Looking around, Yuhyun recognized the same divine spirits who had previously left negative comments. He figured they had come out of curiosity. The system began displaying viewer comments. Their tone was mocking and eager for failure. Despite this, Yuhyun stayed composed. He informed Hiram that he would now head to the observer's room to present her story to the divine spirits. From this point forward, she would be fighting alone. Nervous, Hiram asked if she truly had to do it by herself. Yuhyun reassured her. All she needed to do was swing her sword, just like she had during training. Just then, a monster appeared on the scene, causing Hiram to freeze in fear. Her eyes widened and panic began to take hold. Yuhyun encouraged her to believe in herself, assuring her she could do it. But Hiram couldn't stop trembling. Fear overwhelmed her, and she turned to run. The monster lunged at her, and in the chaos, her foot slipped. She crashed to the ground, terrified, thinking she would die at this rate. Her mind screamed that she had to escape. In that moment, old memories resurfaced, mocking voices echoing in her head. People had laughed at her, ridiculing her as the one with nothing but brute strength. They questioned her talents, dismissed her as someone whose abilities were worthless. They had said a healer would be more useful, and that anyone unable to even form a contract with a teller might as well be a civilian. To them, she was better off attempting the civil servant's exam. Crushed by their words, Hiram found herself wondering if she could continue like this. She feared that if she ran again, she'd prove them right, that she was useless. And if that happened, she wouldn't be able to face Yuhyun. She decided it didn't matter what became of her. What mattered now was not running away. At that moment, Yuhyun shouted for her to dodge, but something inside Hiram shifted. Her expression hardened with resolve. Glaring at the monster, she stood her ground. Then, with focused strength, she raised her sword, blocked the incoming attack, and struck back. Her blade cut through the creature with a decisive slash, finishing it in a single motion. All the viewers, along with Yuhyun, watched in stunned silence. Hiram stood tall, sword in hand, as a powerful thought filled her mind. She would no longer be afraid. Yuhyun praised Hiram's technique, acknowledging her swordplay. As the monster's body faded, a glowing energy emerged and flowed into Hiram. Watching this, she felt proud of herself and acknowledged her success. Through the system, Yuhyun congratulated her, affirming his belief in her strength. But he reminded her, the battle wasn't over. This world held countless joys and she shouldn't stop here. He urged her to desire more, to be greedier. Hiram responded with determination, ready to keep going. As she fought more monsters, Hiram reminded herself that it was still too early to feel satisfied. The scene shifted to Celestial Body Inc., where Senior Associate Teller Towden had been keeping an eye on Yuhyun. He was stunned to see 15 viewers in under an hour. It didn't make sense, even with department support. To him, Yuhyun seemed like a newbie. The rapid viewer growth felt suspicious, like some dirty trick was involved. He decided to investigate. As Towden examined the footage, his focus locked onto Hiram. Her lack of protective gear and ordinary weapon confused him, yet her strength surpassed any collector he had seen, and she was growing stronger with every second. Yuhyun, observing Hiram, felt proud. She had adapted quickly to her abilities. He mentally addressed the divine spirits, boasting that this was only her first battle, and yet she was already this capable. he knew she had even more potential. Just then, Hiram called out to Yu Hyun. He responded and she pointed to the border ahead, recognizing that beyond it wasn't the farming area. Yu Hyun explained that the collectors had built that area to farm points safely. Hiram acknowledged it with understanding. On the other side, Taoden watched closely. He was impressed that she had already reached the border on her first try. Yu Hyun asked if she was disappointed. Hiram admitted she was, a little, since it felt like the end. But Yu Hyun clarified that it wasn't over yet. Since they had come this far, he encouraged her to go all the way and clear the entire mind realm. It was then revealed that mind realms could be erased from reality by clearing them. Once one was cleared, a new one would appear elsewhere. Because no one could predict the story without entering the realm, most avoided going inside. This led to suggestions to stop clearing existing mind realms altogether. Hiram asked if that was all right. Yu Hyun reassured her that if any problems came up, she could just say he made her do it. Besides, it was clear she didn't want to stop now. She admitted as much and agreed to follow through. Taoden watched in shock, trying to understand her intent. He couldn't believe she was really about to cross the border. With determination, Hiram dashed forward, leapt with her sword, and crossed the boundary. Her thoughts echoed a belief that a protagonist should never abandon their goals. This, to her, was the essence of being a hero. Taoden panicked. She had actually entered. To him, it was madness, since crossing that border was forbidden by the collectors. Meanwhile, Yu Hyun reflected silently. In Earth's past, stories had been full of adventure, but collectors had created boundaries in the mind realms and relied on safe farming to earn points. This stagnation bored the divine spirits, leading them to spark an apocalypse in search of excitement. Yu Hyun understood how this world ended, and he believed it had to change, not through outside interference, but through its own transformation. Yu Hyun approached Hiram and acknowledged her effort. They had already reached the deepest level of the mines. Hearing this, Hiram felt a surge of happiness. Yu Hyun then suggested she take a break, noticing her fatigue. Hiram agreed, admitting she was getting a bit tired. Observing her, Yu Hyun thought about how she had made it this far using her special traits' powers, but her body wasn't yet capable of handling the strain. He made a mental note to assign her some endurance training later. He asked how she felt using the sword, and Hiram responded enthusiastically, enjoying the experience. Yu Hyun then noticed the book above Hiram's head shining more brightly than before. Her progress today must have altered something fundamental. Turning to the next step, Yu Hyun reminded her about the kobolds that had fled earlier. Hiram confirmed she remembered. He explained that they were likely grouped together now, possibly under a leader. Their unified movements hinted at coordination. He offered her a choice to stop if she wanted. But Hiram wasn't going to quit now. She had come too far to turn back. She challenged Yu Hyun, knowing he wouldn't make her cross the border only to give up. He reassured her that he stood by his words and they agreed to proceed. Yu Hyun reflected silently. If she had hesitated even slightly, he would have tried to stop her. But there was no hesitation. Her determination was clear. He warned her of the danger ahead and proposed they set a clear goal. He asked if she understood how to clear a mind realm. Hiram confirmed she had learned. That made things easier for Yu Hyun. He explained that this mind realm's condition required a raid. The goal was to kill all the kobolds, especially their leader. Unlike other complex mind realms, this one was simple: defeat a specific monster to clear it. Hiram responded with excitement, ready to move forward. But Yu Hyun paused, suggesting she switch her weapon first. She was surprised and asked why. He explained that her current sword wouldn't survive the battle. For a free item, it had served her well. Worried, Hiram asked what she should do now. Yu Hyun reminded her that she had earned plenty of points along the way and mentioned he had picked out the best options for her. She asked if there was a discount, and he joked that he needed to earn a living too. With that, Hiram used all her TP points to purchase a new sword. Yu Hyun admired the new weapon, noting how modern it looked compared to the old one. Hiram, however, lamented her lost points. Yu Hyun reassured her she could earn them back and it was time to move. Soon, Hiram advanced to the area where the kobold leader and other monsters were gathered. Filled with frustration, she blamed them for breaking her previous sword. Without holding back, she leapt into action and began slaying the monsters one by one. Eventually, she reached their boss and ended the fight by slashing its throat. With that, her mission was complete. Later, the scene transitioned to a peaceful cafe where Hiram sat happily, enjoying a meal. She expressed her delight after tasting cake, amazed that something so delicious existed. Yu Hyun asked if it was really that good. Hiram confirmed with excitement, still stunned by the taste. She felt lucky to have earned enough points from clearing the kobold mines to enjoy such a reward. Yu Hyun found her reaction amusing, saying she could eat cake all day if she kept performing like this. Hiram lit up at the idea and asked if it was really possible. Yu Hyun explained that point usage was her decision, but any weight gain from non-stop cake would also be her responsibility. Hiram found the comment rude and shifted the topic. She reminded him that he had mentioned knowing about her special trait. She had learned a little while fighting, but wanted to know what exactly the Goryeo Age's swordmaster meant. Yu Hyun responded with a question of his own, asking if she had ever heard of Chuk Jong-kyung. The story then shifts to a legendary figure, Chuk Jong-kyung. Once a low-ranking military officer and civil servant, he climbed the castle walls occupied by the Yurchin tribe all on his own. Without backup, he eliminated thousands of surrounding enemies. He charged straight into tens of thousands more and cut them down without mercy. His unmatched feats earned him the title of the Goryeo-era Swordmaster, as he was believed to have surpassed the limits of a normal human. Hearing this tale, Hyerim was shocked. She hadn't known someone so incredible existed. In her eyes, his story was dramatic enough to be turned into a series. Yoo-hyun then mentioned that Chuk Jun-kyung had a friend with a strange name. Curious, Hyerim asked what it was, but Yoo-hyun refused to say it aloud. The more he resisted, the more curious she became. When he finally warned her to stop asking or else he'd report her for harassment, she was taken aback. Still intrigued, Hyerim decided to search it up herself. The moment she saw the name on her phone, she turned red with embarrassment. Flustered, she threw her phone at Yoo-hyun's face, shouting at him and accusing him of being the pervert instead. Yoo-hyun, equally confused, asked why she was blaming him. He explained that maybe the strange name was the reason the tale wasn't published widely, but that didn't diminish the hero's valor. He reassured her that her own talent was far greater than she imagined. Feeling encouraged, Hyerim asked if that meant her talent was truly something special. Yoo-hyun silently wondered if the future Sword Empress, Hyerim's future self, had been putting on an act all along. Without wasting time, Yoo-hyun grabbed her hand and said they needed to accelerate their plans. When Hyerim asked what he meant, he clarified that it was time to improve her public image. The scene shifted as Hyerim appeared in a new outfit, asking hesitantly if it was okay. Yoo-hyun reassured her. It looked good, and she should wear it with confidence. But before continuing with the mission, he reminded her of what he had told her earlier. Hyerim recalled his advice, not to laugh carelessly and to behave respectfully in front of the divine spirits. Looking around, Yoo-hyun noticed the crowd was larger than during the Chronicles of the Sword Empress. It seemed the news had spread. The divine spirits had never seen Kong Hyerim dressed neatly like this before. He reflected that if people were surveyed about the most important trait in a character, many would answer strength. But the second most important trait would bring mixed answers: leadership, survivability. For him, though, the answer was clear. Looks. Hyerim always had a good foundation, but she never truly styled herself until now. Yoo-hyun then turned to Hyerim and said that before she entered the Mind Realm, there was something important she needed to learn. He brought out the story he had mentioned earlier and asked if it was her first time seeing it up close. Hyerim confirmed that she had only heard of it before. He told her she would be seeing it more frequently now. Although her talents were strong, they wouldn't solve everything. She thanked him for the guidance. When asked how it felt, Hyerim described it as somewhat refreshing. Yoo-hyun considered that a good reaction. Most collectors struggled to even handle 2 of these. Curious, Hyerim asked whose points were used to buy it. But instead of answering, Yoo-hyun quickly changed the subject and started walking ahead. He said it was time to begin and that they should give the divine spirits a performance worth remembering. Yoo-hyun and Hyerim emerged from a portal into an unfamiliar barren land. Hyerim looked around, puzzled by the desolate surroundings. She noted the eerie stillness of the place, sensing it was an isolated location rarely visited. Yoo-hyun calmly revealed their destination. This was the Labyrinth of Crete, more specifically, the maze labyrinthos within the ruins of Knossos Palace. Despite multiple previous attempts, no one had ever succeeded in clearing it. Curious, Hyerim asked why. Yoo-hyun explained that no one had been able to determine the clear conditions, and the structure of the maze itself was extremely complex and difficult to navigate. Suddenly, Hyerim froze in shock at the sight of several corpses strewn across the ground. Yoo-hyun whispered for her to stay quiet. Judging by the level of decomposition, these were collectors who had entered recently and failed to survive. While assessing the situation, Yoo-hyun noted that the number of viewers watching their journey had already surpassed 100, some even being tellers. He realized these spectators were likely trying to steal the ideas of someone who had gained sudden popularity. Still, he welcomed their attention. After all, today's objective was to convert casual viewers into regular followers. He handed Hyerim a spool of thread. Drawing from the myth of Theseus, he told her to use it if she got lost in the maze. Then, without waiting for a response, Yoo-hyun teleported away, leaving her at the labyrinth's entrance. Through the system, Yoo-hyun reminded her to advance without looking back, treating this challenge as if it were a minor obstacle. Hyerim acknowledged his words and began moving forward without hesitation. As she advanced deeper, Yoo-hyun observed from afar. He was impressed by her composure. Despite the grim surroundings and the corpses, Hyerim remained calm. She didn't even seem to realize how much stronger her mental resilience was compared to the average collector. Suddenly, a blinding light flared up in front of her. A monstrous figure appeared and charged toward her with a deafening roar. Without flinching, Hyerim raised her sword and struck the beast with a clean slash, shouting a bold remark about turning it into cowhead soup for dinner. Startled, Yoo-hyun muttered to himself, disapproving of her corny line, though unable to hide his surprise at her guts. The monster continued to attack, and Hyerim engaged it fiercely. Yoo-hyun observed closely and warned her that this beast, the Minotaurus, was far tougher than any kobold she had faced. Its skin was thick and resilient, making it difficult to injure. Defeating it would require wearing it down with repeated attacks and delivering a decisive final blow. He called out to her, asking if she was listening. But what he saw next left him speechless. Hyerim showed no sign of retreating. Instead, she pressed forward with determination. In that moment, he realized she had already awakened her sword aura. It was explained that sword chi, also called sword aura, is a skill available only to those who have reached a certain threshold. This ability allows a user to imbue their own chi into a weapon, wielding it with greater power. Most characters don't develop sword chi naturally and instead acquire it as the story progresses. However, Kang Hyerim had managed to develop this skill entirely on her own. With this newfound power, Hyerim delivered a powerful slash to the monster, instantly defeating it. The viewers were thoroughly impressed. Their excitement showed through as they began donating TP points to Hyerim. Yuhyun noted that he hadn't even had to intervene, yet the number of subscribed spirits had doubled. Their growth was accelerating at an incredible pace. Suddenly, Hyerim sensed something unusual. She realized that although she had defeated the elusive being, she still hadn't cleared the mind realm. Yuhyun clarified that the mind realm was not over yet. He explained that many wondered why the labyrinth still stood intact despite the elusive being's defeat. The labyrinthos didn't end simply because the Minotaurus was taken down. He reflected that even in his past life, many had attempted to clear Minotaurus, but none succeeded. The reason was that they hadn't discovered the correct method to clear the labyrinth. One day, a scavenger managed to clear Labyrinthos, revealing the secret to Yuhyun as well. The way to clear this place was by escaping the labyrinth itself. Hyerim understood and concluded that all she had to do was follow the thread she had unraveled. Yuhyun confirmed this but warned that following the thread would lead her back to the entrance. Typically, labyrinth and maze exits were located far from the entrances. Curious, Hyerim asked where the exit was. Looking upward, Yuhyun pointed to the ceiling. He asked if she knew about Daedalus. Hyerim acknowledged she had heard he was the creator of the labyrinth. Yuhyun described Daedalus as a genius inventor responsible for designing this complex maze. The problem was that someone had managed to escape what was meant to be inescapable. Hyerim guessed that the escapee might have been Theseus. Yuhyun agreed and recounted how Daedalus had told Theseus about using a thread to navigate. In anger, King Minos had trapped Daedalus and his son Icarus in the maze, but Daedalus still found a way out. Yuhyun pointed out scattered feathers around the place as evidence. Excited, Hyerim gathered many of the feathers and threw them, declaring that she had enough. Suddenly, wings sprouted from her back. Yuhyun informed her that she had found a hidden piece and urged her not to stand dazed, but to proceed with what he had instructed earlier. The viewers responded with a flood of TP points, rewarding Hyerim's achievement. The system announced an unbelievable feat. Hyerim had cleared the mental realm all by herself. Hyerim returned to her room and asked Yuhyun what he thought. He replied that they looked great. Feeling happy, Hyerim declared that she was now a full-fledged collector. She added that considering the points earned this time, she was not the same as before. Yuhyun, irritated, told her to stop doing that. Hyerim teased him, saying not to be shy and claiming her looks even affected divine spirits. She accused him of pretending not to like her when he actually did. Yuhyun angrily warned her to stop unless she wanted to get hit. Yuhyun then asked if she had visited the association yet. Hyerim said not yet and wondered why he was asking. Yuhyun insisted it was time for her to update her class. He explained she couldn't remain in class 9 forever and needed to advance to higher classes to earn more money. Hearing the word money, Hyerim instantly became excited. She flew out through the window saying she would go right away. The scene shifted to inside the association, where two men noticed Hyerim and whispered to each other. One asked if the other remembered a collector like her. The second man remarked that she had an extraordinary aura, unlike any average collector, and that she was gorgeous. Yuhyun warned Hyerim not to show her wings off inside the place. Hyerim assured him she had no such thoughts. A man sitting nearby welcomed them and asked how he could help. Yuhyun noticed the man was nervous due to Hyerim's spirit and thought he knew that feeling from his last life. Yuhyun explained that they were there to claim the reward for clearing a mental realm. Hearing this, people nearby started whispering. They were surprised, saying they had heard 2 mental realms were recently conquered and doubted the person's ability. They thought such selfishness wouldn't last long despite the fame. The seated man asked if anyone else had accompanied them. Yuhyun said no, that Hyerim cleared it all by herself. The man then asked for her collector class. Yuhyun replied class 9. The man said he would call the person in charge and ask them to wait. They sat quietly, waiting, when a rude man approached and accused them of being scammers who lied their way in. He mocked Hyerim, calling her a joke for claiming to have cleared a mental realm, and demanded to know where she thought she was. Hyerim remained silent, which only angered the man more. He mocked the idea of a mere class 9 collector clearing a mental realm and asked if she was ignoring him. Yuhyun apologized on her behalf, stating she didn't want to talk to the rude man. The man then confronted Yuhyun, questioning who he was and accusing him of interfering between 2 collectors. Yuhyun said he preferred to be called her colleague rather than manager. The rude man accused Yuhyun of being a con artist too and warned him to leave the association or get beaten up. Yuhyun refused to back down, warning the man that Hyerim could be fierce and he should be careful. Enraged, the man charged at Yuhyun to hit him. At that moment, Hyerim stood up and grabbed the man's hand. The man told her to let go while he was being nice. Without hesitation, Hyerim angrily slammed the man to the ground. Yuhyun told the man that he had been warned to be careful. The jerk lay on the ground, stunned and confused. He clearly remembered reaching out his hand but couldn't believe he had been overpowered by such a small woman. Furious, he stood up and rushed toward Hyerim, aiming to punch her. But before he could strike, Hyerim threw him back to the floor and twisted his arm. Onlookers whispered in shock, noting he had lost again. They were surprised, wondering how someone ranked Class 7 could be defeated so easily even if he had let his guard down. Still seething, the man glanced at Yuhyun, suspecting he had orchestrated everything from the start. Fueled by rage, he pushed himself up with force. The crowd gasped, realizing he was serious about continuing the fight inside the association. Whispers spread, questioning if he had lost his mind. He shouted at Yuhyun, claiming he couldn't forgive him and threatening to wipe the smirk off his face. But before he could act further, Hyerim delivered a powerful kick to his back, silencing him instantly. Yuhyun watched closely, acknowledging that Hyerim had mastered the heavy-weighted body technique all on her own. He had chosen her because of her notorious title, the Sword Empress. But now she was exceeding even his expectations. Spectators nearby were stunned. Despite the man using aerial arts, he still couldn't rise. They began to wonder if Hyerim truly was just Class 9. Suddenly, a bodyguard arrived, demanding to know what was going on and reminding everyone that fighting inside the association was prohibited. He ordered the group to move aside and asked who was responsible for the commotion. Yuhyun observed the delay in their intervention and suspected that someone higher up had told them to wait for the right moment. Another man then arrived, asking what the fuss was about. He questioned whether they thought the association was a joke to be fighting inside. Yuhyun asked if he was the person in charge. The man confirmed it and asked who Yuhyun was. Yuhyun introduced himself as the colleague of the person involved in the incident. The man repeated his words in disbelief, and Yuhyun explained that there seemed to be a misunderstanding. He clarified that it wasn't a fight, but a slight conflict of opinion. The other person had acted out on his own, forcing Hyerim to respond in self-defense. The man asked if this entire scene was simply apprehension. Yuhyun confirmed it and pointed out that Hyerim didn't have a single injury. Her peaceful expression clearly showed she hadn't been in a real fight. They had merely restrained someone who caused a disturbance. Yuhyun added that if anything, the association should be thankful. Bystanders supported his statement, agreeing that it was the other man who started everything. The man in charge admitted his misunderstanding and offered an apology. Yuhyun then reminded him that Hyerim still needed to receive the reward for clearing the mind realm and asked when the person in charge would appear. The man revealed that he was that very person. He explained the delay was due to a backlog of work, but acknowledged the recent fight. He offered to attend to them separately and asked if they had time. Yuhyun agreed, telling Hyerim that it was enough for now. Internally, he noted that while Hyerim's debut as a collector had been nothing short of magnificent, the real journey was only just beginning. Yuhyun observed carefully, noting the silver light that had flowed from the bookbinding earlier. Though it wasn't gold, it was still impressive. His opponent wasn't easy. Judging from the situation, the man had initially tried to apply pressure. But when the outcome didn't favor him, he immediately changed his tone. This quick adaptability wasn't talent. It was the result of accumulated experience over time. The man then led them forward, and Yuhyun thought to himself that this man was truly like an old raccoon. Soon, they were seated together. The man introduced himself as Choi Jungmo and explained that although his role might seem minor, it carried significant responsibility within the association. Yuhyun and Hyerim introduced themselves in return. Jungmo acknowledged what he had heard, that the two of them had cleared the mind realm. Yuhyun corrected him, clarifying that it wasn't both of them, but Hyerim alone who had accomplished the feat. Surprised, Jungmo remarked that clearing it solo was even more unbelievable. Yuhyun confirmed that everyone thought the same until they witnessed her strength firsthand. Curious, Jungmo asked what exactly they wanted. Yuhyun responded bluntly, saying they only sought the rightful rewards for clearing the mind realm. He questioned whether the association even planned on giving them. Jungmo admitted that he wasn't solely responsible for approving such decisions. Yuhyun pointed out the contradiction. After all, Jungmo had brought them in as if he were in charge. Jungmo apologized, claiming it was the nature of how things worked. Yuhyun repeated his name and stated openly that he had suspected from the start that the association wouldn't reward them fairly. Jungmo, taken aback, questioned that claim. But Yuhyun urged him to stop hiding behind polite words. The truth was clear. They didn't want to give the rewards, and there was no point pretending otherwise. The narrative shifted, revealing the deeper reason behind the association's inaction. Without clearing existing mind realms, no new ones would form. The government preferred maintaining the status quo. Both the association and collectors accepted this setup. It allowed safe farming and minimized work for everyone. Jungmo admitted they had disrupted that fragile, unspoken agreement. Their actions had challenged the system itself. Yuhyun countered by pointing out the true purpose of the mind realm. It was meant to tell stories to the divine spirits and prove the worth of collectors. But current practices violated that core principle. Jungmo defended their stance, explaining that analyzing a new mind realm required significant manpower and money, along with the risk of deaths. So, by leaving the mind realm untouched, they were actually protecting lives. Yuhyun found the excuse impressive but hollow. Jungmo asked whether they'd take responsibility if others died due to their actions. Yuhyun dismissed that logic. As collectors, they were simply fulfilling their roles. Expecting them to take responsibility, especially without even receiving rewards, was absurd. Whether people lived or died depended on their fate and abilities. While tragic, those deaths didn't warrant personal responsibility. Jungmo snapped, shouting that human lives were at stake. Yu-hyun repeated his words mockingly. Inwardly, he found the sentiment laughable. He questioned how many lives had already been lost due to the association's inaction. He then addressed the core issue. While deaths during a mind realm clear were unfortunate, doing nothing out of fear solved nothing. That was why they acted. Current collectors had grown weak and complacent. They no longer challenged themselves for fear of failure. Jungmo asked if Yu-hyun truly believed he was different. Yu-hyun declared that, yes, they were. Unlike the rest, they didn't run or hold others back. Jungmo scoffed at the idea that they deserved rewards just for being different. He stated that nothing would change regardless of what they said. That was how society worked, and the system wouldn't bend. Yu-hyun responded coldly, realizing this was the game Jungmo intended to play. He warned him, asking if he wasn't afraid of the aftermath. Jungmo laughed, questioning what two individuals could possibly do alone. Yu-hyun repeated his words. Just the two of them? That might be how it looked. But the real question was, how would others respond? Jungmo asked who he meant by others. In that moment, countless system windows began to appear before him. Stunned, Jungmo stared in disbelief. Yu-hyun finally introduced himself. He was Kang Yu-hyun, the storyteller of Celestial Body Inc., and now Choi Jungmo had officially stepped into his library. Jungmo's thoughts raced. He had assumed Yu-hyun was merely a manager overseeing a collector, but now, his humble demeanor, his calculated care toward the collector, and his skilled negotiation revealed something else entirely. Unlike those arrogant tellers who mocked humans, this man stood far above them. Jungmo realized this wasn't a sudden reaction. Yu-hyun had been acting with the entire situation in mind from the beginning. There was no excuse that could undo what had already unfolded. If the association's image took a hit and rumors spread among the divine spirits, it could affect every collector affiliated with them. A solution had to be found. Something clean, something quick. Jungmo glanced at Yu-hyun. Yu-hyun offered a faint smile, and Jungmo's anxiety deepened. His entire body trembled under the pressure. Then Yu-hyun calmly praised Jungmo's sharp judgment. Internally, Yu-hyun had hoped Jungmo would have been more foolish. If he had acted stubbornly or disgracefully, Yu-hyun could have taken even more from him. But it seemed Jungmo had enough sense not to fall into that trap. Accepting the situation, Jungmo finally asked what Yu-hyun wanted. Yu-hyun reminded him that everything had already been explained. Jungmo responded, agreeing to provide a proper reward for clearing the mental realm. In addition, he offered an extra reward as an apology for his earlier behavior. Yu-hyun replied that such generosity wasn't necessary, but turning it down would be impolite. Addressing the divine spirits, he reasoned that just this once they could overlook the offense, given Jungmo's sincerity. As he read the system interface, Yu-hyun reflected. Even if 99 were satisfied, there could always be one who wasn't. Taste was subjective, but that didn't mean he'd allow that one dissenter to disrupt things, especially not when they were trying to shape the library's future atmosphere. In the end, everything had turned out reasonably well. Yu-hyun stood and reminded Jungmo to make the deposit by the end of the day. Jungmo agreed to handle it. Before leaving, Yu-hyun added that there was nothing strange in his request. He simply wanted Jungmo to locate someone. Curious, Jungmo asked who he was looking for. Yu-hyun gave the name, Choi Do-yoon. He wasn't sure if Do-yoon was officially a collector. All he knew was that the person would be around 18 or 19 years old, standing at approximately 184 centimeters tall, with a face handsome enough to rival a celebrity's. Yu-hyun admitted it begrudgingly, but emphasized that any leads would be appreciated. The information could be sent through the Genesis network. Jungmo inquired if there were any other identifying traits. After a moment of thought, Yu-hyun added one final detail. Do-yoon was incredibly rude. After stepping outside, Hyerim finally exhaled in relief, admitting that the tension had nearly killed her. Yu-hyun acknowledged how well she had held herself together. She explained that she had been desperate not to make a single mistake and had put on an act with all her might. Yu-hyun told her that since such situations would be frequent, it was better for her to get used to it. Hyerim asked if she could just act naturally instead. Yu-hyun reminded her of how everyone had been buzzing about her earlier. Her performance had worked perfectly, and people now saw her as charismatic and intelligent. Yu-hyun pointed out how amazing that impression was. He added that people were probably admiring her beauty and charm after her display. He urged her not to let the hype die down and to ride it to the end. He painted a picture of her becoming famous, surrounded by praise and wealth, enjoying life. Thinking about that future, Hyerim began to smile. Then she declared that since their work for the day was over, she would treat him. After all, she was now a rising star. Yu-hyun quickly shattered that idea, reminding her they still had other matters to deal with. When Hyerim asked what those matters were, he brushed it off as nothing serious. But at that moment, he sensed something unusual. Noticing the shift, Hyerim asked what was wrong. Yu-hyun said something urgent had come up. He assured her he'd be back soon and teleported away. Now airborne, Yu-hyun soared through the sky when someone suddenly appeared behind him. Turning around, he asked who the man was. The stranger scoffed, calling him an impolite brat, and wondered aloud what Argyle saw in Yu-hyun to personally summon him. He introduced himself as someone from the Pentagram Division, saying he had come to offer Yu-hyun the honor of joining. Yu-hyun, unamused, demanded once again to know his identity. The man introduced himself as Jin Pung, a senior member of the Pentagram Division. Yu-hyun calmly asked what business he had with him. Jin Pung was enraged by Yu-hyun's tone, calling him insolent and arrogant. He lashed out, offended by the way Yu-hyun addressed a senior. Yu-hyun responded without flinching, saying he did have a name, Kang Yu-hyun. Hearing that name, Jin Pung was stunned. It had taken him over 3 weeks to earn his name, yet Yu-hyun had received his immediately upon joining. Trying to regain control, Jin Pung declared that Yu-hyun's name didn't matter. All he had to do now was shut his mouth and join the Pentagram Division. Yu-hyun flatly refused. When Jin Pung pressed again, Yu-hyun repeated his answer even more clearly. Jin Pung exploded with anger, demanding if Yu-hyun even knew who he was. Yu-hyun confirmed he did. He accused Jin Pung of acting arrogant just because of a small amount of authority. He pointed out that Jin Pung wasn't even an assistant manager yet and still dared to flaunt his position. Jin Pung was left speechless, internally panicking at Yu-hyun's confidence. He wondered how this brat dared to act so bold and questioned if Yu-hyun had already joined another division. Yu-hyun calmly asked if Jin Pung was worried about that. He reassured him that he hadn't joined anywhere yet. Jin Pung, furious, demanded how Yu-hyun dared to talk that way to a senior. Yu-hyun fired back that if Jin Pung wanted to be treated like a senior, he should act like one. He reminded him that seniority in Celestial Body Inc. was based on performance and position, not empty titles. He accused Jin Pung of assuming he could bully a newcomer into submission. Jin Pung shouted again, asking if Yu-hyun even knew what division he belonged to. Yu-hyun, unfazed, told him to return to that so-called Great Division and inform them that he would never join as long as Jin Pung was a member. He instructed him to pass the same message to the teller who sent him. If they wanted him, they should send someone with real discernment, or better yet, come themselves. Infuriated and humiliated, Jin Pung teleported away without another word. Moments later, Yu-hyun returned to Hyerim. She was surprised by how quickly he came back. He confirmed he meant what he said. When she asked about the urgent matter, Yu-hyun told her it was time they hired a manager for her. Yu-hyun wandered through the area, scanning his surroundings while trying to recall a specific location. He believed that if his memory was accurate, it should be nearby. Soon, he stopped in front of a building and confirmed that he had found the place. Baekwa Management. Hyerim looked at the building and remarked that it seemed unimpressive compared to the others. She questioned whether this was truly the place Yu-hyun had in mind. Without hesitation, Yu-hyun confirmed that he was certain about it. He knocked on the gate, and a woman soon opened it, asking about their purpose. As Yu-hyun looked at her, a memory surfaced. One where the same woman was in danger, held by the neck, visibly distressed. This memory unsettled him, but he noticed she now had a different aura, even though her appearance remained the same. Once inside, the woman invited them to sit and introduced herself as Baek Suryeon, the CEO of Baekwa Management. She assumed they were there to join her company. Yu-hyun clarified that only one of them intended to join and gestured toward Hyerim. Suryeon side-eyed Hyerim, surprised that such a stylish, effortlessly cool collector actually wanted to join. Or maybe she just wandered in by accident while striking a pose. Meanwhile, Yu-hyun assured Hyerim that she didn't need to pretend or act here. Hyerim felt relieved, admitting how tired she had been today. Curious about Yu-hyun, Suryeon asked about his identity. In response, Yu-hyun challenged her to guess. She analyzed the situation and concluded that if he were a collector, he wouldn't have personally accompanied someone just to find a manager. She also ruled out him being from a clan or another management company. Instead, she speculated that he might be a teller. Yu-hyun wanted to facepalm. Choi Jung-mo, that clueless fuckwit, missed it completely while Suryeon saw right through him. Either she was scary good, or everyone else was just embarrassingly bad. She explained that although tellers might look ordinary at first glance, they carry a distinct aura that subtly sets them apart from the rest of the world. The narration briefly shifted focus to Suryeon's future. Though she currently ran a small management company, she would eventually rise to lead the Baekwa squad after the end began. In an era where power determined everything, her strategic mind, foresight, and charisma would elevate her to the position of captain, leading many through chaotic times. Back in the present, Yu-hyun confirmed her guess. He revealed his identity as Kang Yu-hyun, a teller from the Celestial Body Inc. Suryeon's face practically glowed like a kid who just found out McDonald's started serving alcohol. Holy shit, a collector and a teller had stumbled into her dumpster fire of an office? Either this was her lucky day or the universe was pranking her before pulling the rug. Probably both. Hyerim puffed up like a prize peacock, announcing Yu-hyun wasn't just any teller, he was extraordinary. Suryeon, intrigued, asked how the two of them had met. Instead of answering, Yu-hyun shifted the topic and asked if he could see the contract. Suryeon repeated the word in surprise, excited by the prospect. Yu-hyun confirmed his intent, suggesting they make a contract and proceed to discuss the terms. A short while later, Baek Suryeon was seen signing the contract, finalizing her official role. As they settled the paperwork, Hyerim curiously asked about a manager's usual responsibilities. Suryeon broke it down like she was explaining shit to a kindergarten class. Apparently, being a manager meant becoming some collector's personal slave, micromanaging their pathetic diets, wiping their asses schedule-wise, playing travel agent for their spoiled asses, and even whoring out their talents to the highest bidder. What a fucking joke. These so-called elites couldn't take a piss without an assistant holding the bottle. Hiram was surprised by the wide range of duties and asked if there were other employees to help. Suryan replied with a cheerful no, but assured them she could handle everything herself. She mentioned her past experience working for a well-known clan before starting this office. However, her tone shifted briefly to a more somber one as she admitted that she even intended to do the driving, but lacked the funds to purchase a vehicle after setting up the office. Yoo-hyun, intrigued, asked if she could drive. Suryan flexed her qualifications like a LinkedIn profile on steroids. First-class license, heavy vehicle permit, forklift certified, and welding skills. Basically auditioning to be the Mary Poppins of the supernatural world, practically perfect in every fucking way. Just trust her. She's basically the Swiss Army knife of mismanagement. If useless skills were currency, she'd be a fucking billionaire. Yoo-hyun reassured her there was no need to worry. He would personally handle the selection of mind realms, character recruitment, and scheduling matters. Since Hiram's name had yet to be officially recognized, Suryan's duties wouldn't begin immediately. Still eager to help, Suryan asked if there was anything she could do. Yoo-hyun replied that for now, there wasn't, but something would likely come up soon. As he considered Hiram's future growth, Yoo-hyun thought to himself that they would need to pursue something big very soon. When that moment arrived, Baek Suryan would be so occupied she wouldn't even have time to sleep or rest. He then told her they would get in touch when the right moment came. Suryan accepted that and wished them a safe journey back. Before leaving, Yoo-hyun asked her if she had a dream. This sparked a memory from his previous life. A quiet moment during the chaos where he had once asked her what she would do once the tribulation ended and the world returned to normal. She had replied that life hadn't been good even before the end. But if she had to think about what she wanted to do afterward, she had something in mind. Back in the present, Suryan smiled and said she just wanted to make a ton of money. Hearing this, Yoo-hyun smiled inwardly, recognizing her as the same Baek Suryan he had always known. As they walked away from Baekwa management, Yoo-hyun reflected on something quietly. There was a reason why Suryan had naturally gotten along with Hiram. Their chemistry felt too smooth to be mere coincidence. Hiram, sensing the same connection, voiced her thoughts. She remarked how it already felt like she and Suryan had known each other for years, despite just meeting. She wondered if they might have been best friends in a previous life. Yoo-hyun reassured her that it wasn't strange at all. Elsewhere, Jinpung was fuming with frustration. He couldn't believe that someone had told him, an elite member of Pentagram, to back off. He grumbled about the blatant lack of respect, vowing to get revenge on that arrogant guy. But he knew that man was protected by Genesis' blessing, which made things complicated. Still, he searched for a loophole and suddenly remembered something. A solution existed. An alternate path he could exploit. 1 week later, a large crowd had gathered at a specific location. Among them were Yoo-hyun and Hiram, standing amidst the buzz. Hiram glanced around, noting how many people had shown up. She questioned whether this mind realm was more dangerous than usual. Yoo-hyun confirmed it. This mind realm was different, far more unique and treacherous. It opened only once every 3 months, and once someone failed inside it, they could never enter again. It was a rare opportunity wrapped in high risk. Hiram asked why he had chosen such a perilous place for today's entry. Yoo-hyun reminded her of her purpose. She became a collector to succeed. He shared that his own goal was no different. Though he was a teller, he too desired success, craving a position higher than anyone else. He acknowledged that Hiram's goals might be personal and rooted in her desires, but emphasized that there was nothing wrong with that. However, he warned that weak or uncertain ambition only served as a shackle. If she truly wanted something, she would need the resolve to chase it, even if it meant enduring broken bones and torn flesh. He asked if she had the confidence to withstand that level of sacrifice. Just then, the mind realm began to open before them. Yoo-hyun turned to Hiram and told her that an answer wasn't required immediately, but eventually, she would have to give one. Not just for him, but for herself too. Inside his room, Yoo-hyun sat silently, watching a war unfold through his system interface. On the battlefield, soldiers shouted as they fought, determined to stop the enemy and punish the invading Ottomans. The chaotic images triggered memories from Yoo-hyun's past life, stirring emotions he had long buried. He remembered the vow he made. He wouldn't let the same tragedy happen again. About a week earlier, during a meeting with Celestial Body Inc., a senior teller warned Yoo-hyun about the upcoming ceremony. This entry ceremony would coincide with the invitation ceremony of the divine spirits. Yoo-hyun was taken aback, wondering if entry into such a sacred realm was even possible. The teller reassured him. Although several renowned divine spirits would be present, the ceremonies would be held in separate rooms, so there would be no direct encounter. Later, standing by the window, Yoo-hyun quietly observed the unfamiliar surroundings of Celestial Body Inc. As the most famous among the top 3 teller organizations, its grandeur surprised him. It was his first time there, and it felt overwhelming. Just then, a starbeam approached and questioned why Yoo-hyun wasn't enjoying the banquet like everyone else. Yoo-hyun studied the stranger, noting the horns, and found the man's presence strange. The starbeam, irritated, accused Yoo-hyun of acting superior because of his early transformation. He warned Yoo-hyun not to underestimate him and promised to catch up soon before walking off. As more people began arriving and heading toward the banquet, Yu-hyun quietly observed from a distance. He realized they weren't there just to enjoy the event. These guests were likely evaluating the first missions of new recruits, hoping to scout talent into their departments. This place had become a battleground, not of violence, but of fierce recruitment. Yu-hyun wanted no part in that chaos and planned to slip away unnoticed. Before he could leave, someone recognized him as the newcomer who had transformed right away. A few more followed, offering him a position in their finance department. Surrounded and overwhelmed, Yu-hyun looked for a way out. That's when he noticed someone standing quietly in the distance. He walked toward the person and greeted him, asking why he hadn't spoken up earlier. The man, seemingly distracted, apologized. Yu-hyun took the chance to lead him outside, using the moment as an escape from the crowd. Once outside, Yu-hyun thanked him for playing along. The sudden help had allowed him to escape unnoticed. But the man remained silent. Yu-hyun found the lack of response odd and started to walk away, thinking the man must be busy. Then came an unexpected question. The man admitted he had hidden himself using a disguise, ensuring no teller could see him. Yet Yu-hyun had spotted him. He wanted to know how. Startled, Yu-hyun turned around. His instincts warned him. This man was dangerous. When asked what he wanted, the man claimed it was mere curiosity. He had no intention to cause harm, at least, not yet. But he pressed again, demanding to know how Yu-hyun had seen him. Yu-hyun responded calmly. He hadn't seen the man directly, but had noticed a black book floating in the air. Focusing on the book had revealed the man. It was a unique ability. His sharp perception allowed him to see what others couldn't. He admitted to being unsure at first, but after confirming no one else had noticed the figure, he acted on that insight. The man seemed doubtful. Yu-hyun insisted on the truth, explaining that he was unlike other tellers. The man acknowledged the difference and accepted Yu-hyun's sudden approach. Then, with a faint smile, he suggested they make a bet. Yu-hyun asked what kind of bet. The man explained it simply. Yu-hyun had to guess his identity. If he guessed right, he would receive a fitting reward, but if he guessed wrong, then Yu-hyun would have to take responsibility for disrupting the man's entertainment. Yu-hyun could sense the man's confidence. He was certain Yu-hyun wouldn't guess his identity. But that was fine. All Yu-hyun needed was a glimpse at his book. Reaching out, he tried to open it, but the book didn't budge. No matter how much strength he applied, it remained sealed. Yu-hyun realized with growing unease that this man's power was overwhelming. The book was untouchable. In that moment, a past conversation with a teller echoed in his mind. In the mixed world, one couldn't act beyond their level. The power of the story itself restricted such attempts. Even among powerful beings, order was enforced. The teller had mentioned that renowned divine spirits would be present, but they wouldn't be in the same room as the new initiates. Yu-hyun began piecing things together. If the man before him had such overwhelming strength, could he be one of those divine spirits? His thoughts turned to the 5 greatest divine forces: Eden's heaven, Asgard's Eisensoidner, Hermopolis Ogdoad, Olympus Pantheon, and Pandemonium. These realms housed the highest-ranking entities of all stories. A suffocating, ominous energy surrounded him now. The book looked sinister. Then came the vision: a 3-headed snake that spread corruption, a red dragon engulfed in flames, and a fallen being who had once stood closest to the brightest light but now dwelled in the deepest darkness. The clues aligned perfectly. Yu-hyun looked at the man and named him. He was Pandemonium's first-generation divine spirit, Satan. The man let out a laugh. He confirmed Yu-hyun's answer and admitted he hadn't expected him to figure it out. The bet had been partly in jest, but Yu-hyun had still surprised him. When asked if he had truly been joking, Satan admitted it would have made more sense for Yu-hyun to punish him for sneaking into the ceremony. After all, he wasn't in a position to be the one issuing punishment. But Yu-hyun didn't believe a word of that. Satan was a being who always kept his promises. If Yu-hyun had lost, there surely would have been consequences. The lie was obvious. Satan acknowledged his loss and turned to fulfill his end of the deal. He recalled that Yu-hyun would soon create his own library to showcase a story. Confirming it, Yu-hyun nodded. Without hesitation, Satan made his offer. He would become the sponsor of Yu-hyun's library. Yu-hyun pondered Satan's offer. A sponsorship from such a high-ranking divine spirit was beyond anything he had expected. Even a mid-level 3rd-generation divine spirit would have been a rare blessing. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, an ultimate chance that might never return. Accepting it could change everything, but despite the temptation, doubts crept in. Was this truly the right path? After a moment's pause, Yu-hyun made his decision. He respectfully declined the offer. Satan, unfazed, asked for a reason. Yu-hyun explained that while the sponsorship would indeed benefit his library, it would come at a heavy cost. He would lose his freedom. The autonomy of his own library would no longer be his. In the worst-case scenario, even the divine spirits from Eden might turn hostile. Satan acknowledged his reasoning and reminded him that the benefits would still be considerable, but Yu-hyun stood firm. Pandemonium's divine spirits were indeed powerful, especially Satan, one of the 7 executives. It was an honor to be approached. Yet working with him would confine Yu-hyun to the limited scope of Pandemonium's world. Even the authority of the library would shift into Satan's hands. Yu-hyun believed in the limitless stories he could shape in the future. The path ahead was one he had to walk freely. So he refused the offer, confident that Satan, in his wisdom, would understand. Satan laughed. The thought that someone would dream bigger than pandemonium itself was amusing to him. Yuhyun tried to clarify, but Satan assured him it was a sincere compliment. He admitted that by sponsoring the library, he would have gained ownership of it, and in doing so, Yuhyun would have surrendered his potential. Instead, Yuhyun had chosen the difficult path over the easy one. It seemed foolish in Satan's eyes, but perhaps it was that very foolishness that had drawn his attention. He decided to end the conversation there, unwilling to force his will upon someone uninterested in the offer. When Yuhyun asked if that meant he was giving up, Satan admitted he wasn't sure. The rejection stirred a deeper greed within him, a desire to forcefully take what he couldn't have. But before acting on that impulse, he asked one last time if Yuhyun truly rejected the sponsorship. Yuhyun's answer remained the same. He wished to receive donations from divine spirits willingly, without binding deals. Satan found that ambition bold. Had any other teller said the same, he would have punished them for arrogance. But this situation was different. It would reflect poorly on him to walk away empty-handed. Since Yuhyun had won the bet, there had to be a reward. He couldn't offer it immediately, but promised to deliver a gift bearing his name soon. Their meeting had genuinely pleased him. With that, Satan vanished, leaving behind an eerie silence. Yuhyun looked back at his system interface. He wondered how much time had passed. The tellers might start looking for him. It was time to leave before they arrived. Yuhyun wandered into the library and admitted to himself that he had just come to a random place. It surprised him to find such a hidden spot within the workplace, and since no one seemed to be searching for him, he decided to kill time by reading. As he read, someone approached and commented on how rare it was for a guest to visit this place. Yuhyun looked up, startled, and was momentarily blinded by a strong light radiating from the stranger. Upon closer inspection, he noticed a massive, radiant book floating above the man's head. Yuhyun marveled at the size and brilliance of the book. He wondered just how valuable the story within it must be. The elder man questioned Yuhyun's presence, noting that very few people came to that part of the library. Yuhyun explained that he was a new worker, just beginning to write stories. Hearing this, the elder admitted his mistake. Yuhyun's composed appearance had made it difficult to tell that he was new. The elder expressed his surprise at meeting the much-talked-about newcomer himself. When Yuhyun asked about his reason for being there, the elder revealed that he was the manager of the place. Though he didn't work there officially, he had volunteered to take care of the area after retiring. The departments had long abandoned the place, and now he maintained it alone. Yuhyun couldn't help but wonder about the elder's past. Someone in possession of such a powerful book surely had a remarkable history. The elder then questioned if Yuhyun should be at the initiation ceremony. Yuhyun confirmed that attending the event was mandatory, but what one did afterward was their own choice. He had left early because people from different departments were pestering him to join them, so he ran away. The elder chuckled, recalling a similar experience from his youth. He asked whether Yuhyun had joined any department. Yuhyun confirmed that he hadn't and didn't plan to. Choosing a path without allegiance, the elder noted, was a brave decision. He asked if that didn't scare him. Yuhyun admitted it did, but said he still had a goal to pursue. The elder acknowledged this longing. He explained that tellers weren't born biologically but created. Though they were born with abilities, their purpose and desires were initially undefined. While the system or senior tellers could suggest a direction, following someone else's orders without personal desire was fundamentally flawed. Sadly, most tellers lacked this kind of longing. Rarely there were tellers like Yuhyun who weren't swayed by others and followed a clear path formed in their own hearts. Impressed, the elder invited Yuhyun to follow him, promising to show something interesting. Yuhyun walked behind him as the elder led him to a special place. This area stored stories that had left the greatest impact in the mixed world since the founding of Celestial Body Inc. It was known as the Hall of Fame. Yuhyun was struck with awe. These stories contained the lives and experiences of countless individuals. It felt incredible. Reaching the end of the hall, the elder shared something personal. 30 years ago, communication with this part of the library had been cut off completely. He brought Yuhyun here because he wanted someone to remember it. The place had been shoved into obscurity, and no one knew about the brilliant stories it once held. If he were to disappear from the world, it would sadden him to know that this place would be forgotten. He had chosen Yuhyun for a reason. He was the only one who had visited this old and shabby part of the library. The other tellers only cared about earning points and repeating familiar tales. The heartfelt stories of old were now seen as outdated, reduced to cliched products from a bygone era. But the elder still believed that a time would come when such stories would be needed again. Yuhyun thought back to his own past. If Choi Do-yoon had survived and passed the trials, perhaps he too would have earned a place in this Hall of Fame. It inspired Yuhyun to follow a similar path. He thanked the elder for giving him such a meaningful experience. At that moment, the system alerted him that the initiation ceremony would end in 10 seconds. Yuhyun turned to the elder and asked for his name. The elder smiled and said that if Yuhyun ever returned to visit, he would reveal it then. With those words, the system announced that the initiation ceremony had officially ended, and Yuhyun was teleported away. Hiram watched the battlefield unfold before her, visibly shaken by the chaos. Yuhyun reminded her to stay focused amidst the storm. She questioned if the place was truly a war zone. Yu-hyun confirmed it, explaining that this was the siege of Constantinople, the final war that marked the fall of the Eastern Roman Empire. Over 150,000 Ottoman troops had fought in this decisive battle, ending the medieval era and ushering in a new one. Learning that they were on the Roman Empire's side, defending the castle made Hyerim even more uneasy. Yu-hyun confirmed it, knowing the importance of this moment. In his previous life, Kang Hyerim had awakened her powers here for the first time, earning the title of Sword Empress. For the current Hyerim to unlock the rest of her potential, this event was crucial. Hyerim asked if Yu-hyun was truly seeing what she was seeing. He confirmed, observing everything clearly. She expressed doubt, wondering if they could even win. With so many collectors present, she had assumed things would be easier. But she realized how wrong she was. Yu-hyun clarified the scale of the challenge. Even 500 collectors wouldn't be enough. The defense force numbered only 7,000, while the attackers stood at 150,000. And that was just the frontline force. If the support troops were counted, their numbers would rise to nearly 300,000. Hyerim questioned whether they stood any chance at all, and why so many collectors had chosen to come here. Yu-hyun explained the reason. Over 2,000 divine spirits were currently watching the battlefield. It wasn't just about the library. It was a rare chance for everyone involved to demonstrate their strength before a massive divine audience. Even the divine spirits themselves benefited, gaining insight into collectors previously unknown to them. Yu-hyun was certain that divine spirits from other libraries were also observing Hyerim with interest. Hyerim realized that clearing the mind realm wasn't the actual goal. Everyone was here chasing their own opportunities. Yu-hyun understood it clearly. Tellers used such chances to promote their libraries to divine spirits from other systems, seeking to grow in reputation and influence. But failure had its cost. Those who couldn't prove their worth risked losing their divine spirits to rival libraries. Even so, he believed they should approach the challenge differently. They would aim to clear the mind realm, backing off only if it became too dangerous. But they still needed to show they were willing to fight. In his thoughts, Yu-hyun recalled that the original Sword Empress had failed to clear this battlefield. Though she had survived longer than anyone else, even she fell in the end. But now, the current Hyerim had caught up to that legendary status. That alone made it worth attempting. If there was even the slightest chance they could succeed, they had to take it. As the battlefield tension thickened, a man approached Hyerim offering an alliance. He proposed they team up to showcase their abilities and share the rewards. When she ignored him, his companion, a woman, scoffed at Hyerim's attitude, accusing her of arrogance for clearing a few mind realms alone. Dismissing her as disrespectful, the two walked off. Hyerim held back her frustration. She recognized their intentions weren't sincere, they only wanted to use her. Still, she stayed calm, for Yu-hyun's sake. Suddenly, the emperor appeared before them. Introducing himself as Konstantinos Dragasis Paleologos, the rightful emperor of Rome, he thanked the brave mercenaries gathered to protect their homeland. Hyerim instantly recognized him as an illusion crafted for this realm, yet his presence felt remarkably real. With preparations complete, the defenders and attackers raised their war cries. The enemy shouted for the Sultan, determined to end the war once and for all. The man and woman who previously approached Hyerim charged into battle, attacking the enemy forces. But the man quickly grew frustrated. None of the opponents were dropping any text rewards. Confused, he questioned whether this was the right place. His partner snapped back, urging him to cast another spell instead of complaining. Yu-hyun observed their struggle, slightly surprised. As the fight dragged on, the man asked when it would all end. The woman pointed out the waves of enemies pouring in, endless and unrelenting. Yu-hyun noticed how exhausted they had become from exerting themselves too early. In contrast, Hyerim still held strong. He wondered how the battles were progressing across other libraries. Suddenly, the system announced a transfer. He was being moved to the gathering hub for libraries. Upon arrival, Yu-hyun saw tellers from various libraries watching their clients fight. He checked on Hyerim's battle and found she had 512 viewers. He noted how confident she had become, but the tide of war was shifting. Fatigue was creeping in on all sides, and even Hyerim had slowed down. Though she still seemed stable, Yu-hyun feared that soon she too would be pushed to her limits. If she were ever cornered, he wondered what choice she would make. At that moment, a loud blast erupted behind Hyerim. Yu-hyun identified it immediately: the Orban cannon. Historically, the Ottoman Empire had used this weapon to destroy castle walls, and now it had been fired again. Chaos broke out among the defenders. Cries for reinforcements echoed across the walls. Soldiers rushed to block the opening and stop the enemy's advance. Panic spread. One man asked what they should do, fearing death was imminent. The emperor pleaded for support, appealing to the mercenaries. He asked them to help defend his people and homeland, his voice filled with desperation. Hyerim found renewed hope. She believed that if the collectors joined forces, they could push back the invaders and build a solid defense. But others around her began to falter. Some voiced their surrender, deciding to quit. Many admitted they never intended to risk their lives from the start. Hyerim tried to stop them, urging them not to abandon the defense. But one man snapped at her, dismissing the entire effort. To him, survival was the only goal. He accused her of being naive and unaware of the true nature of this place. According to him, all previous challengers had failed for a reason. The only strategy was to hold on for as long as possible, then run. Still, Hiram protested. She asked what would happen to the soldiers fighting to protect the realm, but the man coldly reminded her. They were all illusions. In anger, he grabbed her collar and shouted. The illusionary nature of the defenders made them meaningless to him. He refused to die for fake soldiers and pushed her aside, telling her to die alone if she wished. Hiram stood stunned. She couldn't believe how easily everyone had given up. Each collector had come here with personal goals, and this battlefield was meant to be the test of that resolve. Now, faced with fear, they were abandoning everything. She questioned herself, uncertain what she should do next. The Emperor stood silently, lost in thought, fully aware of the outcome. He knew all too well that the mercenaries would eventually retreat to their real world, leaving his people to perish. He had witnessed it countless times within this endless cycle of despair. Still, he couldn't stop fighting. Even in a world destined to fall, and even as a being created within an illusion, he refused to watch his people die without resistance. Bound by duty, he resolved to defy fate itself, no matter how many times he faced death. Suddenly, a warrior's shout pierced the air. The enemy's general had appeared, and the order was clear. Kill him and present his head to the Sultan. The Emperor looked toward the chaos and froze in shock. A thunderous impact shook the battlefield. When the dust cleared, the figure standing there was none other than Hiram. Soldiers around her recognized her as one of the earlier mercenaries. Some even questioned if she was Joan of Arc, awestruck by her sudden return. The Emperor, stunned by her presence, questioned why she hadn't fled. The war seemed beyond salvation. But Hiram stood firm. She didn't want to see him die in vain. The Emperor revealed a painful truth. All the other mercenaries had already run for their lives. She then asked if he remembered everything. He confirmed it, explaining that although he was created in this realm, he retained the memories. The real man behind his name likely lived centuries ago. What existed now was just a fragment of that legacy. But Hiram disagreed. To her, they were not illusions. They were living people. That belief had driven her to stay and offer help. It was the reason she remained on the battlefield while others escaped. The Emperor asked if she truly saw them as people. She responded without hesitation. A strange feeling stirred within him. It wasn't rage. It wasn't sorrow. It was something deeper, pure joy. For the first time in countless cycles, something ignited inside his heart, leaving him speechless. And with that warmth, he welcomed her belief, accepting it without question. The Emperor acknowledged her words with deep emotion. To him, the idea that their lives and the things they fought to protect held value and meaning was something he couldn't hate. He felt genuine gratitude for it. But before the moment could linger, enemies began rushing toward them, shouting to take advantage of the opening. The Emperor quickly called for time to be stalled. If they could establish a proper defensive formation, the enemies would struggle to break through. Hiram agreed without hesitation. With renewed determination, the Emperor commanded everyone to protect the front lines, their people, their nation, and their savior. Watching from afar, Yuhyun noticed a shift. Hiram's book had begun turning silver. She had finally caught up to her past self. The system revealed a growing interest, with the number of viewers reaching 800. The anticipation built as everyone waited to see her next move. Just as a warrior was about to strike Hiram, she acted first, cutting him down with her sword. Meanwhile, two tellers approached Yuhyun, mocking Hiram's struggle. They suggested giving up, claiming she had done enough and wouldn't last much longer. Yuhyun turned serious. He lashed out at them with cold fury. He reminded them that they had fled and had no right to mock her. Their cowardice didn't deserve rewards, and treating collectors as machines for points was despicable. He shut them down, telling them to stay quiet if they knew their place. Back on the battlefield, the last line of defense began to collapse. The soldiers looked toward Hiram, who still fought relentlessly. In her mind, she wrestled with fear and exhaustion. She questioned why she hadn't given up yet. Death meant the end. Shouldn't she flee? But deep down, she knew that if she ran, she would lose something precious within herself. At that moment, an enemy pierced her chest with a sword. But before she could fall, several soldiers rushed in to defend her and the Emperor. They cursed the invading Ottomans and engaged the enemy, trying to protect both of them. Hiram's thoughts turned inward. She had believed in their victory, proud of having done what others couldn't. That pride had made her believe everything would go her way. But now, she wasn't sure what to do next. As the fight continued, a wave of negative comments flooded in from the viewers. Hiram's actions were being criticized, and Yuhyun could only watch in shock. He felt helpless. There were too many viewers to control. If he didn't do something quickly, his library would collapse. He struggled to figure out a way forward. Then suddenly, everything fell silent. Yuhyun was stunned. The divine spirits who had been speaking non-stop had all gone quiet at once. The system delivered a chilling update. The one smiling from the darkest abyss was entering the library. Yuhyun realized with dread who it was. Satan had arrived and was amused, questioning why the atmosphere felt so tense. Yuhyun calmly responded, explaining that everyone was simply nervous. The divine spirits were stunned by his casual response. Yuhyun added that the arrival was a bit late. He had expected it to happen as soon as the library opened, but now, things were finally getting interesting. He was done waiting. With that, Yuhyun teleported into the mind realm, where Hyerim lay wounded. He approached her and told her it was all over. Bleeding and exhausted, Hyerim looked at him. He urged her to give up, warning that staying any longer would cost her life. He acknowledged her efforts and reminded her that some things were beyond control. But Hyerim refused. Her voice rose in defiance. She admitted to being stubborn, knowing there were unreachable goals in life despite the effort. Yet she couldn't bring herself to quit. She recalled how everyone had told her to abandon the path of a collector, labeling her hopeless. For a brief moment she had considered surrendering. But everything changed when Yuhyun had once told her she was talented, capable of things others couldn't do. That belief had given her strength. It helped her discover who she really was, and now she knew what she wanted. She was tired of running and had no desire to flee anymore. Yuhyun warned her again. She would die if she stayed. But she acknowledged that too. Even so, she was determined not to quit. She apologized for being foolish, for clinging to her willpower at such a critical moment. Just then, a warrior charged at them. Hyerim saw the threat and realized she couldn't move. Her body had reached its limit. She knew death was imminent and silently apologized. But Yuhyun quietly responded. It was good. Surprised, Hyerim turned toward him. At that moment, Yuhyun pressed the undo button in the system. The system responded that the Genesis blessing had been undone. Without hesitation, Yuhyun drew his sword and struck down the attacking warrior, saving Hyerim. Stunned, Hyerim watched in disbelief. Meanwhile, far away, Satan observed the entire scene and laughed. Yuhyun, deep in thought, reflected on a long-buried desire. It was late to admit, but he had always wanted to be the main character. Regret over the dreams his younger self couldn't fulfill. The hope his mother once nurtured in him. Everything twisted together over time. And all those tangled emotions ignited the moment Choi Do-yoon uttered a single sentence. Back then, Yuhyun believed he was worthless, so he gave up and lived in Do-yoon's shadow. But Hyerim was different. She never wavered. Even at the edge of death, she stood proud and unwavering. That alone made Yuhyun realize he couldn't just sit back anymore. Watching him charge into battle, Hyerim panicked. Without the blessing, he was exposed. If he died now, there would be no protection. But Yuhyun simply acted on instinct. He felt this was the right thing to do. Just like Hyerim, he too was resolved. With over 1,000 viewers watching, he believed it was the perfect stage for a nameless actor's debut. Moved by his resolve, Hyerim thanked him and entrusted him with what was left to do. Yuhyun launched into battle. While clashing swords, he opened his dimension shop. He recalled how tellers were merely spectators, always watching, never intervening. And many agreed that was the proper way. But Yuhyun chose a different path. He resolved to fight, using a method no teller had dared to use before. This was his way of stepping onto the stage. A soldier shouted that killing the witch would guarantee victory. Before he could act, Yuhyun appeared and slashed his throat. He wouldn't let them harm her. Yuhyun kept fighting relentlessly. Meanwhile, Hyerim watched with swelling gratitude. He had given her courage, reminded her she could still move forward. One of the soldiers yelled out in frustration. They couldn't understand why they couldn't break past just one man. Yuhyun responded with lethal precision, cutting down another soldier. He fought not for pride, but because he was strong. Hyerim, fueled by his resolve, vowed to keep fighting too. He had given up his blessing just to stand beside her. That meant everything. But Yuhyun was nearing his limit. His strength was draining fast, and he wondered how much longer he needed to endure. The enemies sensed this. They advanced, thinking his exhaustion had created an opening. One of them paused and shouted in confusion after spotting something unusual. Yuhyun turned and saw it too. Hyerim had fully awakened her body sword unison, along with the heavenly sword path. Her transformation lit up the battlefield like divine fire, ready to change the tide once again. The sight of Hyerim in her awakened form sent waves of fear through the enemy ranks. Soldiers who had charged in with confidence now stumbled back in panic. Without hesitation, Hyerim swung her sword toward them, releasing a violent blast that erupted across the battlefield. Witnessing the explosion, Yuhyun was stunned. He hadn't expected her strength to surge this far. The Emperor, watching the sudden shift, expressed his gratitude. Whatever had just happened had bought them precious time to slow the enemy's advance. But Yuhyun remained realistic. This counterattack was only a temporary fix. Once the enemy regrouped, their forces would crumble again. The Emperor agreed. Their troops were too few. The reality was grim. They simply didn't have the manpower to hold the front lines. Yet Yuhyun proposed a different path. This war wouldn't end like most battles. The only real solution was to kill the enemy's leader. That was the only chance at victory. The Emperor questioned whether such a feat was even possible. Yuhyun admitted it sounded impossible, but insisted it wasn't. With Hyerim fighting beside them, there was a real shot. The Ottomans had the numbers, but if they launched a targeted mission, they could end this. They would need at least 300 soldiers for the mission. He asked if the Emperor could manage it. The Emperor turned to his remaining men. Addressing them with deep sincerity, he acknowledged the immense debt he owed. They had given everything to protect their nation. He had once claimed that divine forces would ensure victory, but that illusion had faded. Now the burden rested on their shoulders alone. They were the last line of defense for the land and people they loved. This was not an order, it was a choice. Anyone unwilling could walk away freely, but if any were ready to stand with him, they were to step forward. Without hesitation, the soldiers gathered around him. Their silent answer spoke volumes. The emperor thanked them, moved by their unwavering loyalty. With resolve in the air, Yu-hyun called them all to move out. The scene shifted to the enemy camp. Emperor Mehmed noticed Dragasis's forces advancing again. Frustration flickered in his voice. Dragasis just wouldn't give up. But deep down, Mehmed sensed something had changed. The reinforcements should have fled by now. Why were they still holding ground? Suspicion crept into Mehmed's thoughts. Had more troops remained hidden? He demanded to know what Dragasis was planning. But before any answers came, Dragasis raised his voice, commanding his troops to charge. In response, the Ottomans unleashed a wave of arrows. Shields rose instinctively as Dragasis's soldiers pushed forward, bracing against the deadly barrage. Amid the chaos, Yu-hyun turned to Hiram, telling her not to look back. Everyone here had stepped forward knowing the risks. They were protecting their homeland and loved ones. They didn't need sympathy, they needed success. If she truly respected their sacrifice, then the only answer was to win, no matter what. Mounted on her horse, Hiram surged forward with determination. But just as the vanguard advanced, enemy forces ambushed from the rear, launching a sudden assault on the emperor's soldiers. Seeing this, Hiram's instinct pushed her to turn back and help. The soldiers, however, called out to her, assuring her they would handle the rear assault. She needed to keep moving. At that moment, another wave of enemies appeared ahead, directly in the path of the emperor and Hiram. Without hesitation, Hiram leapt off her horse, landing on the battlefield. Yu-hyun urged her to focus forward and keep running without looking back. Following his lead, both of them dashed ahead. The enemies realized their destination and called out that they were heading toward the Sultan. As enemy soldiers blocked their path, Hiram reacted swiftly, cutting them down with ease. With each strike, her mind repeated the mantra: faster, stronger, for survival and to protect others. They were now dangerously close to the Sultan. Yu-hyun understood there was no time left to waste cutting through the guards. If they didn't act now, the moment would be lost. Thinking fast, Yu-hyun offered his shield. The plan was simple: use the shield as a springboard. Gripping it firmly, he braced himself as Hiram stepped onto it and launched into the air. With Yu-hyun's push and full force, she soared skyward. Her wings unfurled mid-air, glowing with power. Seeing her rise, enemy archers prepared to strike, but before they could react, Hiram struck them down in swift succession with her sword, clearing the path in the sky. Her target lay straight ahead. The Sultan saw her cutting through the air, closing in fast. He recognized her instantly and muttered the name of his nemesis. But Hiram had no intention of slowing down. In a single motion, she launched her final attack straight at the Sultan. Hiram's blade sliced clean through the Sultan, cutting him into two. Shock rippled through the battlefield as everyone stared in disbelief. Then, lifting her sword toward the sky, Hiram stood tall. The silence broke as the soldiers erupted in celebration, cheering with joy. They had won, truly and undeniably. The emperor watched their jubilant faces, his heart finally at peace. This was the moment he had longed for, his people smiling with joy, not drowning in pain. Approaching Hiram and Yu-hyun, the emperor bowed deeply. He expressed his heartfelt gratitude, acknowledging that while they were beings created for this world, their kindness would never be forgotten. Yu-hyun responded, recognizing their emotions, joy and tears, as proof of true life. He urged them not to belittle themselves, saying that living people don't need to question their worth. A simple thank you, exchanged between proud beings, was more than enough. The emperor, moved, admitted he wished to reward them but felt that money could never truly reflect his gratitude. So instead, he chose to grant them the honor of knighthood. Yu-hyun was taken aback. When Hiram asked what was wrong, he explained the gravity of this gesture. In the traditional Roman Empire, knighthood held deep meaning, and in the mixed world, even more so. It wasn't just a title, it granted the powerful ability of storytelling, a rare gift impossible to obtain through points alone. With solemn reverence, the emperor declared their names and bestowed the title upon them in the name of Konstantinos Dragasis Paleologos. The system immediately acknowledged the change. Both had received the title, Distinguished Knight. Before disappearing, the emperor wished them a future filled with glory. One by one, he and the soldiers began to vanish until the battlefield stood still once more. Hiram, breathless with relief, remarked that they had truly done it. Yu-hyun agreed. Even though they had feared failure, they had succeeded. Suddenly, the system delivered another surprise. Their actions had drawn the attention of the beings from the upper realm. No one else from the lower realm had ever reached such a feat. They were awarded 10,000 TP and their names would now be honored across the mixed world. Hiram's face lit up with joy. Yu-hyun, looking at the path ahead, admitted he didn't know what the future would hold. But he was certain of one thing: they would face it together, side by side. Hiram smiled, knowing that was all that mattered. In Yoo-hyun's heart, a quiet resolution formed. Once dismissed by the world as worthless, he had once tried to fight against that judgment, but lacked the strength and gave up. He wouldn't let that happen again. This was the beginning of his first story. A story that would now shape the world. Inside Baekwa management, the scene opens with Suryeon handling a call. She politely informs the caller that scheduling an interview won't be feasible, as their calendar is completely booked. Observing this, Yoo-hyun notes just how busy she really is. After ending the call, Suryeon turns her attention to Yoo-hyun and questions whether he's truly planning to give up the blessing. Meanwhile, Hyerim lies peacefully asleep in Yoo-hyun's lap, smiling contentedly as she confirms it. This is how she can be close to him like this. Yoo-hyun warns her to move or risk getting flicked, while Suryeon expresses concern, pointing out how dangerous relinquishing the blessing might be. Yoo-hyun acknowledges the risk. In battle, he can no longer teleport or escape into a bystander's room. Still, since he's fighting alongside Hyerim, he considers himself more like a collector now. Hyerim adds that her bond with Yoo-hyun is stronger than anyone else's. Yoo-hyun responds by playfully knocking her on the head, reminding her to move. He then shifts focus to Suryeon, asking if she's alright, noticing how tired she looks. Suryeon admits the influx of calls is overwhelming, and she still can't believe that the two of them managed to clear the infamous mind realm on their own. Yoo-hyun agrees, it felt unbelievable to him too, but advises her not to accept every request that comes in. Suryeon assures him she's already been rejecting clan offers, but explains that it's harder to ignore calls from the media, especially since they've already received some commercial proposals. Yoo-hyun tells her to turn those down as well. Unless they're from major organizations, there's little value in accepting them. He then checks his system and reflects that several divine spirits have offered donations after the battle, something he should have restricted sooner. Now, managing too many subscribed spirits is becoming a problem. He realizes it's time to establish clear rules. Hyerim, however, points out that the divine spirits haven't caused any issues yet and seem to be keeping their distance. Yoo-hyun reveals the reason behind their silence. Summoning an apple-like object in his hand, he shows it to the others. Curious, Hyerim asks what it is. Suryeon immediately recognizes it as the fruit of life. Yoo-hyun confirms her guess. Suryeon explains that anyone supporting a collector must be knowledgeable in myths. Yoo-hyun received the fruit as a gift after the Battle of Constantinople. He reflects on how rare it is for such a sacred item to be given while other divine spirits were watching. Hyerim, still confused, asks why it's such a big deal. Suryeon scolds her lightly. It's one of the 2 legendary fruits mentioned in the Bible. Yoo-hyun elaborates that, while small, it's an item beyond value, not something one can buy even with 10 million gold. However, consuming it recklessly at his current low level would overload his body with vitality and cause it to explode. It's a gift he can't even use yet. Just then, a message appears in his system. Surprised, Yoo-hyun wonders how a message got through despite his blocks. The system announces that he who resembles the glittering light is requesting a private meeting. Realizing the importance of this, Yoo-hyun politely excuses himself from the room. Tapping the accept button, he teleports into a celestial realm, an exclusive space meant for private meetings with divine spirits. He marvels at the space, noting he had never entered it even in his past life. Suddenly, a voice from behind welcomes him. Startled, Yoo-hyun turns to face the speaker. Meanwhile, in another location, the scene shifts to Jinpung's room. Staring at his system screen, Jinpung seethes with frustration. He cannot understand how Yoo-hyun managed to clear Constantinople, a feat even he had failed. Yoo-hyun had given up his blessing, allied with a collector, and still survived. Jinpung's thoughts spiral into panic. If he can't suppress Yoo-hyun soon, the department will punish him. Desperate, he plots to block Yoo-hyun by force. Now that Yoo-hyun has relinquished his blessing, direct attacks become possible. Though he admits he can't defeat that collector girl, the changing situation opens new doors. As his anger boils over, Jinpung vows to make Yoo-hyun pay for abandoning the blessing so boldly. The story has changed, and he's determined to crush him. The scene continues in the divine realm as Archangel Saint Michael appears before Yoo-hyun, thanking him for responding to the sudden meeting request. Yoo-hyun, surprised by Eden's involvement, still maintains his composure and accepts the invitation respectfully. Michael gestures for him to take a seat and asks whether he's surprised. Though Yoo-hyun admits that anyone would be shocked to receive such attention from a figure as important as Michael, he keeps a calm demeanor. Michael acknowledges his composed nature and states the real reason behind this meeting, to verify circulating rumors. Yoo-hyun immediately assumes it's regarding Satan, knowing that Michael has always been Satan's ancient rival. He clarifies that it's all a misunderstanding and that he has no affiliation with Pandemonium. Michael finds that reassuring. Yoo-hyun, however, still finds it odd that Eden would show interest in his library. Michael explains that only foolish people are swayed by rumors. After doing a background check, Eden confirmed that Yoo-hyun has no real ties with Pandemonium. However, it is true that he is acquainted with Satan. Understanding the underlying question, Yoo-hyun explains that he first met Satan during the entrance ceremony. They only spoke briefly before parting ways. Michael questions whether the fruit of life was given just because of that. Yoo-hyun admits it might sound arrogant, but Satan seemed interested in him. He even had to struggle to turn down Satan's offer of sponsorship. Michael asks why he would decline something so crucial, given that sponsors are important for tellers. Yoo-hyun agrees that they are, but explains that personal goals can outweigh such advantages. For him, that goal took priority over Satan's sponsorship. Ironically, Satan liked him even more for being difficult to persuade. Michael nods, understanding the value of confirming rumors in person. With the doubts cleared, he shifts the topic, asking Yoo-hyun directly whether he'd be willing to be sponsored by Eden. As Yoo-hyun expected, this offer was inevitable. They hadn't sent just any angel but Michael himself, the being with the greatest divine force in the mixed world. The offer carried both influence and prestige. Despite all that, Yoo-hyun respectfully declines. Michael requests a reason. Yoo-hyun answers with the same reason he gave to Satan. Because of his goal, he does not intend to accept any sponsorship. He wishes for his library to remain neutral, unaffiliated with any faction. Michael interprets this as Yoo-hyun wishing to tell stories that include both good and evil. Yoo-hyun clarifies that it's not about drawing a line between good and evil, but rather about telling a story free from external influence. A story never told before. He accepts that this stance might appear arrogant. Still, if there are doubts, observers are free to watch his journey. After all, who wouldn't be curious about the direction and ending of the library of the teller who turned down Eden? Yoo-hyun reflects that while Michael may appear detached, as a divine spirit who seeks stories, he must be burning with inner curiosity. Michael finally asks if Yoo-hyun intends to walk a path that includes both Eden and Pandemonium. In response, Yoo-hyun simply offers a subtle smile. Understanding his resolve, Michael agrees to respect his decision. The story Yoo-hyun seeks to tell has piqued his interest. For that reason, Michael vows to observe it with his own eyes. As a token of appreciation for the private meeting, he insists on expressing gratitude. Michael explains that it would damage Eden's reputation to leave empty-handed after calling Yoo-hyun to such a meeting. To avoid that, and as a personal gesture, he presents Yoo-hyun with an egg-shaped item, offering it as a gift. As Yoo-hyun returns with the mysterious egg, Hyerim and Suhyun curiously observe it. They wonder aloud if he received it from a customer, impressed by its size and uncertain of what kind of creature it might contain. Yoo-hyun jokes about the possibility of a dragon emerging, imagining a cute one that would think of him as its owner and shower him with affection. However, deep down he knows it's unlikely to be a dragon. In Eden's eyes, dragons symbolize disgust and evil. Suddenly, the egg begins to crack. Hyerim, startled, notes that it's about to hatch. As the shell breaks open, an owl emerges from within. Both girls find the owl extremely adorable. The creature immediately flies up and perches on Yoo-hyun's head, prompting Hyerim to comment that the owl must not like her. Yoo-hyun explains that it's only natural for a newborn to be cautious. Suryun suggests the owl might be recognizing Yoo-hyun as its mother. Internally, Yoo-hyun analyzes the symbolism. While Satan is represented by a snake, owls are natural predators of snakes. He wonders if this is a subtle warning, that Eden will keep an eye on him if he strays. The owl even comes with a small booklet. Hyerim brings up the idea of naming the owl and jokingly suggests Ool or Uli. Yoo-hyun immediately rejects the name, clearly unimpressed. Suryun encourages him to choose a name himself, since he is the rightful owner. Taking the moment seriously, Yoo-hyun names the owl Baekyo. Meanwhile, at the entrance of a realm, a group of collectors is seen talking. A girl asks her companion if he managed to farm successfully. He replies that although it wasn't much, it was sufficient. The girl is about to start her own farming session when others in the area notice Hyerim and Yoo-hyun approaching. Among the collectors, it's revealed that Hyerim is notorious in these parts. Unlike other collectors who nurture the mind realms and harvest stories peacefully, she has a reputation for destroying every realm she enters. To them, she's like a demon, feared wherever she appears. Hyerim observes the large crowd and remarks on the number of people gathered. Yoo-hyun notes that the entrance is in the city center and that it's a popular spot for farming, which explains the high number of collectors. Seeing Hyerim arrive, many people begin to flee, referring to her as the farming spot breaker. Amused by their reactions, Hyerim admits that their fear only makes her want to clear the mind realm faster. Yoo-hyun notices that she has fully embraced her nickname. He then asks Hyerim to step aside with Baekyo, wanting to make an announcement before opening the library. As the library opens, Yoo-hyun is surprised to see over 2,000 people join instantly. He realizes that rumors about the library must have spread far and fast. He welcomes everyone to the story of the fighting teller and the Sword Empress. However, the crowd begins shouting at him to be quiet and to show the Sword Empress immediately. Yoo-hyun, frustrated, thinks back to how Satan, despite everything, would have been easier to deal with in moments like these. Trying to regain order, he announces the reason for opening the library earlier than usual. He expresses gratitude for the overwhelming support that led to the library's rapid growth, but also shares that managing it has become difficult. Therefore, he introduces a few new rules. First, no forming of cliques within the library. Second, no discussions involving other collectors or libraries to avoid unnecessary conflicts. Third, slander or hate speech against other factions will not be tolerated. Lastly, any over-the-top comments or demands through donations will be strictly handled. One viewer expresses disappointment and threatens to leave, saying the announcement is off-putting. Yoo-hyun calmly responds that they're free to do so. With a decisive action, he kicks the viewer, who happens to be a divine spirit, out of the library. Internally, he scoffs at those who think donations make them special. Suddenly, the system notifies him that the White King of the Sea of the Setting Sun has donated 1,000 TP. Yu-hyun is surprised by the large amount. Still, he reminds himself that rules exist for a reason. Making exceptions would render them meaningless. The system immediately follows up with another notification. The same donor has now contributed 10,000 TP. This infuriates Yu-hyun, who internally fumes at the audacity, glaring at the screen as the stubborn donor continues to test his patience. Yu-hyun, analyzing the recent donation, quickly connects the identity behind the name White King of the Sea of the Setting Sun. A being capable of donating such a massive amount of points could only be someone from the top hierarchy. He identifies the visitor as one of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas, specifically the Western White Dragon. This divine figure belongs to the 36 heavens of the heavenly realm, a major force among the great divine powers. Although Yu-hyun had anticipated that some high-ranking spirits would eventually come to his library, he didn't expect them to arrive so soon. Acknowledging the presence of such a powerful entity, Yu-hyun admits he was truly surprised to host one of the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas in his library. In response, the White King donates another 10,000 TP, urging Yu-hyun to ease up and act moderately. He mocks the idea that divine spirits frequently consult each other, implying such strict rules are unnecessary. Yu-hyun chuckles lightly but replies firmly, moderation isn't an option. The chat falls completely silent after his blunt refusal. The system then reveals that the White King has asked for clarification. Yu-hyun doesn't hold back. His answer is direct. His earlier response should have been clear enough. No means no. Insulted, the White King questions whether his donations weren't sufficient and demands to know how much more it would take to make Yu-hyun submit. Yu-hyun recognizes the divine spirit's wounded pride. For someone who has always used power and wealth to control situations, this rejection must sting. But Yu-hyun knows he's built differently. He asserts that no amount of additional points will sway him. These rules were created by him, and even he isn't above them. No bribe, no matter how immense, and no amount of divine pressure will make him change his decision, especially not for the Western White Dragon. Suddenly, the system window announces that the Western White Dragon is greatly angered. As Yu-hyun looks up toward the sky, he realizes the gravity of the situation. For an upper realm entity to display power in the lower realm, the anger must be intense. At that moment, the Genesis system activates. Yu-hyun is reassured. Under the Genesis system's governance of the mixed world, divine entities cannot unleash their full power recklessly. Yet the White King, still fuming, donates another 10,000 TP and hurls an insult, demanding submission. In his eyes, money should solve everything. He continues to throw donations in rage, believing he can buy obedience. Yu-hyun calmly acknowledges the donations but points out the White King has just made a hateful comment against a teller. With that, he congratulates him on graduating and removes him from the library. Yu-hyun addresses the remaining audience, reinforcing that while donations are appreciated, rules must be upheld. He emphasizes that this is just the beginning and requests everyone's understanding. If harmony can be maintained without punishment, the rules might be relaxed in the future. But the peace is short-lived. A furious system window suddenly appears behind Yu-hyun. The White King, bypassing the restrictions, curses at him directly. Startled, Yu-hyun realizes something is wrong. The system delivers an urgent notification. The White King of the Sea of the Setting Sun has entered. Yu-hyun confronted the White King, calling out the overstep and defying the system's will. He acknowledged the king's anger, but made it clear that a line had been crossed. Enraged, the White King exploded in fury. He couldn't tolerate such defiance from a mere teller, especially after his generous donations. For someone of his divine stature to be dismissed felt like a crime, and he believed insulting the forces of the 36 heavens was unforgivable. But Yu-hyun calmly clarified that he had never disrespected the great divine forces or the Western White Dragon himself. He had simply removed a guest who broke the rules. This reasoning only fueled the White King's rage even more, who couldn't believe Yu-hyun dared to speak so confidently. Suddenly, the system alerted that another divine presence had entered the library, one resembling the glittering light. He donated 100 TP and asked what was happening. Yu-hyun instantly recognized him, Michael. As tension rose, the Genesis system activated again. The system confirmed excessive power usage and locked onto the White King as the target. Eviction procedures began according to system rules. Yu-hyun observed the process, knowing the Genesis system held power even divine beings couldn't ignore. For someone like the White King, who was only a mid-ranking spirit at best, challenging the system would leave him weakened for years. Moments later, the system forcibly evicted the White King. Yu-hyun then addressed everyone, stating that following the rules could avoid such incidents. He opened the floor for complaints, but the system confirmed that all divine spirits had no objections. Their attention had shifted toward Michael. Yu-hyun quietly noted the effect Michael's presence had on them. With no resistance, Yu-hyun proceeded. He announced plans to explore another mind realm. Since places like Constantinople had proven too challenging, this time they aimed for something easier. He reminded everyone that they weren't entering just to play around. They had serious work ahead. He asked Hyerim if she was ready, and she confirmed. Inside the mind realm, Yu-hyun explained their new target. The Theodolant Wetlands. This place felt noticeably different from previous realms. Their first task was to locate the boundary line, and Yu-hyun began briefing Hiram. Soon, a group of hunters approached them. One member asked if they could join forces, noticing Yu-hyun and Hiram were only 2. He explained that their original party of 6 had shrunk to 4 due to unforeseen circumstances. Yu-hyun confirmed they were just 2, and the man suggested forming a combined team, finding it difficult to operate with just 4. Hiram found this odd. Had they not recognized who she and Yu-hyun were? She reasoned they might be out of touch with recent rumors. Still, they were here to clear the realm, not to babysit casual farmers. As Hiram began to decline, Yu-hyun unexpectedly agreed. They had actually been looking for a party, he claimed. Confused by his sudden decision, Hiram questioned it internally. Her attention shifted to a blonde woman in the group, striking in both appearance and presence. Frustration stirred within Hiram. She recalled how Yu-hyun didn't react even when she touched him earlier, and now she wondered if this woman matched his taste. The group agreed to team up and said they'd go bring their equipment. Yu-hyun accepted, then called Hiram's name. Flustered, Hiram responded, struggling to hide her insecurities. She acknowledged that everyone had preferences, and while she hadn't expected this to be Yu-hyun's type, she considered dieting just in case. Yu-hyun, clearly confused, asked her to stop, urging her to protect her image. As he moved closer, Hiram blushed, asking why he was suddenly getting so close in public, especially with the divine spirits watching. Yu-hyun leaned in and warned her quietly. The party they just agreed to team up with was made up of scavengers. The narration shifts to reveal more about the scavengers. These individuals survive by secretly collecting or outright stealing stories and texts left behind by other collectors in the mental realm. They aren't skilled at hunting elusive beings, but they crave the byproducts that others earn through real effort. Hiram quickly connects the dots. She realizes the group that approached them likely intended to steal their stories. Yu-hyun confirms it, noting that if stealing were their only goal, they could be considered saints. But among scavengers, the more vicious ones don't just steal, they kill. He suspects the 4 who approached them belong to that dangerous category. Hiram, though convinced, asks how he figured out they were scavengers so quickly. Yu-hyun recalls their earlier conversation. They had claimed the area was too difficult to hunt in, yet their clothes were spotless. In a swamp where ankle-deep water and mud coat everything, anyone who fights would get dirty. Yet these people were completely clean. That contradiction was his first clue. More than that, he found it suspicious that they approached so confidently, pretending not to recognize him or hear him. Even if they genuinely didn't know who they were, their total lack of caution made their approach feel unnatural. Still confused, Hiram questions why Yu-hyun accepted the offer if he already knew their true intentions. Yu-hyun simply smiles at the thrill. He explains that facing villains who hide their malice behind polite gestures is far more interesting. He then turns to the divine spirits, pointing out the threat right in front of them, enemies concealing blades behind their backs and treating him and Hiram as easy prey. He challenges the divine spirits, asking what they would do in the situation. The divine spirits respond unanimously. Such acts cannot be tolerated. Most of them agree. These opponents must be crushed completely. Yu-hyun outlines the plan. He intends to play along, pretending to cooperate with the scavengers, then strike decisively at the perfect moment. This approach, he believes, will create a far more dramatic story. Hiram, still cautious, wonders whether the scavengers will fall for the act. Yu-hyun replies with a question of his own. Who are the easiest people to deceive? Then he answers internally. Those who believe that what they see is all there is to the world, who think their limited knowledge is the entire truth, and who are drunk on their own superiority. These are the easiest prey, and they are his favorite kind. Hiram strikes down an elusive being with a single blow from her sword. The surrounding scavengers watch in awe, amazed at her strength. One of them exclaims in disbelief, stunned that she defeated such a creature in just one hit. Internally, he wonders why the Sword Empress is still this strong, despite continuously hunting. He starts doubting whether she's even tired. Trying to keep control of the situation, the same scavenger casually asks Yu-hyun where he's going. Yu-hyun replies that he just needs to take care of something briefly. Concerned, or perhaps suspicious, the scavenger suggests he not go alone and sends Youngwoon to accompany him, using the excuse that Youngwoon needed a bathroom break. As Yu-hyun walks away with Youngwoon, he initiates a telepathic message to Hiram. He informs her that once he leaves the spot, the scavengers are likely to act. He instructs her to stay alert and take action at the first sign of trouble. Hiram acknowledges the plan with a quick mental response. Once separated, Yu-hyun casually speaks to Youngwoon, calling out his name and noting that he has seemed off since earlier. He invites Youngwoon to speak freely if something is bothering him. Inwardly, Yu-hyun already knows the truth. While the other 3 scavengers are clearly scum, Youngwoon seems different, almost normal. Nervously, Youngwoon finally confesses. He identifies Yu-hyun by name and pleads for him to escape immediately. He reveals that the other 3 are murderers. Baek Woo-hyun had forced him to join them and had even suggested they kill 2 people. Though Youngwoon tried to refuse, the threat to his life forced him into silence. He admits his guilt, comparing himself to the murderers. He then proposes going back alone and lying that he killed Yu-hyun. He also promises to find a way to send Hiram away safely. Yoo-hyun, however, raises a concern. If Young-woon gets caught, both he and Hiram will be in danger. But then he shifts focus. He asks why the scavengers are targeting them at all. Young-woon responds that he's unsure but shares that a teller from a well-known division hired them with a promise of forming a library contract if the mission succeeded. Realizing the scope of the threat, Yoo-hyun tells Young-woon to stay back. He'll handle the situation from here. He reflects inwardly that although he initially planned to eliminate Young-woon like the others, he no longer feels it's necessary. Yoo-hyun then shifts his tone, revealing he already knew everything. He scolds Young-woon for thinking they'd blindly trust strangers who approached them so suddenly. Startled, Young-woon asks if Yoo-hyun had known all along. Yoo-hyun confirms it and assures him there's no need to fear anymore, especially after showing he's not like the others. Suddenly, the sound of shouting draws their attention. Yoo-hyun remarks that it's almost over. Young-woon asks what he means. When they return, they discover that Hiram has already defeated all the scavengers. Yoo-hyun casually observes that there's no need to tie them up anymore. He's quietly impressed, having expected Hiram to hesitate when it came to fighting other people. Her decisive actions surprise him. Looking at the defeated scavengers, Yoo-hyun calls out to them, demanding they get up. He mocks their pretense of being unconscious. As the leader stirs, he turns toward Young-woon with fury, accusing him of betrayal and threatening to kill him. Before the threat can escalate, Yoo-hyun stomps hard on the leader's hand. Calmly, he reminds the man of his current position. He recites Baek Woo-hyun's background: collector rank, class 7, a scavenger by profession, murderer of over 10 people, and someone connected with gangs involved in assault, extortion, and human trafficking. Yoo-hyun accuses him of planning to murder a nameless man and the newly famous Sword Empress. He then demands to know who hired them. The leader only laughs and scoffs at the idea. He questions whether Yoo-hyun intends to kill him and whether he can handle the consequences of becoming a murderer. Yoo-hyun counters by pointing out the leader's shamelessness and wonders if he feels no fear of the law. Unbothered, the leader mocks the law itself. He declares that the worst punishment he might face is prison, and even welcomes it, promising revenge once he's free. He continues provoking Yoo-hyun, daring him to act, but Yoo-hyun remains calm. Without saying much, he draws his sword and kills one of the leader's teammates in a single, swift move. The remaining scavengers panic and plead for their lives, realizing they were in over their heads. Just as Yoo-hyun raises his sword again to finish them off, Hiram grabs his arm. For a moment, Yoo-hyun thinks she's trying to stop him. From her perspective, his actions might appear terrifying. But before he can react further, Hiram silently lifts her own sword and kills the female scavenger in one clean strike. Yoo-hyun, caught off guard, is left stunned and admits to himself that he might have underestimated her. Now, only the scavenger's leader remains. Hiram steps forward without hesitation, ready to take care of him herself. Hiram steps forward, her resolve unwavering. She recalls the Constantinople siege battle, the moment when she truly understood her purpose. Since then, she's been ready to do whatever it takes to achieve her goal, no matter the cost. The scavenger leader, now cornered, starts panicking. He begs her to stop, warning that she'll regret killing him. But Yoo-hyun steps in and coldly reminds the leader that he has no right to negotiate in the first place. The leader tries to use his last card, claiming that if he dies, they'll never know who hired him. But Yoo-hyun cuts him off, revealing that he already knows. Jinpung, a teller from the Pentagram Division of Celestial Body Inc., was behind it all. Yoo-hyun had known about the secret deal from the start. With that, he leaves the rest to Hiram. As she approaches, the terrified leader pleads for help. He calls out to Young-woon, reminding him of their past and trying to guilt him into saving him. He screams, desperate, but Yoo-hyun just watches with a chilling smile. And in the next moment, Hiram slashes his throat without hesitation. Yoo-hyun reflects silently. Humans who believe they're untouchable often mock others until the reality hits. Watching them crumble under the weight of truth gives him a strange satisfaction. A twisted sense of justice shaped by the cruel world he endured. This darkness within him isn't something he hides. It's a part of him now, a scar left by survival. With the leader gone, Yoo-hyun shifts his focus toward Jinpung, hoping he too will offer some twisted form of entertainment. Nearby, Young-woon stands frozen, staring at the lifeless bodies of his former companions. The shock sinks in. He breaks down, crying, overcome with guilt. He regrets everything, especially after finally mustering the courage to do something good. It all feels pointless, realizing he had been manipulated from the very beginning. Unable to hold back, he asks why they killed them. Yoo-hyun answers plainly, if they hadn't, they would have been the ones to die. Even Young-woon wouldn't have been safe. Their actions were the only way to survive. Young-woon shouts in frustration. To Yoo-hyun and Hiram, everything must seem like a game. They have divine spirits backing them. They're strong, chosen by tellers. But what would they know about struggling with nothing? He yells, asking why he's the only one left in this miserable state. Yoo-hyun responds with calm certainty. Everyone has their own role in life. But he and Hiram had simply refused to accept theirs. They chose to strive for more. They worked hard, risked their lives, and made their own path. To Young-woon, they might look like the chosen ones, but in truth, they're no different from him. Still crying, Young-woon asks why he is like this. Yoo-hyun replies that it's because Young-woon chose to conform. He accepted the world as it was, but Yoo-hyun never did. If he lacked something, he would either create it or take it. That was his truth. Young-woon breaks down further. He never wanted to give up, but what choice did he have? No matter how hard he tried, nothing changed. Every effort ended in failure. Every attempt brought ridicule. Yoo-hyun answers gently. The human world is narrow. People often mistake their small surroundings for the entire world. If someone calls you a failure, you start believing everyone sees you that way. But the truth is, the wider world doesn't even notice you. It neither knows you nor judges you. If you want change, start by changing your own perception. Show the unknown world who you really are. It won't be easy, but it's better than giving up without trying. With the final word spoken, Yoo-hyun turns to leave and tells Hyerim it's time to go. She pauses, asking whether they should really leave the scavenger like this. Yoo-hyun nods. He assures her, "It'll be fine." Hyerim faces off against a boss-grade illusionary being. Without hesitation, she defeats it with a single powerful slash of her sword. Instantly, the system announces that the mental realm is disappearing. She notes how clearing the mental realm causes all its traces to vanish. Yoo-hyun confirms that, except for injuries and rewards, everything else tied to the mental realm disappears once it's cleared. Hyerim acknowledges this, then mentions that Yoo-hyun has seemed deep in thought for a while. Internally, Yoo-hyun reflects on his old belief that people are incapable of change. But now, he begins to consider that those with the right mental trigger might actually be able to change. Out loud, he brushes it off, saying it's nothing. Moments later, both Hyerim and Yoo-hyun return to the real world. Observers nearby express frustration, realizing that the farming spot breaker has already cleared the area. They had rushed in for farming, but it was already too late. Yoo-hyun feels a brief moment of sympathy, but quickly dismisses it. He tells Hyerim they've collected everything they needed and suggests they move on. At Baekwa management, Suryeon asks how their day went. Hyerim responds that nothing special happened, yet she still received a lot of rewards for clearing. Yoo-hyun then brings up something that's been bothering him and asks to see her status window. Hyerim shows him her stats, and he examines them closely. She senses his concern and asks if something's wrong. Yoo-hyun explains that while nothing is outright wrong, the stats section seems overly vague and simplified. Despite her rapid progress, the status still shows low-ranking stats, which seems strange. Hyerim agrees that it definitely feels off. Yoo-hyun emphasizes that this is more than just odd. It's a major issue. If stats are presented in such an unclear way, neither tellers nor collectors can accurately measure their real capabilities. He recalls how, after the apocalypse in his past life, the stat window underwent a complete overhaul. Back then, the data was detailed and precise. He points out that if someone worked hard and improved, but saw no growth reflected in their stats, they would eventually lose hope. Hyerim admits that such a scenario would lead her to despair. Yoo-hyun silently concludes that this might be an intentional tactic to demotivate collectors by hiding their progress behind ambiguous metrics. He begins to suspect foul play. Until now, he had assumed the apocalypse was due to negligence by the collectors. But what if someone had been manipulating everything from behind the scenes? Though it's too early to say for sure, the suspicion lingers. If these theories are true, and there really are forces plotting in the shadows to bring about this world's downfall, then Yoo-hyun is ready. He welcomes their full strength, only then will defeating them bring him true satisfaction. Suryeon soon enters the scene from somewhere off-screen. Hyerim notices and asks where she had been. Suryeon replies that she had gone to meet magazine publishers, hinting at an upcoming interview for Hyerim. Hearing this, Hyerim is surprised, not expecting any interviews. Suryeon explains that Hyerim might start gaining more exposure now. Yoo-hyun adds that collectors are practically celebrities already, and appearing in interviews or commercials is quite common. He believes this is the best way to build Hyerim's public image. Hyerim hesitates, expressing her disinterest since fighting is all she truly values. But when Yoo-hyun mentions the financial benefit, her curiosity grows. Upon hearing that a few $100,000 is just the beginning, she instantly agrees to do the interview. Suryeon then shifts her focus and asks Yoo-hyun what he's currently working on. He responds that he's working on a new weapon. Hyerim points out that the sword he's holding looks like a cheap one sold at the dimensional store. Yoo-hyun confirms it cost only 100 TP and asks her to check the sword's information. Hyerim reads that it's a Salio ancient relic longsword and questions its usefulness. Yoo-hyun explains that while the Salio Empire may have fallen thousands of years ago, it was once renowned for its mastery in combining magic and machinery. This sword is a relic from that powerful civilization. Although the sword's value isn't yet recognized in the mixed world, Yoo-hyun, having come from the future, knows its true worth. It's a hidden treasure that can't even be found within the mind realms. He then turns to Hyerim and advises her to focus on developing her main attack skill. With her current stats, she's close to reaching the mid-class collector level. While her physical attributes already surpass those of many mid-class collectors, she lacks a skill or personal story to match that strength. Having bypassed the growth process most undergo, she now needs to start preparing for a mid- or high-level story. Hyerim raises a concern, pointing out that stories at that level are usually expensive. Yoo-hyun assures her that he knows a cost-effective method. He instructs her to first search for lightning steps in the low-level stories category and asks her to open her dimensional store. Once she finds it, he tells her to also look for Berserk Lightning Inner Skill among the mid-level stories, followed by Thunder Fury in the low-level sword skills section. He instructs her to purchase all three. Suryan expresses doubt, recalling that these three skills are infamous for being nearly unusable. Lightning Steps is too fast for anyone to handle. Berserk Lightning causes involuntary body spasms, and Thunder Fury is considered far too difficult to wield. Because of these flaws, the trio is often referred to as the Three Useless Brothers. Hiram is shocked to hear this and questions whether it's even safe to learn them. Yuhyun asks if she doesn't trust him. Reluctantly, Hiram gives in, agreeing to try them if he believes it's worth it. Yuhyun confirms that she just needs to learn all three. Immediately, Hiram activates her power. Energy begins to radiate from her body. Yuhyun approaches with his sword, guiding it toward the energy being released. The sword reacts, its shape shifting in real time. Suryan is stunned by the transformation. She observes that the sword's form has completely changed and wonders if this is its original state. Yuhyun cautions her to stay back, as lightning is still surging through the weapon. Internally, he reflects that while he had always believed the sword was extraordinary based on what he knew, seeing it now confirms it is even more impressive in person. Turning to Hiram, he notes that she appears to be finishing up the absorption of all three stories. Yuhyun turns to Hiram, checking in on her condition. He asks if she feels any pain or discomfort. Hiram responds that she feels fine. Yuhyun instructs her to open her status screen, expecting a new skill to have appeared. As Hiram checks, she confirms that the three previously absorbed skills have vanished and have been replaced by one new skill, Heavenly Lightning Sword. Yuhyun explains that this new skill will be the foundation of her growth. It's a hidden piece that allows her to control divine lightning, and in terms of story level, it surpasses even high-level stories, far beyond the mid-level ones she started with. Excited, Hiram leaps forward to hug him, but Yuhyun quickly steps aside, causing her to fall to the ground. He reminds her that he could get electrocuted if she hugs him without fully controlling her lightning. Curious, Hiram asks how he even knew about such a hidden piece. She thinks the divine spirits would have loved witnessing the awakening of this skill. Internally, Yuhyun agrees, but he knows it would cause unnecessary attention if anyone began questioning its origin. Out loud, he simply says he wanted to avoid trouble and hands her the sword, advising her to keep it close. The sword would absorb any excess lightning she couldn't yet control. Suryan stares at the weapon, suspicious. She asks Yuhyun if he had just used Hiram as a battery to power up the sword. Yuhyun shrugs off the concern, saying it worked out in the end and was all to help Hiram. Internally, he wonders if Suryan is genuinely worried about her. Suryan admits that if anything had gone wrong, her entire office could have been burned to the ground. Yuhyun realizes her main concern was the safety of the workplace. Suryan insists that next time he attempts something like this, he should at least give her a warning. Observing her, Yuhyun thinks to himself that he's only now realizing Suryan isn't an ordinary person either. At that moment, Yuhyun receives a system notification. It has found information on Do-yoon. The message catches him off guard. He quickly excuses himself, reminding Hiram not to let go of the sword. As he rushes through the streets, his mind races with conflicting thoughts. He wonders why he's still fixated on Do-yoon. With a new beginning ahead, there's no need to get involved again. He questions whether seeing Do-yoon would make him angry, or maybe he'd feel nothing at all. Regardless, he decides he wants to meet him at least once. Yuhyun arrives at the association and asks to meet the manager, Choi Jungmo. The manager soon appears and leads him to a private meeting room. They both sit down, and Jungmo begins with a question before addressing the main issue. He asks what Yuhyun's relationship with Choi Do-yoon is. Yuhyun answers that they are not acquainted. He's only heard rumors about him. Jungmo accepts the answer and continues, explaining that he followed up as requested. Using the basic information Yuhyun had provided, Do-yoon's age, gender, and rough appearance, he was able to locate someone who matched the description. He shows Yuhyun a picture. The moment Yuhyun sees the image, he's taken aback. He confirms without hesitation, it's Do-yoon. He urgently asks for Do-yoon's current location. Jungmo explains that 10 years ago, when Earth was integrated into the mixed world during the Mind Unification Day, Do-yoon went missing. Hearing Jungmo's words, Yuhyun is startled to learn that Do-yoon went missing. Jungmo explains that Do-yoon was one of the many who vanished during the 99 Days of Revolution. These missing individuals are collectively known as the Vanishing. Yuhyun reflects on the chaos of that time. When Earth, a purely physical world, merged into the mixed world, the resulting collision shattered the boundaries between illusions and truths. That moment, known as Mind Unification Day, marked the day when stories became reality. During that event, countless people vanished without a trace. The cause of their disappearance remains unknown, but one thing was certain: they had crossed into another dimension. While a few of the vanished returned to reality, most came back as corpses. The rare few who survived often reappeared as monsters. In the future, some would return perfectly fine, identified as otherworld returnees, but that time hadn't come yet. Realizing that Do-yoon was among the vanishing, Yuhyun connects the dots. After disappearing during the Mind Unification Day, Do-yoon had returned at the end of Earth's collapse. The immense power and sense of judgment he displayed were likely influenced by the rules of another world he had lived by. Jungmo adds one more critical detail. Do-yoon has a mother. Since the day he went missing, she has been searching for her son for 10 years. She had requested to meet Yoo-hyun. Surprised, Yoo-hyun confirms if she truly meant him. Jungmo asks if he would like to meet her. Yoo-hyun processes the thought. It made sense. If someone had told her there was a person who knew about her son, she would naturally want to meet him. He stands up and agrees to meet her, but later. He also requests Jungmo's assistance again if needed. Jungmo assures him that as long as it's Yoo-hyun, he'll always be willing to help. As Yoo-hyun walks away, his thoughts spiral inward. He wonders if his parents are alive in this world too, but fear begins to creep in. If he now exists as a teller, then what happened to his original self in this world? Could another version of Kang Yoo-hyun still be alive? If so, could he truly consider those parents his own? He fears they might reject him, or worse, mistake him for an imposter. At that moment, Hyerim calls out to him. He turns toward her and asks what she's doing there. Hyerim explains that she followed him because he seemed troubled when he left. Yoo-hyun apologizes for worrying her and assures her that he's fine now. It wasn't as big of a problem as he'd initially thought. Hearing that, Hyerim notes that he really does seem better. She then suggests returning to the office. Yoo-hyun reacts, surprised by the mention of the office. Hyerim asks if he still has something left to do. Inwardly, Yoo-hyun affirms his decision. He has resolved to become the main character of this life. His parents are the strongest influence behind this choice. Even if they don't accept him as family, he won't let fear or rejection control him anymore. There's no reason to run. With clarity, Yoo-hyun asks Hyerim if she'd like to come along. Excited, Hyerim agrees and asks where they're going. Yoo-hyun tells her he needs to meet the people who once saved his life. Yoo-hyun and Hyerim sit together on a bus, the quiet hum of the engine beneath them. As they ride, Hyerim watches him curiously, remarking on how fascinating he is. Despite being a teller, he keeps his distance from others like him, carrying a mysterious past that no one seems to know. Yoo-hyun calmly corrects her, but she remains unconvinced. She believes he'll open up one day. Her thoughts drift to the people they're about to meet, the ones he referred to as his saviors. She wonders just how incredible they must be for him to speak so highly of them. Yoo-hyun confirms her thoughts. They truly are remarkable people. Curious and thoughtful, Hyerim silently wonders who they are and what part they played in Yoo-hyun's unknown past. She wants to understand more about him. Meanwhile, Yoo-hyun's thoughts shift toward Hyerim. He begins to wonder if she has a family. As he considers looking into her book, the answer becomes clear. It doesn't mention any. Turning to her, he asks if she has a family. Hyerim brightens and teases him, asking if he's interested in her. Yoo-hyun responds, slightly annoyed, and tells her she doesn't have to answer if she doesn't want to. But Hyerim opens up. She says she doesn't have a family. In the past, she did. But now she can't even recall her father's face. She believes he ran away after she was born. Her mother, filled with resentment, had abused her, insisting Hyerim wasn't her child. A flashback reveals the painful truth. One day, Hyerim returned home to find her mother hanging, having taken her own life. That marked the end of any family ties she had. Back in the present, Hyerim explains how she ended up in an orphanage. Her shy personality made her a target for bullying. Family, as she knew it, was gone. But she insists that everything is different now, and it's all thanks to Yoo-hyun. Suddenly, Yoo-hyun calls her name, his voice louder than before. She looks at him, surprised, and asks what's wrong. He brushes it off, but quietly acknowledges how difficult her life must have been. Hyerim, still smiling, says she's okay. If not for him, she would still be lost. Meeting him helped her realize what she wanted to do with her life. Yoo-hyun watches her carefully. He senses how fragile she is beneath the surface. The Sword Empress he once knew was nothing like this. But then he reminds himself. He never truly knew the real her back then. There's no reason to feel disappointed or compare. Though she's unstable now, her future still holds potential. With the right guidance, she can change. Turning to her, Yoo-hyun reassures her that no matter what, he will never abandon her. She beams, promising the same in return. As they continue walking, memories begin to flood Yoo-hyun's mind. He passes places tied to his youth, the gaming cafe he once frequented, the bakery his mother adored, the food cart where he grabbed snacks, and the tutoring academy he used to dread. Everything looks the same. The only thing that's changed is him. He then notices a playground and is reminded of a specific memory. Back then, he often avoided the academy by loitering there. But his mother would always find him and scold him. Just as he's lost in thought, a girl passes by. Yoo-hyun glances at her and suddenly freezes, stunned by what he sees. As Yoo-hyun looks at the girl passing by, she also turns to look at him. Just then, her mother rushes over, yelling at her daughter. She scolds her for running away from responsibilities and reminds her that people are watching. Hearing the tone and presence of the woman, Yoo-hyun softly utters the word, "mother," under his breath. The woman, noticing him, apologizes for being loud. Yoo-hyun, overwhelmed by emotions, silently wonders what he had been hoping for. In this world, Kang Yoo-hyun doesn't exist. That place in the family now belongs to someone else. The woman looks at him curiously, feeling something familiar. She asks if they've met before, noting how much he resembles someone she once knew. Her daughter, intrigued, says she isn't the only one who thought that. She asks Yoo-hyun if he knows her father. Suddenly, the girl notices Hyerim and gasps in disbelief. Excited, she calls out to her mother, pointing out that this is the person she's been talking about, the Sword Empress. The girl, named Yura, rushes to Hyerim and eagerly asks for her autograph. Yoo-hyun smiles at the coincidence of their meeting. He invites them to sit and talk for a while. The group soon finds themselves seated inside a nearby restaurant. Yura's mother, still curious, mentions that she hasn't even asked Yoo-hyun's name yet. Yoo-hyun introduces himself as Kang Yoo-hyun and explains that he works at Celestial Body Inc. as a storytelling office teller. Yura lights up with excitement upon hearing this. She joyfully tells her mother that Yoo-hyun is a teller. Her mother, surprised, repeats the word in disbelief. She had been convinced he was a relative because of how much he resembled her husband. Internally, Yoo-hyun acknowledges that his mother senses something familiar in him. He wants to tell her the truth about his identity, but knows he can't. Still thrilled, Yura confirms if he's truly a teller. When Yoo-hyun agrees, she immediately asks if he can make her a collector. Her mother scolds her for being rude. Yoo-hyun, however, gently responds that there's no harm in asking. Yura, encouraged, tells her mother that he said it was okay. But Yoo-hyun then calmly explains the truth. Turning an ordinary person into a collector is impossible. Tellers can only form contracts with people who are already collectors. Her mother sighs with relief, admitting she had been worried he might agree. Yura, confused, asks why that's a relief. Her mother tells her firmly that depending on others to reach goals is the wrong approach from the start. She reminds her daughter that recognizing when something is impossible and letting go is also a kind of wisdom. These words hit Yura hard. Overwhelmed, she begins to cry and runs out of the restaurant. Left behind, her mother apologizes to Yoo-hyun, saying her daughter has shown her worst side. Yoo-hyun responds kindly, acknowledging that kids her age often think collectors are cool. Her mother explains further. Yura only sees the glamorous side of being a collector. She never considers the struggles of those who remain unknown. Despite being her mother, she confesses that Yura has no talent for it. Hearing this, Yoo-hyun is reminded of his own childhood. Looking over to Hyerim, he quietly asks if she could give them some space. He tells her Yura must have gone to the same playground they had just passed. He requests Hyerim to go speak with her. Hyerim agrees without hesitation. After Hyerim walks away, Yoo-hyun turns to Yura's mother. He says there's no need to give up on a path just because someone lacks talent. Her mother agrees, admitting that while people should dream big, life has taught her that some dreams can't be fulfilled by wishing alone. Yoo-hyun reminds her that Yura is her daughter. She responds by saying she always wants to speak positively to her child, but not when it comes to becoming a collector. It's a difficult path, and she only wants to protect her daughter from getting hurt. She wants Yura to grow up well. Yoo-hyun acknowledges her concern, but tells her she can't simply dismiss her child's dream, no matter how difficult the path is. She asks if he's suggesting she let her daughter do as she pleases. Yoo-hyun clarifies. He isn't saying to let her go blindly. Instead, he advises her to show Yura the reality of being a collector, the danger, the challenges. If after understanding everything, Yura still chooses that path, it means she's made that decision with clarity. He questions if she truly underestimates her child's resolve. Yoo-hyun reflects that a single phrase or small act of encouragement can be enough to change someone's path. He expresses his belief that an honest conversation between mother and daughter can clear up their conflict. He encourages her to believe in Yura's dream one more time. No matter how difficult or dark reality may be, dreams are necessary. If they pursue those dreams together, one day Yura will become the main character of her own life. Hearing these words, her mother is struck by the similarity to her own past encouragements. She wonders how Yoo-hyun came to say the same things. Yoo-hyun tells her that no matter how dangerous the journey is, if the goal lies at its end, they cannot stop. He hopes she will have more faith in Yura. Her mother admits he's right. Perhaps she had gone too far as a mother and ended up suppressing Yura's potential. She smiles and says this conversation feels like she's speaking to her grown-up child, despite it being their first meeting. Yoo-hyun responds gently. At that moment, Hyerim returns, bringing Yura with her. Yoo-hyun asks the mother if he can speak to Yura alone. She agrees and steps aside. Yoo-hyun gently asks Yura why she wants to become a collector. Yura, slightly nervous, says she hopes he won't laugh. She had admired the pride and confidence of the collectors she saw. It was dazzling, and she wanted to be like them. She wonders aloud if that's a silly reason. Yoo-hyun reassures her it isn't. He shares that he once had a similar dream. He tells her that anyone can dream, but what truly matters is resolve. Then he asks if she's willing to risk her life to become a collector. The Sword Empress she admires nearly lost her life many times before reaching her position, and most collectors have faced similar dangers. He tells her not to answer immediately, but a time will come when she'll have to face that question. Yura then asks if he truly believes she can do it, if she really wants it and has the resolve. Yoo-hyun says he believes she can. As he watches her, he reflects on his own past. If someone had reassured him like this just once, maybe he would have grown into a different person. Looking at Yura, Yoo-hyun gives her his final words of encouragement. As a teller, he assures her, she can definitely succeed. And in his heart, he hopes this small moment will be the start of her change. For now, that's more than enough. As evening settles in, Yura expresses her desire to spend more time with them. Her mother gently reminds her that both of them are busy, so it can't be helped. Yuhyun tells Yura that meeting her was a pleasure and wishes for all her hopes to come true before saying goodbye. Yura waves them off with a cheerful farewell. Later, at the bus stand, Yuhyun and Hyerim wait together. Hyerim notices that Yuhyun looks happy. Yuhyun wonders aloud if that's true, then asks what she and Yura talked about. Hyerim smiles and teasingly keeps it a secret. Suddenly, Yura's mother comes rushing toward them. Seeing this, Yuhyun asks Hyerim to wait and walks over to her. The woman explains she didn't get the chance to say something properly before. Without hesitation, she embraces Yuhyun and thanks him for all his hard work. Yuhyun feels a surge of emotion. He thinks to himself that he should clarify they're strangers, that he's not her son. He tries to draw the line, but all that comes out is his quiet agreement that he has indeed worked hard. She promises to cheer him on forever. Yuhyun expresses his gratitude as she begins to walk away. Watching her leave, Yuhyun reflects silently. He hopes she lives peacefully in this life. His parents had died during the beginning of the end, but this time, they won't. He swears he won't let the end happen again. Meanwhile, in another scene, Jinpung fumes with frustration. At first, he believed they had escaped, but learning that Yuhyun is alive enrages him. He realizes there's only one method left, but the cost of using that method makes him hesitate. Just then, Argyle appears beside him. She comments on his progress, expressing disappointment. She had trusted him, but it seems he has failed to meet expectations. Jinpung insists that he's never failed to carry out an assignment before. Argyle's tone sharpens. She reveals her sadness upon learning that Jinpung attempted to kill his fellow colleague. He denies it, calling the accusation absurd. Argyle questions if he's implying she's lying, then activates her power. Jinpung's head is forced down before her. She asks if he's curious about how she's able to subdue him inside his own library. She reminds him that when he accepted the contract with her department, he surrendered his control over it. To reclaim that jurisdiction, he must be promoted to senior associate. Until then, he holds no authority. That means even in his personal library, the place that should be safest, he can die. But Argyle, ever the generous senior, offers him one final chance to take down Kang Yuhyun. This time, she'll even provide him with extra support. She'll sponsor him with points. Jinpung questions whether she truly wants him to do that. Argyle confirms with excitement, it will be a storytelling battle, a wager between tellers who command their own libraries. She sees no better opportunity. Jinpung hesitates. A storytelling battle would mean using collectors as proxies, and Kang Yuhyun's contracted partner is the Sword Empress, someone far too powerful. He feels he can't possibly win. But Argyle assures him. The Pentagram Department plans to sponsor a powerful collector, one raised in secret and still unknown to the public. Though new, this collector is more than capable of defeating a mid-class one. If this collector manages to defeat the Sword Empress, the rising star of the divine spirits, the impact would be enormous. Jinpung processes this information and begins to believe. If he defeats the Sword Empress and gains control over Kang Yuhyun's library, he can finally eliminate him. Yuhyun sat quietly, polishing his sword while deep in thought. Thanks to Hyerim carrying it around, the blade had absorbed a strange current, but its true form still hadn't revealed itself. He began engraving a mana circuit onto it, believing that would awaken its potential. Suddenly, the sword shimmered with brilliance as the system announced its evolution. The Salio Ancient Relic Longsword transformed into the Salio Empire Magic Engineered Sword. As a reward, Yuhyun received 100,000 TP and gained a new story, the story of an engraver, marking his success in engraving the circuit. Now the sword had become its true self. Yuhyun read the stats with awe. It could land myth-level fatal blows, boost his attributes, defend against magic, transform its shape, and operate without cooldown. It was an astonishing weapon. Though the special window remained locked, he assumed it was due to his current level being too low. While scanning the interface, he noticed a term, enormous ego. The next moment, the sword screamed aloud, declaring it was finally free. Startled, Yuhyun realized the sword could speak and had a will of its own. From within the blade, a small girl emerged. She didn't recall how long she had been asleep, but upon waking, she asked if Yuhyun was her master. Yuhyun introduced himself as Kang Yuhyun, a teller from Celestial Body Inc. The girl was shocked. A teller using a sword? She wondered if he planned to sell her. But Yuhyun reassured her that he used swords himself, which intrigued her. She found him interesting and asked for a name since she had forgotten hers during her long slumber. She believed that someone capable of awakening her must be talented enough to give her a name. Yuhyun looked at the pure white blade and was reminded of Baekyo, a white lotus. Inspired by the image, he named her Baekrion. She accepted the name happily and declared him her master from that moment on. The system confirmed that Yuhyun had become the master of Baekrion, the Salio Ancient Relic Longsword. Yuhyun could feel her story merging with his, and his own story flowing into her. They were now connected beyond just master and weapon. But their bond was interrupted by a sudden shock. Baekrion sensed something unusual and confronted him. She questioned the truth behind his existence, demanding to know what he meant by being a reincarnation. Someone who had already died and been born again. Yuhyun realized that Baekryun had read his past through the owner contract. Hiding the truth from her now would be pointless. She acknowledged how unusual he was for a teller and questioned if finding her had also been part of his future knowledge. Yuhyun confirmed it, adding that the person who used her before didn't seem to know she was an ego sword. Baekryun figured that the previous owner had only partially awakened her. But Yuhyun possessed the engraver trait which allowed him to fully bring her to life. She expressed her excitement about having a teller as a master. She found the idea of storytelling fascinating and was eager to experience it. Yuhyun warned her she'd be seeing a lot of it and hoped they'd get along. He reached out and sealed their bond with a handshake. Later, Yuhyun and Hyerim stood in an open area. He asked if she was ready. She gave her confirmation and Yuhyun opened his library. Addressing the viewers, he welcomed them back, explaining that they had taken a break to return in a reorganized form. Curious, the divine spirits asked what was new. Yuhyun told them to wait and promised to explain everything. He began introducing the story and the mind realm they would be clearing. Just then, Jinpung appeared and challenged Yuhyun to a storytelling battle. The divine spirits instantly grew interested. Baekryun, confused, asked what that was. Yuhyun thought to himself that it was a battle fought using stories, something only tellers from Celestial Body Inc. could do. He asked if Baekryun could appear openly, and she replied that only he could see her. Yuhyun explained further that a storytelling battle relied purely on a collector's skills and the teller's support. The victor legally claimed ownership of the loser's library. Baekryun was shocked, realizing how serious the stakes were. Jinpung repeated his challenge, but Yuhyun declined, stating he had no reason to accept. He reminded Jinpung that while he had the right to challenge, Yuhyun also had the right to refuse. Baekryun asked if it was really okay to turn it down, and Yuhyun replied that most didn't out of pride. Jinpung accused him of lacking honor and trying to run away, but Yuhyun called him out for crashing someone else's story and issuing a challenge the moment a library was reopened. He saw through Jinpung's tactic, using the presence of divine spirits to pressure him into accepting. The divine spirits began criticizing Jinpung, seeing his move as arrogant and shameless. They questioned what department he belonged to and decided to take the matter up separately. To diffuse the rising tension, Yuhyun told the spirits not to get too angry. He suggested that Jinpung probably acted out of ignorance. Treating him too harshly might reflect poorly on Yuhyun's library. He shifted focus, hinting at the excitement of an upcoming battle between the popular pentagram department and the newly rising Sword Empress. But Yuhyun set one condition. If they were going to fight, it had to be all or nothing. The winner would take everything. The loser's library, possessions, and even the right to live or die. Jinpung was surprised that Yuhyun willingly stepped into the trap, but he accepted the condition. He reminded Yuhyun that since he made the offer, he couldn't back out now. Immediately, the system announced the official establishment of the storytelling battle. The chosen method, deathmatch. Argyle observed the unfolding events with growing interest. She had been curious about Yuhyun, a new rising teller, and found him even more impressive than expected. She admired how he defied his environment without hesitation, but his resistance posed a threat to their department's image. Still, now that he had become a valuable target, she was certain they would consume him eventually. Meanwhile, Hyerim expressed concern to Yuhyun, questioning whether they would really be okay. Yuhyun calmly reassured her. He was confident they would be fine, and this situation would be a perfect opportunity to showcase Baekryun. He sensed her worry, especially after hearing how even some divine spirits doubted his reckless decision to accept the challenge under such risky conditions. Argyle weighed in, pointing out the reality. Despite appearing one-on-one, the fight was essentially Yuhyun alone against an entire department. She questioned his strategy. Yuhyun reminded Hyerim of what he once said. Those most easily deceived were not fools or geniuses, but people who thought they already knew everything. He claimed this situation was a continuation of that idea. Jinpung, along with the one secretly manipulating him and the entire supporting department, all believed they had it figured out. When Hyerim asked if his actions were intentional, Yuhyun confirmed it. He already had a method in mind to defeat them. Baekryun teased him, calling him a psycho, and he accepted it with a grin. The system announced there were 5 minutes left until the battle began. Yuhyun then dispatched Baekyo somewhere. Hyerim suggested they head out too, curious to see the stadium before the fight, but Yuhyun paused, saying he had one more thing to ask of her first. On the other side, Jinpung smirked, believing Yuhyun's arrogance stemmed from having the Sword Empress on his side. Even he admitted she was incredibly skilled, but doubted she would win this time. He felt assured that someone as powerful as his own client, lent by the department, was proof of their confidence in his abilities. Why else would they assign him a guaranteed victor? The system announced there was only 1 minute remaining until the match. Jinpung turned to his client, signaling it was time. The system officially began the battle, calling both teams to exit their waiting rooms. Inside the stadium, Jinpung urged his client forward. The man snapped back, annoyed by the command. He claimed he would have stepped forward regardless and expressed his excitement about fighting the Sword Empress. He was curious to experience what cutting down someone so famous would feel like. Suddenly, confusion spread through the arena. Jinpeng and the others froze in shock. The man paused, realizing something was off. It wasn't the Sword Empress standing before him. Yu Hyun had entered the battlefield in her place. As Yu Hyun stepped onto the battlefield, the audience reacted with a mix of shock and admiration. Many had expected something unpredictable from him, but no one imagined he would personally enter the storytelling battle. The crowd watched with heightened interest, hoping he would live up to their expectations. His opponent, confused, questioned whether a teller was even allowed to participate in such a battle. Jinpeng, though momentarily surprised, quickly saw it as a golden opportunity to eliminate Yu Hyun once and for all. He ordered his fighter to kill him without hesitation, but the man, clearly annoyed, snapped back, saying he would have done it anyway and didn't need to be told what to do. Baekryun, concerned, voiced her doubts. The enemy clearly wasn't an ordinary fighter, but Yu Hyun reassured her that there was no need to worry. Then, Yu Hyun accessed the opponent's book, and his expression changed instantly. Realization struck. This wasn't just anyone. This was Jack the Ripper. In about a year, Korea would face a horrifying incident involving a serial killer who targeted collectors. Unlike typical battles within the mind realm, these murders occurred in reality. Every victim was a mid-class collector, making the case even more terrifying. Initially, the killer's identity remained a mystery, and the case was presumed unsolvable. But at the final moment, the culprit revealed himself, only to die during an attempt to kill Choi Do-yoon. Before his death, however, he had already taken the lives of thousands of innocent people. Yu Hyun now understood. Pentagram had been secretly nurturing a monster like him. In the past, Pentagram had actively engaged in storytelling and aligned themselves with the forces of the End. This confirmed it. They were directly connected to the End's influence. Hyerim sat alone, gripped by anxiety, wishing she had gone in Yu Hyun's place. Her thoughts spiraled as she replayed their earlier argument. She had protested his decision, demanding to take his place in the battle. Yu Hyun had calmly insisted it was his fight, not hers, and there was no need for her to be caught in it. Hyerim had reminded him that she was his collector, and collectors were supposed to fight for their tellers. For her, it was obvious that she should be the one to go. But Yu Hyun explained that if he were an ordinary teller, that logic would make sense. Since most tellers don't fight, her anxiety was understandable. He thanked her for her concern, but pointed out that her insistence stemmed from a lack of faith in him. She didn't believe he could win. She had to admit it. Her worry was rooted in doubt. Yu Hyun believed in her, but she struggled to believe in him. Then he gently placed a hand on her head, reassuring her. He promised to prove that her fears were unnecessary and that those mocking him from a distance were wrong. Now in the present, Hyerim still felt nervous, but this time, she chose to believe in him. The battle began. In an instant, Yu Hyun found himself standing in the narrow streets of Whitechapel, London. Baekryun beside him noticed something off. The opponent had vanished. Moments ago, he was clearly visible. Above them, Jack the Ripper stood silently, wondering how he should kill Yu Hyun. Then he vanished again, reappearing elsewhere, unsure if Yu Hyun had spotted him. He convinced himself it was just coincidence and that his location was still hidden. But the moment Yu Hyun turned to face him directly, Jack froze. It felt like Yu Hyun had pierced through his stealth with his gaze. Elsewhere, Argyle, watching through the system, commented sarcastically on Jack's confidence in his stealth. Jack snapped back, declaring that he would handle Yu Hyun regardless. Jack calculated that even if Yu Hyun had seen him, attacking from a blind spot would give him the advantage. Moving swiftly, he aimed to strike from behind, but Yu Hyun turned just in time and blocked the attack with his sword. Jack, stunned, leapt back and vanished again. From above, Yongwoo observed the floating book that always hovered near Jack, revealing his presence. Baekryun, amazed, asked how Yu Hyun had noticed Jack's position. Yu Hyun simply replied that he had his ways. Baekryun pointed out that now Jack knew his stealth had been seen through, and asked what Yu Hyun would do next. Yu Hyun responded that if Jack refused to come to him, then he would go to Jack instead. Without hesitation, Yu Hyun lunged forward, launching a direct attack. Jack managed to block it with his sword, but Yu Hyun mocked the idea that stealth alone could carry him through this fight. Enraged, Jack snapped, insisting he hadn't come relying solely on stealth. He vanished again and reappeared instantly behind Yu Hyun, sword raised for a deadly strike. Watching from afar, Hyerim's heart skipped a beat. But just before the blade could land, Yu Hyun calmly stepped aside, dodging it with ease. Then, Yu Hyun looked at Jack and declared that if he was done, it was now his turn to fight. Yu Hyun's owl soared through the sky and landed in the stadium, perching quietly as the intense battle unfolded. The audience erupted in shock, amazed by what they had just witnessed. They whispered among themselves, stunned that Yu Hyun had effortlessly dodged the previous attack. Many speculated that it must have been a skill that allowed such precision. At that moment, the owl activated a skill that enabled Yu Hyun to hear the audience's murmurs in real time. As he absorbed their words, he recalled seeing this skill in Baekhyun's book before and had been curious about its effects. Now that he was experiencing it firsthand, he found it impressive. Hearing their doubts fueled his determination. If this was how everyone saw him, he was ready to change every single opinion. With fierce resolve, Yu Hyun charged forward, aiming directly at Jack. Watching him approach, Jack focused, trying to predict the direction of the incoming strike. But suddenly, Yu-hyun's sword morphed into a spear mid-attack, surprising Jack and grazing his cheek. The unexpected shift startled Jack. Until now, Yu-hyun had only used a sword. The sudden change left Jack confused. When had the weapon transformed? And what kind of spearmanship was this? Jack had assumed Yu-hyun was strictly a swordsman. Still, he quickly adjusted, thinking he had now gauged the spear's reach and Yu-hyun's combat style. He admitted internally that Yu-hyun wasn't an ordinary teller and decided to take the fight seriously, believing that he was now out of the spear's range. Confident, Jack charged with the intention to stab Yu-hyun before the spear could reach him, but Yu-hyun's attack landed cleanly on Jack's shoulder, sending a wave of pain through him. Shocked, Jack couldn't understand how the spear had reached him from that distance. Yu-hyun pointed out that while Jack had been trying to evade attacks, he had clearly failed to anticipate this one. Looking closer, Jack realized the spear had extended in length mid-attack. Outraged, he accused Yu-hyun of cheating. But Yu-hyun dismissed the complaint, reminding Jack that he was the one who had initiated the battle with an unfair advantage, and the real issue was Jack's lack of skill. Furious, Jack launched another charge. His strategy now was to close the distance so Yu-hyun couldn't counter. He promised himself a brutal kill, but as he rushed in, Jack collided headfirst into a shield. The sudden impact left him stunned. It wasn't just a weapon switch, Yu-hyun's weapon itself could change form. Before Jack could react, Yu-hyun slashed at him with a sword. Jack managed to block with his dagger, but Yu-hyun pressed forward. As he raised his weapon overhead, it transformed once more into a new form mid-swing. With incredible force, Yu-hyun struck down at Jack. The audience watched in stunned silence. Murmurs spread through the crowd, questioning the nature of Yu-hyun's weapon. A weapon that could change forms, and he wielded each form with expert precision. Could he truly be a teller? Some speculated on where he might have obtained such a weapon. Mentions of Eden and Pandemonium surfaced, both known for their interest in powerful libraries. Others whispered rumors about deeper forces. Some even claimed that Deep Dark and Michael had shown interest. Elsewhere, Satan was also watching the match. He acknowledged Yu-hyun's undeniable ability to draw attention. Though slightly bitter about being rejected, his curiosity grew. Hearing the mention of Deep Dark, he wondered if the rumors were actually about him. Yu-hyun launched another swift attack toward Jack, but Jack managed to dodge by stepping aside just in time. Watching the fight, Jinpung expressed his confusion, and Argyle echoed the same, questioning Jack's strange behavior. But Jack, consumed by frustration, shouted in rage. Despite Yu-hyun cornering him this far, Jack claimed Yu-hyun had let his guard down. He believed the battle should have ended when Yu-hyun had the upper hand but failed to finish it. Fueled by anger, Jack began unleashing more aggressive energy. Argyle watched in shock as Jack began revealing his traits mid-fight. She hadn't expected him to resort to such powers against someone of employee rank. Seeing Jack take things that far, she quietly acknowledged that this round was effectively over. Jack screamed in fury, vowing not to hold back anymore. Leaping into the air, he began moving with incredible speed. His movements were so fast and chaotic that the audience couldn't follow him with their eyes. They were stunned, questioning how a collector that powerful had remained under the radar all this time. Jack taunted Yu-hyun, daring him to keep up with his speed and warning that it was too late for regrets. But Yu-hyun remained calm. In a flash, he grabbed Jack's arm mid-charge and flung him far away with overwhelming strength. As Jack crashed, Yu-hyun declared that if he had known Jack would be this underwhelming, he would have ended the battle much earlier. Lying on the ground, Jack groaned in disbelief. In his mind, this stage had been meant for him. He had seen himself as the main character, and Yu-hyun was supposed to be nothing more than a stepping stone, just a sacrifice to highlight his greatness. He couldn't accept how he had lost so completely. But Yu-hyun explained his downfall clearly. Jack had grown too drunk on his own power and stopped seeking more knowledge. That arrogance had led to his defeat. He told Jack to take a good look at the person who had defeated him, not just as a victor, but as the true main character of this stage. This victory wasn't luck. It was the expression of Yu-hyun's strength, his worth, and the power Jack had been underestimating all along. With that final declaration, Yu-hyun raised his sword and delivered the finishing blow, ending the battle. After Jack's defeat, the system announced Yu-hyun as the winner of the storytelling battle. It declared the field would disappear, and the winner would soon receive a reward. Hearing this, Yu-hyun couldn't hide his happiness. Meanwhile, Hyerim was left stunned. Blushing, she silently accepted that Yu-hyun had truly won. She regretted not believing in him earlier and finally embraced her feelings. For her, he had become irreplaceable, her light unstoppable and undeniable. From afar, Michael observed the entire battle through the system. He realized why the divine spirits had shown such interest in Yu-hyun. Despite the crowd, Yu-hyun had acted boldly. Michael anticipated that even more divine powers would begin watching him closely and started expecting greater things from him in the future. The scene then shifted to the waiting room, where Argyle was confronting Jinpung in a rage. She demanded answers, furious that their heavily invested collector had been defeated publicly by a mere rookie teller. Jinpung, trembling, claimed it shouldn't have been possible and suspected someone else might be backing Yu-hyun. Argyle, however, wasn't convinced. She shouted that even if Yoo-hyun had outside support, it wouldn't change the current disaster. The situation had spiraled beyond recovery, and someone needed to take the fall. That person, she insisted, was the one who caused all of this. Begging for forgiveness, Jinpung tried to plead his case, but Argyle remained cold. She declared that forgiveness meant nothing now. The failure had cost their department not just money, but something far worse. For her, Jinpung's existence had no further value. His lifetime of labor wouldn't be enough to repay the damage. Jinpung protested, unable to believe that his worth had become so low, but Argyle dismissed his desperation as pathetic. She stripped him of all rights to the library, claiming she was already being generous due to his status as her junior. According to her, she was sparing him a life worse than slavery by doing this. As Jinpung mentally broke down, he reflected on how things had turned out like this. He realized that Yoo-hyun had been confident of victory from the beginning. Yoo-hyun had known everything. Jinpung had never been the hunter. He had always been the prey. Suddenly, Jinpung vanished. Right after, Yoo-hyun entered the room. Seeing him, Argyle welcomed him warmly, introducing herself as a member of the pentagram department. Yoo-hyun returned the greeting politely and introduced himself as Kang Yoo-hyun. Argyle praised his performance in the fight, calling it impressive. Yoo-hyun admitted he wasn't sure how to respond to such compliments, but quickly shifted the subject and asked about Jinpung. He mentioned wanting to speak with him. Argyle responded with a cold truth. Jinpung no longer existed. He had lost a storytelling battle with his life at stake. According to her, his death was inevitable from the start. Yoo-hyun, however, pointed out something strange. Although he had earned the right to decide Jinpung's fate, he had never chosen death. That choice was not his command. Argyle explained that such outcomes were simply how storytelling battles worked, especially for a first-timer like him. But Yoo-hyun wasn't convinced and called out her explanation as nonsense. Argyle, slightly taken aback, questioned what she just heard. Yoo-hyun repeated himself firmly. He accused her of acting beyond her rights, questioning whether such behavior was normal in the pentagram department. Argyle, though still defensive, reminded him that she ranked higher and deserved proper respect. Yoo-hyun acknowledged her superior status, but emphasized that rank didn't excuse injustice. She had interfered with Jinpung, who belonged to him, making it a clear abuse of power. Realizing her misstep, Argyle apologized. Admitting she had made a serious mistake, she decided to compensate Yoo-hyun. She transferred 800 TP points to him and asked if that amount was satisfactory. Yoo-hyun recognized Argyle, the teller from the pentagram department. He remembered her vividly, a psychopath who laughed at the sight of people dying. The memory of her gathering those who rejected the trial, only to unleash a blood-soaked storm while laughing, was burned into his mind. She had looked down on the corpses as if they were less than insects. It was something he could never forget. Smiling, Yoo-hyun acknowledged the points he received, noting that it seemed to reflect Jinpung's value. He remarked on how difficult it must have been for Argyle to manage such a junior. Argyle responded with a smile, claiming that she was fine since she was a benevolent person. Yoo-hyun then shifted the topic, mentioning rumors of a department being in contact with Exodus. As one of the forces ruling over mixed worlds, Exodus thrived on the despair and anguish of the lower realms. Yoo-hyun believed the pentagram department had ties with them. Even when Genius Incorporated surrendered Earth's storytelling rights, leading other departments to collapse, Pentagram continued their storytelling as if unaffected. Argyle cautiously questioned why he was telling her this, hinting that others might misunderstand her connection to Exodus. Yoo-hyun calmly explained that he only meant to warn her in case they approached her, apologizing if it sounded otherwise. He then mentioned needing to leave and claimed the library that once belonged to Jinpung. Argyle saw him off cheerfully. As Yoo-hyun stepped outside, his thoughts lingered on Argyle. Unlike Jinpung, she was far more composed and concealed her true nature well. She wouldn't expose any information regarding the pentagram department. Just their rumored connection to Exodus was enough to show they were a powerful force. The fact that they managed to raise someone like Kim Han-jung without detection by the divine spirits said everything. He knew he couldn't deal with them alone, but things had changed. Pulling out a book from his hand, he reminded himself that the current situation was different from before. The scene transitioned to Baekwa management, where Suryeon scolded Yoo-hyun and Hirim. She expressed frustration over not being informed ahead of time. Hearing that the teller and collector who went to the mind realm just to earn some money ended up in a storytelling battle had left her shocked. Yoo-hyun and Hirim apologized. Seeing their regret, Suryeon decided to let it go. After all, they had returned victorious, and that was the best news she could have asked for. Hirim, full of pride, added that Yoo-hyun was truly amazing. Yoo-hyun informed them that the library's capacity had increased after merging and that the divine spirits seemed pleased. Still, he noticed Suryeon appeared more cheerful than usual and asked if something good had happened. Suryeon smiled, surprised that he had picked up on her mood so quickly. She teased that since he was clearly dying of curiosity, she would share the news. Though Yoo-hyun denied being curious, Suryeon insisted. She revealed that today was payday. Hiram, surprised, asked for confirmation. Suryeon nodded and informed them that the payment for the month had been sent with taxes deducted as per their agreement. She asked them to check it. Hiram quickly opened her phone and gasped. She excitedly told Yoo-hyun that she was now rich. Yoo-hyun playfully commented on how jealous he was of her ability to get excited over such a small amount. He reminded her that most of it was actually a reward from the government for clearing the mind realm. Suryan added more good news. Thanks to Hiram's growing fame, they were receiving a flood of requests for commercials and interviews. The total contract fees for the signed deals had already exceeded 200 million won. Hearing this, Hiram was shocked. Suryan continued, explaining that with this money, not only could they pay off the office debt, but they could also afford luxuries like coffee and green tea in the office. Hiram eagerly asked if they could now eat different types of ramyun too. Hearing their excitement, Baekryun turned to Yoo-hyun and asked why they were acting like that. Yoo-hyun replied that it was best to leave them be. After all, both of them had grown up poor. For now, Baekwa management was alive and full of energy. Yoo-hyun began reviewing his notifications, realizing one from Celestial Body Inc. had been buried under the flood of alerts from the storytelling battle. It turned out he had completed a long-term mission. Delighted, he understood this meant a promotion, recognition for his role in the recent events. He figured he was now a senior associate, though it meant he'd soon have to visit headquarters. The only issue was the time the promotion ceremony would take. Still, he acknowledged that his rapid growth had caused this. Just then, Hiram noticed something and asked him about it. Yoo-hyun shared the news of his promotion, prompting both Hiram and Suryan to congratulate him warmly. He thanked them and asked how work was going. Suryan explained that most of it had been handled, but some tasks remained. She still had to revise the interview schedule and meet with advertisers to finalize ad concepts. Handling the byproducts from the mind realm also required additional time. Yoo-hyun noted that she'd become even busier going forward, which would be quite demanding. Suryan replied that it was manageable since Hiram now had to meet with business clients. Taking the conversation further, Yoo-hyun suggested they begin right away. He asked if Suryan was free at that moment. She confirmed and asked why. Without hesitation, Yoo-hyun proposed they go on a date, catching Suryan completely off guard. As the two headed out, Suryan asked why he would say something like that in front of Hiram. Yoo-hyun admitted that he had meant to tease Hiram for acting out lately, but perhaps the effect was stronger than he expected. He then brought up her ongoing struggle to find a company to process the mind realm byproducts. Surprised, Suryan asked how he knew. Yoo-hyun explained that although their agency had grown fast, it was still tough for an unknown company to secure contracts. She admitted that was true, though she believed time would help. Yoo-hyun disagreed. He said waiting too long would hurt their chances, and emphasized the need to sign a deal soon to build trust. He offered his help, saying that if a teller showed up in person, it would be harder for companies to dismiss them. Grateful, Suryan accepted, and said there was a company she had in mind, but there was a problem. She asked if he would hear her out. As they sat down for coffee, Suryan opened up about her past. Her family had once been affluent and peaceful, even though she was raised without a mother. Her older brother had been a respected collector, known as a rising star with many allies and a good reputation. But everything changed when he died in an accident. What followed was worse. Several other collectors were injured or killed during that time, including members of major clans. One of those clans sued her late brother, blaming him for everything. Though he was no longer alive to defend himself, the court ruled in favor of the powerful clan. Her family was left buried in debt. Yoo-hyun considered how the court likely had no choice but to side with the influential clan. He could sense how deeply Suryan believed in her brother's goodness. He had been more just and kind than anyone, devoted to family and openly critical of the current direction of society. Yoo-hyun asked whether her brother had opposed the mind realms. Suryan confirmed that he believed they should not be maintained. That single detail made everything clearer to Yoo-hyun. The powerful clans had a strong interest in preserving the mind realms. It was likely that this opposition had led them to target Suryan's brother. He suspected the accident that killed him may not have been accidental at all. He resolved to investigate it soon. At that moment, someone approached them. Recognizing Suryan, the person greeted her warmly. They expressed surprise at seeing her and mentioned feeling sad after she left the clan. They then questioned whether her small management company could actually make any money. Yoo-hyun turned to Suryan and asked who the man was. Suryan introduced him as her senior, John Kwang-seok, someone she had worked with at her previous job. John glanced at Yoo-hyun with condescension, questioning if this fragile-looking man was a collector under contract. He mocked Suryan's success, calling it impressive during a labor shortage, as most personal management agencies failed quickly. He wondered what method she used to secure Yoo-hyun, suggesting it was a contract-related meeting. Doubting her capabilities, he asked if she could even manage a collector. Introducing himself as John Kwang-seok of the Hanwol clan, he assumed everyone had heard of them. Yoo-hyun calmly stated his name, prompting John to dismiss him for being unfamiliar. He asked if Yoo-hyun had awakened recently, inquired about his collector rank, and noted the absence of weapons or gear. Irritated, Yoo-hyun told him to back off. Offended, John demanded how someone so young dared to speak to him that way. Yoo-hyun didn't hold back and admitted he wanted to punch him and send dust flying, only restraining himself out of respect for Suryan. But Jeon's attitude was pushing limits. Jeon, now fuming, reminded Yoo-hyun that he was a Hanwol clan member and questioned how a no-name collector could threaten him. Yoo-hyun replied that insulting Jeon was no different than insulting himself. and he wouldn't tolerate it. John then mocked their relationship, implying that Suryan had used personal means to win Yoo-hyun over. He said he would have entertained the idea himself if she had acted like that while still at his company. Calling it a shame, he laughed cruelly. Unable to bear more, Yoo-hyun punched John in the face, stunning everyone around them. John, shocked and enraged, yelled about the severity of attacking a citizen. He threatened to sue and ordered someone named Hyunsuk to call the special unit. Yoo-hyun calmly revealed that it would be pointless, as he wasn't a collector and hadn't broken any laws. He was a teller, and collector laws didn't apply to him. This revelation shocked the surrounding crowd. With a cold tone, Yoo-hyun urged John to continue saying what he had earlier. At that moment, John's men surrounded Yoo-hyun and warned him to stop, threatening to act if he didn't. Yoo-hyun challenged them to draw their weapons, warning that the moment they did, they would all die by his hands. His presence and confidence were overwhelming, and within seconds, the men backed off and ran away in fear. After the tension settled, Yoo-hyun turned to Suryan and asked if she found him trustworthy. She replied that she couldn't stop him and asked why he had chosen her. Yoo-hyun told her she was perfect for the role and he believed she would succeed. Tellers had the unique ability to recognize someone's talent. Suryan confessed that after the lawsuit, she had been blacklisted by major clans and faced difficulties in finding companies to handle the byproducts. Yoo-hyun asked if she resented her brother. Suryan admitted she did initially, but over time, she realized he wasn't a bad person. He was simply dedicated and hardworking, which had threatened those in power. Yoo-hyun questioned if she planned to accept such injustice silently. Suryan hesitated, unsure of how she could fight back against such influential people. Yoo-hyun acknowledged the challenge but assured her that he would help. He proposed that they disrupt the current system, stir chaos, and prove they weren't wrong. Though it may have sounded absurd, he was confident she would change her mind. He suggested they start by finding a company to manage the byproducts and extended his hand to her. Suryan grasped his hand and warned him that he might regret it. Yoo-hyun simply responded that he was the kind of person who acts first and regrets later. Suryan looked at Yoo-hyun, surprised by how easily he had achieved something she struggled with despite all her efforts. Yoo-hyun simply replied that he had only done what he could. Doubt crept into Suryan's voice as she wondered if he even needed her as a manager anymore. But Yoo-hyun reassured her, telling her she was only weak in that particular situation and reminded her that they were in this together. They were already on the same path, supporting each other. He suggested they head back before Hyerim got impatient. Suryan proposed buying something before returning. The scene shifted to the next day. Yoo-hyun stood, lost in thought, believing the matter would soon be resolved. At that moment, Suryan appeared with Hyerim, now fully prepared. Hyerim asked Yoo-hyun for his opinion on her look, and he told her she looked even more beautiful than usual. Suryan teased him, calling him a total player. They arrived at a large building, and Hyerim was impressed by its size. Yoo-hyun explained it was one of the nation's top 3 magazines, and reminded her not to worry while also protecting her public image. Approaching the front desk, Yoo-hyun greeted a man and mentioned they were there for the Sword Empress's interview. The man directed them to take the elevator to the 7th floor. Upon seeing Hyerim, the man became visibly flustered. Before parting, Suryan asked if Yoo-hyun and Hyerim would be fine without her, as she had something else to handle in the lobby. Yoo-hyun nodded in agreement. Inside, a lady welcomed them warmly. She asked Yoo-hyun about himself, and he introduced himself as Kang Yoo-hyun, there to support collector Kang Hyerim. The lady revealed her name as Shin Ga-ryong, team leader of the department responsible for collecting magazine. Yoo-hyun recognized her as a friend of Suryan. Shin suggested beginning the Kwanda session. She brought up Hyerim's recent record of clearing multiple mind realms, a rare achievement among collectors, and asked about her goals behind this unusual path. Hyerim stated that she didn't need a specific reason. She was simply fulfilling her duty as a collector. Shin noted that Hyerim was now being called the Sword Empress and asked how she felt about it, along with any future plans. Hyerim responded positively. Impressed by her composure, Shin mentioned that many collectors in the past behaved arrogantly, unlike her. Then, shifting tone slightly, Shin shared a rumor she'd heard about a teller spending time among humans. She noted how rare that was, and even more so because the teller had given up the divine protection over his body to enter mind realms alongside a collector. Yoo-hyun realized that Shin had known it was him all along. He confirmed it, openly admitting he was the teller in that spreading urban legend. Shin lit up, pleased that her assumption was right. She apologized if her questioning had seemed rude, clarifying it stemmed from personal curiosity, not a journalist's intent. Yoo-hyun invited her to ask what she truly wanted to know. Shin asked why he entered the mind realms. Yoo-hyun casually responded that it was the best way to gain popularity. Shin agreed, but noted she didn't believe that was his only reason, especially considering the criticism and hatred he faced. Yoo-hyun said no explanation would make sense right now. He admitted he had personal goals, but now he was chasing something even bigger. With that, he decided to end the interview, reminding everyone that the true star of the day was the Sword Empress, not him. Shin accepted that and wrapped up the session. As a playful aside, she mentioned wanting a connection where she could contact Yoo-hyun personally, then laughed it off as a joke. After the interview ended, Yoo-hyun returned to Suryan. She asked him how it went, casually mentioning that the interviewer was a bit of a prankster but probably didn't go overboard. Yoo-hyun replied that it went well overall, though the lobby seemed unusually noisy. As the commotion grew, people nearby started murmuring about a famous collector named Kyung-soo who had just arrived. His popularity seemed to outshine even most other top collectors. Noticing the buzz, Baekryun asked Yoo-hyun what was going on with him. Yoo-hyun brushed it off, saying it wasn't any of his concern. Turning back to Suryeon, Yoo-hyun told her it was time to go. But Suryeon seemed momentarily dazed, asking herself what she had just been doing. Holding a book belonging to Kyung-soo, Yoo-hyun began to suspect something was off. It had only lasted a moment, but it seemed Suryeon had been momentarily bewitched by the man. He questioned what exactly Kyung-soo's ability was, and upon reading, discovered the answer. His trait was labeled as Casanova. That explained why Suryeon had lost focus so briefly. Just then, Kyung-soo approached them directly and greeted Hiram with charming words. Introducing himself as Ju Kyung-soo, known publicly as artist, he complimented her beauty and said he had heard about her reputation as the Sword Empress. He added that she was even more stunning than he expected, comparing her to a white lotus floating on a calm lake. Hiram responded calmly. Yoo-hyun observed that even Kyung-soo's Casanova trait had no effect on Hiram's mental strength. Baekryun, overhearing the exchange, asked Yoo-hyun if he noticed Kyung-soo had specifically come after hearing about Hiram's beauty. Yoo-hyun realized that was indeed the case. Kyung-soo had come just for her. Stepping forward, Yoo-hyun interrupted, telling Kyung-soo to back off as Hiram was feeling uncomfortable. Kyung-soo demanded to know who he was. Yoo-hyun replied that he was her manager. Kyung-soo scoffed, mocking the idea that a mere manager would try to stop him. He reminded them that he was Ju Kyung-soo, a nationally famous collector. Yoo-hyun stood firm, saying that fame didn't matter. He asked Kyung-soo not to come near his collector, as she clearly didn't like it. Kyung-soo arrogantly claimed that no woman in the world disliked him. There were only women who didn't know him yet. Fuming inside, Yoo-hyun thought this was the first time he actually missed the chaos of the lawless end. The tension broke when Hiram spoke up, telling Kyung-soo he was being a nuisance. He quickly shifted tone, saying that if the beautiful lady requested it, he would stop. Still, he asked if she'd have tea with him if she had time. Hiram rejected the offer firmly, saying she had no time for that. Kyung-soo insisted she didn't need to be shy and offered to give advice as her senior if there was anything troubling her as a collector. Hiram replied that there was nothing and asked him to leave immediately. Kyung-soo's demeanor changed. Saying he had been trying to remain polite, he suddenly threw a glove toward Hiram. She caught it instantly. It was a formal challenge. With excitement rippling through the crowd, people began shouting that artist Kyung-soo had challenged the Sword Empress to a duel. Supporters urged him to win. Concerned, Baekryun turned to Yoo-hyun and asked if it was even acceptable for collectors to fight each other. Yoo-hyun explained that the government actually preferred head-to-head duels over long-standing grudges that could lead to criminal acts. However, he admitted he didn't want to accept the duel since it had been Kyung-soo who unilaterally picked the fight. Baekryun pointed out that it didn't seem like Hiram wanted to back down anyway. Yoo-hyun then walked over to Hiram and told her she could agree to the duel. Surprised, Hiram confirmed his words. Yoo-hyun reminded her that she didn't want to step aside in this situation anyway. Hearing this, Hiram smiled, stepped forward, and accepted Kyung-soo's challenge. In his mind, Kyung-soo felt everything was falling into place. Challenging Hiram publicly meant she couldn't refuse without harming her pride. She was lower ranked than him, so victory seemed certain. To him, power was the ultimate solution to any minor problem. As a proud member of the prestigious Hesiod clan, he believed no rising newcomer like her could stand a chance. He imagined humiliating the so-called Sword Empress in front of the crowd and forcing her to fall for him. The thought alone made him grin. Yoo-hyun then approached Hiram and whispered something to her. Hiram turned to Kyung-soo and stated that she would accept the duel, but not immediately. It would take place in 3 days. Kyung-soo silently scoffed at the delay, finding it amusing. He thought she was being naive if she believed anything would change in just 3 days. Aloud, he agreed to the new schedule and added that they could let the association assign the location. With that, he left confidently. Yoo-hyun observed Kyung-soo's arrogance and thought it stemmed from being backed by the great divine force Olympus. But he knew they would crush that pride in 3 days. Just then, Shin arrived and asked what all the noise was about. Suryeon informed her that a collector named Kyung-soo had just visited. Upon hearing the name, Shin's expression darkened. Yoo-hyun asked if she knew him. Shin confirmed immediately. She recalled how uncomfortable his gaze and behavior had been during her interview with him. He had constantly stared at her, making her uneasy. Yoo-hyun realized that Kyung-soo had acted inappropriately with Shin as well. Shin added that there were rumors about Kyung-soo misusing his clan's power for shady dealings. Curious, she asked what he had done to them. Yoo-hyun replied that it wasn't much. He had merely challenged Hiram to a duel, which she accepted. Shin was stunned. Although Hiram was a promising talent, there was still a considerable gap between her and Kyung-soo. Yoo-hyun reassured her that they weren't acting recklessly. They had something planned. He explained that if the Sword Empress, who had recently given an exclusive interview to Shin's magazine, managed to defeat a mid-level collector like Kyung-soo, It would become a significant news story. Shin realized their intention and asked if they were trying to turn the situation in their favor. Yoo-hyun admitted it and requested her help in promoting the event through her media contacts. Amused by his audacity, Shin commented that he was even bolder than she had imagined. Still, she agreed to help and left shortly after. Hyerim then turned to Yoo-hyun, thanking him for allowing her to accept the duel. Yoo-hyun clarified that he gave permission because he believed she could win. Hyerim, still curious, asked why he delayed the duel for 3 days. Yoo-hyun explained that they needed time to build hype and attract attention. While Hyerim prepared for the fight, news would begin to spread. The delay wasn't hesitation, it was strategy. Outside Suryan's office, a large group of reporters had gathered, eagerly shouting questions about the upcoming match with Artist. They wanted to know how she felt heading into the duel. Watching the scene unfold from her window, Suryan muttered about Shin's involvement. She noted that Shin was usually selective and only entertained requests from people she genuinely liked. Yoo-hyun commented that it was fortunate Shin seemed to favor him. In his thoughts, he acknowledged that while Hyerim had some recognition among divine spirits, her name still hadn't reached the public. This duel would be the perfect chance to change that. As he glanced back at Hyerim, Yoo-hyun thought about how ready she was. He was confident that Kang Hyerim would become an even greater collector than she had been in her past life. He couldn't remain fixated on the past. They had to move forward, surpass her former limits, and transcend everything she had once been. This battle was a step toward that goal. On the day of the duel, spectators began filling the arena. Watching the crowd through the system interface, Yoo-hyun admitted the turnout was overwhelming. He asked Suryan if she felt nervous. She responded with disbelief, stunned by the massive crowd and the unexpected presence of major media companies. Yoo-hyun explained that he had only asked Shin to spread the word. Judging by the buzz, Artist likely publicized it further. Collector duels and storytelling battles were rare events, so public interest naturally surged. Suryan, now visibly anxious, clutched her stomach and admitted the nerves were getting to her. When Yoo-hyun casually asked if she needed the restroom, she snapped in embarrassment, reminding him that it was just a stomachache. Looking around, Yoo-hyun noticed the premium seats filling with important figures. There were many members from major clans and even several famous collectors in attendance. Baekryun observed that Yoo-hyun didn't seem nervous. He clarified that he was, but just didn't show it. Most importantly, the fight wasn't his. It was the Sword Empress's. As Hyerim finished getting ready, Yoo-hyun smiled at her, then playfully punched her on the head. She flinched and asked what he was doing. He told her the hit was meant to hurt a little, hoping it might reduce her nerves. Though annoyed, she admitted he should have warned her. He replied that warnings would make it less effective. Smiling softly, Hyerim thanked him. Soon, both Kyungsoo and Hyerim stood face to face inside the arena. The system displayed the current Divine Spirit viewers, 4,500 and climbing, as the battlefield began forming. An official voice explained the duel rules. The match would end if one participant surrendered or became unable to fight. The created field was inhabited by various monsters, and participants could earn points by defeating them. Stronger monsters gave higher points, with boss-level creatures yielding the most. The duel would last for 3 hours, and if no clear winner emerged, the victor would be decided based on total points. Murder was strictly forbidden. Violating that rule would result in severe punishment under association regulations. With that, the duel officially began. Almost immediately, a loud explosion erupted on Kyungsoo's side. The announcer declared that Artist had slain a large monster right at the start, earning 150 points. The crowd erupted in excitement, especially the women cheering for him. Meanwhile, a few spectators noticed that Hyerim hadn't moved. She was standing still, prompting whispers about whether she had already given up. At that moment, Hyerim opened her eyes. Kyungsoo, caught off guard, sensed something approaching. Before he could react, Hyerim launched a sudden, fierce sword attack. Kyungsoo quickly raised his own weapon to block it. Kyungsoo, stunned by the attack, couldn't believe the Sword Empress had ignored the monsters and targeted him directly from the start. The announcer voiced the crowd's confusion, declaring that the Sword Empress seemed to want a direct duel with Artist instead of following the usual rules of monster hunting. Infuriated, Kyungsoo activated his powers, refusing to be underestimated. Hyerim, in turn, intensified her own energy. Kyungsoo was rattled. He couldn't comprehend where such overwhelming force was coming from. The sheer pressure from both their powers began to crack the ground beneath them. Spectators watched in disbelief, murmuring among themselves. Many had heard of her strength, but no one expected this level of dominance. Hyerim felt exhilarated. Crushing someone who had belittled her, unleashing the power she had long suppressed, and tasting the freedom in combat. This is what she had wanted. It was a glimpse into what Yoo-hyun must have once felt. She spun her sword with precision, slashing across Kyungsoo's cheek. Enraged, he shouted about the damage to his face and charged forward. But Hyerim swiftly struck his hand, knocking his sword to the ground. Without pausing, she jumped and landed a crushing knee to his face, causing blood to spill from his mouth. The audience gasped at the brutal assault. Realizing he was losing, Kyungsoo panicked. He couldn't allow himself to be defeated by a lower-ranked collector. He tried to focus. If he could stay calm, he could predict her moves and counter them. Just as he tried to regain control, Hiram dashed toward him. Believing this was his moment, he readied himself, but she sidestepped at the last second and circled behind him. His frustration boiled. Was she toying with him? Fueled by rage, Kyungsoo launched a desperate attack. But Hiram struck first, landing a powerful punch to his face, then delivering a rapid series of blows. Both Yuhyun and Suhyun were shocked by the ferocity. Hiram didn't stop. She continued hammering Kyungsoo with punches, not giving him a single chance to surrender. Girls in the audience began whispering in surprise. They had believed Kyungsoo to be powerful, but now saw he had relied only on his looks and arrogance. Others questioned why the fight wasn't being stopped, but officials couldn't intervene. Hiram was relentless, not even allowing him a moment to utter surrender. Finally, she clasped her fists together and slammed them into Kyungsoo's face with devastating force. The impact caused an explosion across the battlefield. Kyungsoo collapsed, completely defeated. The announcer declared the match complete. The Sword Empress had emerged victorious. The battlefield's disabling field slowly deactivated as silence fell over the stunned arena. Argyle silently observed the match and noted Hiram's timing, unleashing hidden strength precisely when it mattered most. It was clear to her that someone had instructed Hiram, and she had no doubt it was Kang Yuhyun. Though she originally wanted Yuhyun to fail, the outcome left her bitter. The desire to tear apart his calm, smug face surged within her, but she knew that any rash action could backfire, giving Yuhyun the upper hand. So she restrained herself, determined to wait patiently for the right opportunity. Meanwhile, Hiram reunited with Yuhyun and Suryun. Suryun, overwhelmed with joy, praised Hiram's incredible performance and how the audience had reacted enthusiastically. Hiram smiled and thanked her warmly. Yuhyun also complimented her, telling her how impressive she had been, and the words touched Hiram deeply. She responded with a grateful smile. Elsewhere, a tense meeting was underway inside a formal conference hall. Members discussed the threat Hiram posed. Many feared that if they allowed the Sword Empress to continue unchecked, they could lose countless mind realms. Yet, with public support on her side, taking direct action against her was nearly impossible. Frustrated, they questioned whether they were supposed to do nothing and simply accept the situation. Among them sat Lin Gunwoo, a member of a high-ranking third-level collector clan. He addressed the others with a calm, yet dismissive tone, suggesting they let things unfold naturally, confident the factions would eventually turn on each other. Another attendee challenged Gunwoo, reminding him that even if he was there unwillingly, he should still participate seriously. Gunwoo kept his thoughts to himself. He reflected on how he wouldn't have attended if not for the clan leader's command. He disliked how these people manipulated the mind realms and were plotting to exclude the Sword Empress. To him, this place was filled with gluttonous, self-serving men, and he felt out of place among them. Back at Baekwa Management, Suryun scrolled through her phone in awe. Online platforms were flooded with discussions about Hiram. Suryun hoped that Hiram's popularity would only grow and that Baekwa Management would continue receiving endless collaboration offers. Hiram then turned to Yuhyun and asked what had been on his mind. Yuhyun responded with a decision. He wanted to bring in one more collector. His sudden declaration surprised both Hiram and Suryun, leaving them momentarily speechless. Tears welled up in Hiram's eyes as she mumbled about being abandoned. Yuhyun responded calmly, trying to clarify that he had never left her. But Hiram, feeling betrayed, reminded him that he once claimed she was the only one he needed. Yuhyun explained that while their duo worked fine for now, it wouldn't be sustainable for larger mind realms. Sooner or later, they would need someone new. He reassured her that it wasn't urgent yet, but eventually another collector would be necessary. He even suggested that with Hiram's rising rank, it might be nice for her to have a junior and be treated as a senior. Cheered up, Hiram agreed playfully, declaring that she would overlook the situation with the generosity of a senior. Suryun then asked Yuhyun who he had in mind for the new member. Yuhyun admitted that he hadn't decided yet. In his thoughts, Yuhyun recalled the other two prodigies from the same generation as the Sword Empress, Flame Knight and Bang Sang. The Flame Knight was currently active in America and likely didn't have a teller contract. Bang Sang's identity remained a mystery, making them difficult to track. Baekryun suggested he use his knowledge of the future to find someone new. Yuhyun replied that while there were many potential candidates, the timing wasn't right. Some hadn't awakened yet, while others had already been claimed. Signing a contract with an unknown collector was too risky, making the task harder than he had expected. Baekryun pointed out that his standards were high and the current situation wasn't favorable. She asked what he planned to do next. Yuhyun thought about the upcoming collector completion ceremony, a key event where newly awakened collectors entered the recruitment market. He considered that it might be the perfect opportunity to find a hidden gem, someone powerful who hadn't yet realized their true potential and remained unnoticed by others. Just then, a system notification appeared. A video call began, showing a strange monster-like figure. The figure congratulated Yuhyun, mentioning his upcoming promotion to senior associate. Confused by the caller, Suryun asked who it was. Yuhyun admitted he had never seen them before and suggested they step aside. Upon spotting a horn, Yuhyun suddenly recognized the figure and asked if it was the same horned person he had met during the entrance ceremony. The figure clarified their name. It was Alicia. Yuhyun was surprised at the transformation. The once tiny creature had grown into a stunning figure, now appearing as a red demi-human. Trying to shift the conversation, Yuhyun greeted her and asked about her current assignment. Alicia explained she had entered the department successfully and was now working on a planet named Altalon, a world where swordsmanship and magic coexisted. She was receiving help from her seniors and progressing well. Yuhyun noted that she must be skilled to be assigned to a fantasy realm. Alicia confidently shared her success, boasting that she had already reached 500 viewers in her library. She had a strong collector, once known as a bad boy, now top tier. Yuhyun guessed he might be a noble, and Alicia was surprised he got it right, confirming her collector came from a county. Impressed, Alicia asked how Yuhyun knew so much. Yuhyun silently noted that Alicia had chosen a bad boy protagonist for her storyline. Alicia then brought up the Teller forum and asked if Yuhyun had checked it lately. He hadn't. She urged him to take a look, saying something strange seemed to be happening because of him. She ended the call quickly, saying she was busy. Puzzled, Yuhyun reflected on what she said. He wondered what strange event she was referring to. Suddenly, a system prompt revealed that a teller had died attempting to copy his methods. Shocked, Yuhyun reviewed everything in his system. He hadn't expected it, but a serious incident had indeed occurred. He considered the consequences. Those who thought mimicking him was an easy path to success were now facing disastrous outcomes. Still, he believed the results weren't entirely bad. Many had already given up their blessings. Bakrion asked if he was worried. Yuhyun, half serious, remarked that watching a teller suffer after giving up their blessing could make for an entertaining story. Bakrion, unimpressed, questioned if he was truly being serious. The next day began with Hiram asking Yuhyun if he really had to go alone. Yuhyun explained that reporters and paparazzi were still after her due to her duel with Artist. To avoid distractions and handle everything swiftly, he needed to go by himself. Activating his hidden presence skill, he left quietly. Arriving at the ceremony location, Yuhyun saw a large crowd. Bakrion, surprised by the number of people, commented on the turnout. Yuhyun noted that many ordinary spectators had gathered, along with representatives from major clans. Bakrion expressed concern over the fierce competition. The major clans already had inside information, likely giving them the advantage in identifying promising collectors. Yuhyun reassured her, saying he wasn't searching for the obvious choices. He reminded her that even Hiram was once overlooked by the clans. While higher ranks often signaled more talent, even the most advanced curriculum couldn't fully measure someone's potential. He suggested they try finding a hidden gem themselves. Bakrion agreed and followed his lead. As the day wore on and evening approached, Bakrion asked if anyone had caught his interest. Most of the crowd had already left. Yuhyun admitted that everyone he had seen possessed only average qualities. He was hoping for at least a gold-colored aura. Just then, something unusual caught his eye. Darting toward the sight, Yuhyun questioned whether he had imagined it. He caught up to a girl and was stunned. Before him stood someone carrying not just one, but an entire rainbow bookshelf of books, something incredibly rare. Typically, a person would possess only one book, but her collection hinted at limitless reincarnations or regressions. After introducing himself, Yuhyun asked for her name. The girl, clearly irritated, snapped at him and warned him to back off or face the consequences. But Yuhyun, rather than being upset, was thrilled. Her aggressive line was something divine spirits adored, especially among regressors aiming for speedruns. He guessed she had just completed the collector completion ceremony and introduced himself as Kang Yuhyun from Baekwa Management. The girl coldly asked what he wanted. Yuhyun offered her a proposal, but she refused, stating she was busy. When he placed a hand on her shoulder, she warned him once more and walked away. Watching this, Bakrion questioned whether Yuhyun had dashed off just for that girl. She guessed the girl must be highly talented or possibly someone he recognized from the future. Yuhyun explained that he didn't know her. If someone possessed a bookshelf like that, they should be famous. But her presence didn't match any of his memories from after the end, suggesting something was off. Deciding not to press further for now, Yuhyun suggested they return. He told Bakrion he needed to meet that girl again. Bakrion reminded him that she hadn't even given her name. Holding one of her books in his hand, Yuhyun smiled confidently and assured her they would definitely cross paths again soon. Inside Baekwa Management, Yuhyun asked Suryan to research someone named Kwanji Ah from the recent training school graduates. Suryan confirmed if this was the person he intended to recruit. Yuhyun affirmed it and Suryan acknowledged, promising to look into it. Yuhyun silently reflected on how he had hoped to gather information through her book, but one book alone wasn't enough. Just then, Hiram, standing behind, noted that Jia sounded like a female name. Yuhyun confirmed it, explaining that the collector was a woman. Hearing this, Hiram began crying like a child. Yuhyun clarified that his decision wasn't based on gender. It was simply that the collector he chose happened to be a woman. Soon after, Suryan returned with results. She asked Yuhyun if he was sure about choosing Jia. He confirmed again. Suryan then explained that among 359 graduates, Jia ranked 340. Her overall training evaluation wasn't promising, though she had high scores in individual combat and fighting monsters. However, her evaluations in personality and teamwork were terrible. Yu-hyun added that it seemed she had even gotten into a fight during training. Suryan confirmed this, mentioning she was nearly expelled and barely graduated. Despite defeating higher-ranked collectors and showing clear talent, her personality had caused rumors to spread. Because of that, no one tried to recruit her. She asked again if Yu-hyun really thought Jia was the right choice. He answered firmly, yes, he did. In his thoughts, Yu-hyun compared her several books and the light surrounding her to Hyerim's. He felt Kwon Jia might be even more talented. Suryan asked if he planned to recruit her immediately. Yu-hyun replied that there was no need to rush. He'd approach her after the promotion ceremony. With that, he stepped out. When Suryan asked where he was headed, Yu-hyun simply said he had someone to meet. Soon, Yu-hyun stood in front of a street food stall named Waiting at the Door. He thought the name was unusual for a restaurant. Stepping inside, he approached a woman and asked if she was Choi Do-yoon's mother. She responded asking how he knew her son. Yu-hyun introduced himself as the person who had contacted her earlier about Do-yoon. They sat down and she asked if he knew where her son was. Yu-hyun admitted he didn't. But when she realized he at least knew Do-yoon's name, she took it as a sign that he was alive. Yu-hyun confirmed it. Relieved, she expressed her gratitude and asked his name. Yu-hyun introduced himself as Kang Yu-hyun and requested that she not call him something as heavy as a savior. He described himself simply as a teller who had come out of curiosity about Choi Do-yoon's family. Curious, she asked how a teller came to know her son. In his thoughts, Yu-hyun explained that tellers traveled to worlds beyond Earth and heard stories from other dimensions and planets. He admitted he didn't know Do-yoon's current condition in that other world, but he did know that Do-yoon survived until the end and eventually returned to Earth. Reflecting on Do-yoon's tragic personality, Yu-hyun realized it likely stemmed from the complete destruction of his hometown. The woman sitting before him, he knew, had died during the trials of the end. Do-yoon's mother began to speak. She said Do-yoon was always mature for his age. Her husband had passed away before Do-yoon was born, so he grew up without a father but never gave her trouble. She always felt apologetic toward him. Even a mature child was still a child with dreams and desires, but she had been unable to do anything for him. When he went missing, it felt like her world had fallen apart. As a mother who had done nothing and then lost her son, she felt crushed. If Do-yoon was still alive, she hoped he had met good people and was living a better life. She believed that even if he returned to a poor mother running a street food stall, he wouldn't be happy. Yu-hyun calmly responded, understanding the mother's guilt toward her son, but he explained that hoping her son was happy in another world was asking too much. He wasn't sure what Choi Do-yoon had truly felt, but he believed Do-yoon endured everything while thinking of his mother. Though Yu-hyun had confirmed that Do-yoon was alive, he had never said the boy was happy. That distinction, he hoped she would understand. Despite having the power to chase wealth and fame in another world, Do-yoon had chosen to return to Earth. It wasn't for glory, but simply because she was his family. Yu-hyun believed Do-yoon was working hard just to meet her again. Hearing that, the mother broke into tears. She agreed. They were family, and Do-yoon must want to see her just as much. She thanked Yu-hyun for helping her realize how meaningless her doubts had been. Then, almost knowingly, she added that Yu-hyun seemed to understand her son unusually well. Yu-hyun downplayed it, saying he had only heard stories about Do-yoon from others. The woman smiled gently, wondering if Do-yoon had made a good friend. Yu-hyun, thinking to himself, noted how she had caught on to something. His own mother had been like that. All mothers, he thought, were sharp in their own way. She then invited him to stay for a meal. But before he could respond, some rough-looking men stormed into the shop, demanding once again that she sell her restaurant. She raised her voice, asking who they thought they were to keep saying such things. One of them claimed it was their business and warned her against being uncooperative. Trying to deflect, she told them she had a customer and asked them to leave. They scoffed at the idea of a customer in such a shabby place. One of them turned to Yu-hyun, threatening him to leave if he didn't want trouble. Yu-hyun, unfazed, quietly admitted to himself that helping out here felt like a favor to someone he wasn't fond of. But he couldn't ignore her expression. He decided to step in. As one of the men prepared to punch him, the entire group suddenly found themselves crashing out of the shop and onto the street in a heap. Yu-hyun approached slowly. Startled, one of them yelled at him, reminding him that a collector wasn't allowed to touch civilians. Yu-hyun responded coldly, pointing out that he wasn't a collector. Dragging the group along, he remarked on how all of them parroted the same scripted lines, questioning if they had received the same macro instruction. In a nearby alley, he demanded they reveal the location of their office. One of them stammered, asking why he wanted to know, wondering if he regretted what he'd done. Yu-hyun clarified that he had no intention of apologizing. He just wanted to destroy the problem from its roots along with the rest of them. He glanced into the man's mind or memories and confirmed their office was at 72 Seolhwa Road. The thug asked who had sent him and what he planned to do. Yu-hyun explained plainly. He had no big plan. He'd go to their office, cause a scene, and tell everyone he found it easily thanks to them. Panicking, the man asked who would believe him. Yu-hyun reminded him that someone with experience like his should already know how this industry treated traitors. The man shouted in frustration, calling Yu-hyun crazy. Yu-hyun smirked, admitting he liked that word. As he walked away, Yu-hyun thought about the convenience of having the engraver title. With a soundproofing layer engraved here, not a single sound would leak out. That ability, gifted when he woke Baekryun, was proving quite useful. He returned to the shop, where Do-yoon's mother asked if he was all right. Yoo-hyun reassured her that he had handled them. As a teller, dealing with such people was simple. He added that they probably wouldn't return, so she didn't need to worry. Silently, he used his engrave ability on the shop. As he turned to leave, she thanked him again for everything. Yoo-hyun quietly took his leave, thinking to himself that it was now time to take care of his other work. Later, Yoon-hyun stormed into the enemy's office and beat the crap out of them. One of the men, furious, turned to Yoon-hyun and demanded how he had discovered their location. Calmly, Yoon-hyun revealed that their own subordinate outside had carelessly given it away. Enraged, the man lunged forward with a bat, attempting to strike Yoon-hyun. But Yoon-hyun evaded the attack with ease, leaping aside as the weapon crashed into the floor. A smirk appeared on Yoon-hyun's face as he identified his opponent. A collector. He quickly realized that if these people had the means to hire collectors, they were clearly backed by someone powerful. Recognizing the opportunity, Yoon-hyun declared that he had unexpectedly baited a big fish. The statement unsettled the others, and one of them barked at his comrades to kill him. Yoon-hyun responded with a fierce kick to the man's face. Another attacker rushed in with a knife, but Yoon-hyun calmly caught the blade with his fucking bare hands. The man was left dumbfounded, unable to comprehend how Yoon-hyun had managed it. Inwardly, Yoon-hyun mocked the man's expression, wondering if he had never seen a knight before. It has revealed why he can do this is because of his title Combat Knight. It enhances physical and defensive abilities. Yoon-hyun then gives the man a straight love from his fist, sending the man sprawling, stunning the rest. Standing firm, Yoon-hyun challenged all of them to come at him together. What followed was a brutal onslaught. Yoon-hyun tore through the group one by one, leaving each man injured and groaning on the floor. One of them was even slammed headfirst into the wall. Amid the chaos, a terrified man clutching a box of money. He asked who Yoon-hyun was and warned him about the consequences of a collector attacking civilians. But Yoon-hyun dismissed the warning. He reminded the man that people like them had no right to talk about consequences. Legally, they couldn't touch him. The man, growing more fearful, tried to speak but hesitated. Thoughts raced through his mind as he tried to make sense of the situation. He had heard of a powerful underground collector, a murderer disguised as one of their own. He couldn't tell who had sent Yoon-hyun, but he was sure the man had come for something important. Desperate, the man dropped to his knees and begged for his life, offering all the resources in exchange for mercy. Yoon-hyun found the misunderstanding amusing but decided to take advantage of it. He agreed, and the man immediately handed over the box. Looking through its contents, Yoon-hyun recognized the materials. As he expected, a criminal organization had been colluding with a clan. The documents revealed the involvement of the Hanwol clan, the very clan that had expelled Suryan. The other name shocked him even more, the Twilight Curtain clan. The mention of the Twilight Curtain caused him to pause. They typically worked with the Pentagram department. If they were involved, it meant the Pentagram department might be tangled in this web too. But what puzzled Yoon-hyun was why a clan like the Twilight Curtain would be involved in real estate. He recalled that collector-related businesses in this region were suspicious. The answer dawned on him. It could be a mind realm. A hidden realm, concealed even from the government. If a clan was deliberately keeping its location secret to monopolize it, things were far more serious than he thought. Turning to the man again, Yoon-hyun ordered him to open the safe as well. The man refused, clutching it tightly. His strong denial confirmed Yoon-hyun's suspicion. Something vital was inside. Realizing the man wouldn't budge, Yoon-hyun used the system window to make the safe disappear. The man looked on in horror, panicking at the sudden disappearance. Yoon-hyun pointed out how ironic it was. Every subordinate was beaten and bloodied, so it wouldn't be fair to let him off untouched. The man stared in confusion, trying to grasp his meaning. But before he could speak further, Yoon-hyun landed a heavy punch on his face. With the safe in hand, Yoon-hyun moved into the observer's room. Examining it, he noted that the safe had been carefully designed to resist all attempts to open it. It made sense. They had likely avoided digital systems to prevent hacking. Still, Yoon-hyun wasn't concerned. Using his engraver ability, he easily unlocked it. Inside, he found critical documents. What he uncovered was far more significant than he had imagined. He wondered how best to utilize such precious information. Elsewhere, the three men who had initially leaked the location now knelt before their furious boss, pleading for mercy. They insisted they had done nothing wrong, but their boss roared in rage, blaming them entirely. If they hadn't talked, that lunatic never would have found their office. As tension filled the room, the superintendent of the office arrived. The boss quickly shifted his tone, rising to greet the superintendent with a respectful welcome. The superintendent, a man of fearsome authority, stared coldly at his subordinates. He had already heard the news. Their secret operation had been compromised. Major information had been leaked, all because of one person. His voice was calm, but the weight behind it was deadly. One of the men, trembling, stammered a reply. It wasn't how it looked. Yes, the safe had been taken, but the intruder wouldn't be able to open it. They all knew what kind of safe it was. If someone tried to force it, the consequences would be severe. Without a word, the superintendent stepped forward and glanced at the three men standing nearby. His eyes scanned them, and he asked if these were the ones responsible for the failure. Their superior confirmed it without hesitation. The superintendent nodded slightly, then moved in an instant. With a swift, ruthless strike of his ability, he slit the throats of all three men in a single second. Blood splattered in every direction, painting the floor in crimson. Turning back, he said he would spare the others, just for today. They had been efficient until now, and that granted them a moment of mercy. The superior, stunned and grateful, thanked him profusely. But the superintendent wasn't finished. He asked whether only one person had infiltrated their operation. He needed to know what that person looked like. The superior tried to recall, confident at first, but suddenly confusion clouded his face. He couldn't remember. They had definitely spoken to him, yet the man's appearance escaped him completely. It became clear. The intruder had blocked recognition. The superintendent's expression tightened. If someone possessed that level of skill, he wasn't just some petty thief. He was a professional. And if someone of that caliber had taken the safe, he would certainly open it one way or another and learn what was inside. The superintendent gave the order to shut down every office in the neighborhood. No one was to speak of what happened today. If anyone dared to leak anything, they would face the wrath of his organization again. The subordinate, pale and shaking, confirmed the order immediately. Silently, the superintendent turned away. Inwardly, he seethed. Someone had dared to touch the twilight curtain without fear. For that, they would pay, no matter the cost. Elsewhere, Bakrion's eyes sparkled with excitement as she saw Celestial Body Inc. for the first time. She had heard about them countless times, but this was the first she had seen them in person. Her attention quickly shifted to the figures in armor nearby. She wondered who they were. Were they tellers, like Yoonhyun? Yoonhyun shook his head. Those armored figures were Guardian Office tellers, a very different kind. They were granted powerful Guardian armor, which gave them incredible strength to fight enemies. Bakrion was surprised. It sounded like a power suit. Yoonhyun explained further. The rank of a teller determined the strength of armor they received. At the level of department head, even a first-generation divine spirit couldn't ignore their power. However, this kind of equipment was limited in number. Just then, Yoonhyun froze. A chilling sensation crept over him. A gaze, sharp and oppressive, seemed to pierce right through him. He tensed slightly, uneased. Bakrion noticed and called out, reminding him they were going to be late for the promotion ceremony. Yoonhyun responded distractedly, still disturbed by what he had felt. Something was off. Was that gaze real, or was he imagining it? Far away, a strange old man watched from the shadows. He had sensed the boy, Kang Yoonhyun. It had been a long time since someone interesting had appeared. Those eyes that looked toward this place, the flames of desire that flickered in them. He smiled, intrigued. Just how much could this boy show them? The world was twisted and chaotic. But maybe, just maybe, this young teller could light it up with a story worth remembering. Yoonhyun glanced to the side, a shiver suddenly running down his spine. He muttered to himself, unsettled by the unexpected chill. Bakrion noticed his reaction and asked if he was feeling nervous. But Yoonhyun denied it, explaining that he had earlier sensed someone watching him. Bakrion confirmed it wasn't just a feeling. She too had felt a gaze coming from above, from the same direction where Yoonhyun had looked up before. Surprised, Yoonhyun processed her words. That gaze wasn't his imagination. The upper level was usually reserved for high-ranking individuals. If that was true, then the one watching could only be someone extraordinary. The possibility struck him. Perhaps it was one of the first tellers, maybe even Celestial Body Inc.'s CEO, Junwang Lutpiot. But the idea that Lutpiot would be looking at him was hard to grasp. After all, the first tellers were as powerful as the first-generation divine spirits. Still, Yoonhyun tried to stay positive. He reminded himself that he too was one of the tellers under the same company. There was no reason for hostility. With a calming breath, he decided it was best to ignore it for now. Just then, Bakrion called out to him, urging him to hurry. The promotion ceremony was about to begin. As the ceremony commenced, the audience was asked to applaud those being promoted. Among the crowd, a teller pointed out Yoonhyun by name, impressed. Another commented on his meteoric rise, noting that he had given up his blessing, yet still advanced to the role of senior associate at an incredible pace. On stage, Bakrion leaned toward Yoonhyun, telling him that everyone's eyes were on him. Yoonhyun agreed. He was getting promoted in a dramatic fashion, even the CEO was present. The attention he was receiving now would have been unimaginable for his former self, but he had no plans to stop. He intended to keep pushing forward, working even harder than before. Bakrion admitted the ceremony wasn't as grand as she had expected. Yoonhyun explained that all promotion ceremonies were like this. Wanting to avoid further attention, he suggested they leave quickly. Without waiting, he rushed off. Bakrion, caught off guard, called after him, wondering why he was suddenly in a hurry. Yoonhyun answered that if they didn't escape now, they would be bombarded with department transfer offers. They had to get out before it became overwhelming. Bakrion asked if he had a destination in mind. Yoonhyun confirmed he did. Soon after, they arrived at the record room. Bakrion glanced around, finding the room stuffy and cramped. Just then, an elder appeared before them. Recognizing Yun, the elder laughed warmly, saying it had been almost a month since they last met. Yun greeted him joyfully, asking how he had been. The elder replied that he was doing well and had already heard of Yun's promotion. The rumors had spread quickly, so quickly that it would have been strange for him not to know. He then mentioned the promise Yun had made in the past, assuming that must be the reason for his visit. Yun admitted that continuing to call him elder felt outdated. The elder finally revealed his name, Galiaz. Yun froze, stunned by the name. Galiaz, the guardian of the Dragon King. Noticing his reaction, Bakrion asked who the elder was. Yun explained, delving into a tale from the deep history of the mixed world. He spoke of the great divine force, Dragonikar Gi, a convergence of dragon divine spirits across all dragon species. Among them were the top 7, known as the Dragon Kings, beings born strong and only growing stronger with time. They were the most worthy of the title King. However, one among them had been weak from the beginning. Shururiel, the White Dragon King. Unlike the others, Shururiel was born physically and mentally frail. In a dragon society that revered strength, such weakness was viewed as a sin. He was shunned, even by his own kind. Yet, despite this scorn, Shururiel persevered. With the aid of a teller, a being dragons despised for never fighting and only narrating from the sidelines, he rose against all odds. This teller had made Shururiel the main character of his story. What shocked the world was that the main character actually ascended to the position of Dragon King. That impossible feat earned the teller the title Guardian of the Dragon King, and that teller's name was Galiaz. Back in the record room, Galiaz noted Yun's reaction and understood that he must have heard the legend. He downplayed it, saying it was a deed from the distant past, but Yun, still reeling, couldn't believe someone of such stature was working in an obscure place like this. Galiaz explained that it was his choice. Running endlessly without rest led only to madness. Yun joked about retiring someday and joining him in this quiet life. Galiaz asked if he was serious, but Yun laughed it off. He hadn't even considered retirement. With a smile, Galiaz admitted it was a foolish question. Yun was still in the middle of his climb, rushing forward without pause. He admired that drive. Yun, in turn, encouraged him too, believing even legends like Galiaz still had more to give. Age meant nothing. The true turning point came the moment one decided to act. That very instant when passion ignited within, Galiaz believed it to be the greatest moment of all. As if echoing his words, the system window blinked to life, announcing there were only 10 minutes left until the end of the promotion ceremony. Galiaz, calm and observant, glanced at the young prodigy beside him. He remarked how it seemed the boy had spent a little too long with a retired old man. It was time to return. Yun agreed and respectfully told Elder Galiaz that he would visit again. Galiaz responded with enthusiasm, already looking forward to their next conversation. As the conversation ended, Yun stepped out of the record room quietly. He peeked around to make sure the coast was clear and then whispered to Bakrion that it seemed all the tellers had left. The surroundings had fallen silent. Bakrion acknowledged the rare opportunity. She decided to seize the chance, head to the station, and return to Earth. Just as they began to move, a teller suddenly appeared before Yun, startled to see him emerging from the records room. Caught off guard, Yun admitted he had indeed come from there. Inwardly, he cursed his luck. So some tellers were still around, after all. Then, something unexpected caught his eye. A golden book. His gaze shifted. The presence of that book suggested the teller was no ordinary employee. She might even be a department head. The teller stared curiously at him and asked if he was on good terms with the old man. Yun nodded, explaining he had shared a few conversations with Galiaz. This surprised her. The teller noted his familiarity with Galiaz's name and quickly surmised that he wasn't just an average teller. She then recalled a rumor. Someone who had risen from regular worker to senior associate in just 1 month. Was he that rumored teller, Kang Yun? Yun confirmed it. That was indeed him. Impressed, the teller introduced herself as Celestina. She found him fascinating, not only for knowing the old man, but also for something even more daring. She asked whether the rumor was true, that he had given up his blessing and was now fighting with his collector. Yun admitted it was true. Celestina grinned and struck his forehead repeatedly in encouragement, cheering his passion. She declared that a teller should possess that kind of fire and drive. Too many young tellers repeated the same stories using the same tired methods. It was boring. Meeting someone like him was refreshing. She then surprised him with an offer. Would he like to come to their department? Yun, confused, asked which department she meant. He was from the storytelling office, after all. Celestina laughed and clarified. She was from the same office too, but more specifically, from the Celestial Being Department. At that, Yun froze. The Celestial Being Department, a name that carried weight and mystery. It was a unique division within the storytelling office, run by a handful of elites. They didn't casually recruit. Every teller there was among the most gifted in their class. In a place where departmental size often signified power, this department stood apart, small but unparalleled in talent. Yun hesitated. He had always believed that entry into that department was nearly impossible. He questioned whether it was really okay for her to offer him a spot so casually. But Celestina stood firm. She revealed herself as the department head. She didn't offer invitations lightly, only to those she deemed truly worthy. She pressed him once more. What did he think? Would he join her department? She promised to make it worth his while. Yoonhyun fell into thought, weighing the offer. Celestina noticed his pause and smirked. After turning down everyone else's offers so easily, now he was thinking it over? She leaned closer and declared, their department was brutally awesome. Yoonhyun considered the offer. The celestial being department was far less restrictive than the others. It aligned well with someone like him, someone who moved freely and followed his own rhythm. But even so, he had made a decision long ago. He politely declined. From the beginning, he had chosen not to belong anywhere and to walk his path alone. Celestina gave a hum of approval. She declared him a perfect pass. She now understood why he was close with the old man. His passion was rare among tellers these days. Yoonhyun, slightly taken aback, offered a quick thanks in response. Celestina then asked if offering again would make any difference. Yoonhyun confirmed it wouldn't. His decision wouldn't change. However, he clarified that this didn't mean they couldn't work together in the future. He proposed an alternative. He could act as a freelancer, a mercenary of sorts, and they could collaborate when the opportunity arose. Celestina raised an eyebrow at the boldness. If anyone else had made such a claim, she would have sent them flying. But coming from him, it sounded exciting. She admitted the idea had potential. Working together later was definitely possible. Building a relationship with someone like him wasn't a bad idea at all. Of course, she made it clear, this wasn't a one-sided deal. Any cooperation would require give and take. Yoonhyun agreed. He too disliked helping or receiving help without something in return. Pleased that they saw eye to eye, Celestina suggested they sit down and discuss further if the chance came, but for now, she had to go meet the old man. Yoonhyun nodded and bid her farewell. As she walked away, she suddenly remembered something. She warned him about the pentagram department. If he was storytelling on Earth, then those bastards were likely there too. And they wouldn't ignore a teller like him. Yoonhyun thanked her for the warning. Inwardly, he was already on high alert. His relationship with Pentagram was already hostile. But that was fine. He was planning to destroy them himself. With that final thought, the two of them parted ways, each heading down their own path. Well guys, that's the end of the video. Leave a like and subscribe if you don't want me to come to your house and do it for you. See you again next time.